After 2 decades of fighting extra-dimensional monsters and protecting the world, Liam is finally ready to retire and enjoy a quiet life. However, on the morning after his retirement party, he wakes up to find himself back in time, before he had even gained his powers. When Liam opened his eyes the next morning, he wasn't in his nice home. Instead, he found himself lying in the small children's dormitory room he had lived in 20 years ago. He panicked and grabbed the nearby phone, and when he saw the date on the screen, he froze. It read that the year was 2018. He threw the phone against the wall in frustration and screamed, "This has to be a joke." Liam can't understand why this is happening. Just yesterday, he began a comfortable life. Now he's back in the past, before the knee-destroying injury, before the monsters, before he became a hero. He screams in frustration, repeatedly asking himself what went wrong. But then something strange catches his eye. On his wrist is the rare watch his friend John Cho gave him as a gift. In a flashback, Liam remembers John Cho saying that the watch might be a relic from the legendary mage of the continent of Byron. Could the watch have something to do with this? Liam wonders. He remembers studying the watch before going to sleep the previous night. He thinks that maybe this is the reason he was brought back. At that moment, heavy knocks shake the door. An aggressive voice shouts from the other side, asking why there's so much noise. The voice belongs to the annoying son of the dormitory owner, known for throwing parties, loud karaoke and drinking parties every night. This guy acts like he owns the place. He even demands money from Liam before he can get out of bed. When the door opens, the dormitory owner's son looks annoyed and asks why it took so long. Liam smiles calmly as he sizes him up. The bully wears an expensive jacket made of monster leather. He complains about the noise, claiming it's affecting his mental health. Then, pretending to be generous, he offers to forget everything if Liam gives him money, especially the rare watch. But Liam isn't going to let that happen. He slaps the bully's hand away, then lands a hard slap across his face, causing his nose to bleed. Liam grabs his head and drives a knee into his face. The years of bullying flash through his mind. This is revenge, even if it's not enough. Liam spares him and says it's time to leave. In 2018, Liam remembers a key event, a construction site accident that injured his knee, causing him pain for the rest of his life. But now, his knee is fine. This second chance means everything. It's time to get serious. After controlling mana for 20 years, Liam feels confident about adjusting to this body. Still, his muscles are weak, and he hasn't been eating well. Hunger hits hard. Looking around, everything is still under construction. It's at this moment that it becomes clear why no one notices a smaller gate opening nearby. Monsters emerge, catching everyone by surprise and causing many deaths. Suddenly, a portal opens right in front of him. People scream and run in panic. A dog-like monster, splattered in red, bursts from the gate with sharp fangs ready to attack amidst the chaos. A little girl is surrounded by wolves, crying for her father. Liam runs to her, pulls her away, and shields her with his body. He tells her to run, while he faces the wolves. He grabs a nearby hammer and fights back. His first strike makes one wolf cry out. Another wolf attacks from the side, but Liam reacts quickly with a low blow to its jaw, knocking it away. Liam fights fiercely. Another blow sends a wolf flying several feet away, but the hunger returns, making things more difficult. Jokingly, he suggests that the wolves look delicious, remembering the taste of their flesh from his previous life. The wolves hesitate in fear. Although his younger body is weaker, he feels no pain in his knees. Allowing him to move quickly, he dodges an attack and delivers a powerful overhead kick, but the wolves keep coming. Lin realizes a single hammer won't be enough, so he uses the watch like brass knuckles and punches the wolf, but the wolf remains unscathed. It's at this moment he realizes just how incredibly strong the watch is. He looks around and sees about 10 wolves still remaining. Just in time, the police arrive and take control of the situation. Lin feels relieved. However, his jacket was torn during the fight, which bothers him. A man approaches to thank Lin for saving the girl and the others. He asks for Lin's name and workplace to send a reward. Lin replies that he has no job and hasn't registered as a superhuman, yet he just awakened a few hours ago. The man takes his phone number and thanks him. Lin leaves quickly, saying he has other things to do. The man calls out to him wanting to interview him, but Lin disappears. Everyone starts whispering about a new, awakened being, young and powerful. Later, Lin finally finds a place to eat and orders beef soup. The taste brings him joy. While he was eating, his phone rang. The news of his battle spread quickly in 2018. 2 years have passed since the first portal opened. Superhumans are replacing the police and military forces. Guilds are rising to power, and everyone wants to recruit the strongest fighters. Lin knows what's coming. He also knows that many future superhumans will become criminals, Plans to deal with monster appearances have not yet been formed. Worse, the 6 great disasters are already beginning to appear. With all this knowledge of the future, Lin makes a decision this time. He will use everything he knows to retire in just 3 years, but not just any retirement, a quiet and safe one. His second chance will not be wasted. Lin is sitting and enjoying himself as messages keep pouring in. He seems to like the melody. Despite the distractions, suddenly one man approaches him and asks if he is Lin. Lin confirms, and the man introduces himself as Kim Gilson, the manager of the dominant family guild. Kim watched the video of Lin defeating monsters and is impressed. He wants to meet him immediately and offer something. As long as Lin hasn't signed a contract yet. Just as Kim is about to speak, a woman enters the room. She asks if Lin is the same person from the monster fighting video. Now that she sees him in person, she finds him even more attractive. After her, someone from the Warriors Guild arrives. They mention that the interest in Lin is endless, and more people keep coming to where Lin is sitting. Everyone tries to recruit him for their own guild, and it almost turns into a fight. Lin tells everyone to be quiet. He warns that if they say another word, he won't join anyone, no matter how much money they offer. Lin asks if they should talk somewhere else. Afterward, they are transported to another location. Lin states that he won't take much of their time, and asks what kind of prize they can offer for signing a contract. Kim replies that the contract has clauses that cannot be disclosed. He also asks why. Lin doesn't take the time to listen to each offer one by one while eating cake. Lin asks if Kim is part of the dominant family guild. Kim proudly replies that the guild has a 1.5-year tradition, and wishes him a safe trip back home, and comments that he doesn't plan on signing with them. He asks why he would join a guild with such management, and predict that the guild will soon merge with another. Lin asks how long he should wait for the next offer. Suddenly, a child behind Lin shouts that their guild is offering 1 billion won for Lin. Other managers raise their offers, each trying to outbid the others. Lin calmly sips his tea and thinks about what the Black Dog Guild would offer. He reflects on the time he spent with them before he returned in time. Someone then offers 2 billion won, saying it comes with a high salary, benefits, and item mining tasks. It's the woman again, the manager of the White House Guild. The White House Guild was recently founded, but within 3 years, it will become one of the top 3 in Korea. Lin assumes this is the reason for her aggressive approach. He asks everyone except for Miss Beck to leave. He says they can leave their business cards in case they're needed. Now, alone with Beck, she explains that on her way to meet him, she watched the video of Lin's monster fight several times. She praises his skills and points out that until yesterday, he was an ordinary person. Lin is surprised by her elegant way of showing that she's done her homework on him. Beck believes that Lin is either a genius or someone with rare traits that give him an edge in battle. She mentions that the White House Guild wants to support his growth. Lin reads the contract and thinks about how in his past life, he never would have imagined receiving such an offer. He asks if he can add a few conditions. Beck watches intently as Lin writes on the contract. Suddenly, she is taken aback. She exclaims that Lin must be joking, but Lin insists he's serious. His added terms include a 4-day work week and a fixed end to the workday, and the right to refuse long-term assignments. Beck gets angry, thinking it's a joke, but Lin remains firm, saying that these are his terms. Beck pauses, then asks where he gets so much confidence. Lin assures her that they won't regret hiring him. Beck stands up and says she will review the terms and get back to him in a few days. She also asks if Lin prefers alcoholic drinks instead of coffee next time. Lin doesn't answer. He thinks it wouldn't be to his advantage to show emotion. Beck doesn't know that her father is the guildmaster. Lin gets up and decides to register as a superhuman. He arrives at the Korea Disaster Management Center. Lin goes to the Superhuman Support Service and announces that he wants to register. The girl at the counter explains that the person in charge is away and that she is new, so she might not be able to handle the situation alone. Lin mentions he's in a hurry and asks if she can do anything. She agrees to try contacting her boss. Lin is sure someone will help her, as he needs to get this done quickly. The girl calls her boss and explains that a young man wants to register. She asks if Lin has any special abilities. Lin replies that he uses physical strength but has no skills. This is a lie. No one currently believes in magic, so Lin knows they would only find out about his powers if he showed them, but in this life, he has decided not to. The girl states that they'll start with a strength test. They enter a room with a barbell, and she asks him to lift it. Lin grabs it with one hand and effortlessly lifts it above his head. The girl is stunned. The barbell weighs 200 kilograms. She comments that he truly is a superhuman and apologizes for doubting him. She hands him a temporary superhuman certificate and notes that they will contact him as soon as the official is available. Lin thanks her and wishes her a good day. Suddenly, the head of the Superhuman Support Center, Ju Sang-gu, arrives. Lin is horrified and wants to avoid him, Nothing good ever came from dealing with Ju Sanggu. Lin decides never to come back here again. Ju asks if this is a new superhuman. The girl confirms and notes that he's the same cutie she mentioned. Ju realizes who it is and calls him Supernova. Then the scene shifts to the pollution control area. This place was abandoned because of the monsters, but everything will change when the dimensional gate opens to the Gaia continent, a fantasy world of swords and magic. A gate will open to Earth within 1 year in Korea. Only one gate will open, and it will be right here in this area. Lin is happy and plans to buy the place. As soon as he receives his contract bonus, he believes this will make him rich. So he plans to settle things and go monster hunting. Suddenly, someone yells for the others to get out or die. Lin hears a girl's voice warning the intruders not to come any closer, recognizing the language of the Gaia people. Lin realizes something is wrong and runs toward the sound. He uses his concealment skill to blend in with the environment. This skill was used in the past for dangerous missions involving espionage and assassinations. Lin doesn't want to repeat that life. As he runs, Lin wonders if the girl is being chased. He needs to see what's going on. He finds a girl facing 3 adult men. She warns them again and tries to form a fireball, but fails. The men find it funny and comment that they would pay her for the show. Lin assumes she is a refugee from Gaia and was unlucky to run into these criminals. One man offers food in exchange for her surrender. Lin notices a tattoo on the man's arm. It's the mark of a criminal group, the Red Serpent. He then knows that they are human traffickers. With little mana remaining, Lin stops using his concealment. He sees no police nearby and decides to act. He pulls a knife, lunges forward, and strikes the first man in the back. Then, he quickly slits the throats of the other 2 with smooth, silent movements. The girl is shocked. He turns to her and asks if she's from the Gaia continent. She's surprised he speaks her language. Then her stomach rumbles. Lin asks if she likes meat. After a while, the girl thanks him for saving her and promises to repay the favor one day. Lin curiously asks how many servings she can eat. Fortunately, he bought enough pork earlier. But the girl doesn't understand what he means. Changing the subject, Lin wonders if she crossed the dimensional gate alone. She doesn't give him a proper answer. He then insists on knowing where she was before and where her home is. But the girl hesitates and refuses to reveal anything. Lin also tries to find out her age, but she remains silent about that as well. In the end, Lin gains nothing from their conversation. They sit facing each other, and the girl begs for his help. She confesses that she knows nothing about this place. She can't communicate with anyone, and barely has any energy left. She admits she can use fire, but has trouble controlling it. Lin replies that he's busy and not suited to looking after children, emphasizing that he needs a reason to take care of her. Nevertheless, he offers a deal. She can stay for 1 month. During that time, he will teach her the local language and provide her with basic knowledge. In return, she must help with daily chores and run errands. The girl responds excitedly, asking if she can really stay. Lin is already starting to worry. She introduces herself as Lily and says she hopes they get along. Her name sounds strangely familiar to Lin, although he can't remember from where. As he thinks it over, something clicks. Lily, who can use fire. He suddenly remembers the monster, who will burn half of his country in 10 years. She has flame-colored hair and the power to control fire. Her name is also Lily, and she comes from the Gaia continent. Known as the Fire Witch, she is one of the 6 catastrophes. Lin starts to put the pieces together. This girl is the spitting image of the Fire Witch. From what he remembers, the Fire Witch was kidnapped, as a child, by a criminal organization and trained to become a harbinger of destruction. Now he considers the possibility that he might have a chance to stop one of the 6 catastrophes. After a while, Lin and Lily are walking through the food market. Lin comments that he'll make a special dinner for her tonight. He approaches the counter and asks the vendor if they have any Predator F. After the first dimensional portal opened, a food crisis emerged, leading people to migrate to Montina. Now, the supply of Predator F exceeds the demand, as people don't yet understand its value, which lies in its rich mana content, something vital for future survival. Seeing Lily awakens sympathy in others, so they receive extra food. Lin then comments that he needs to buy clothes and instructs her to choose from the options. Lily excitedly points to a red and white outfit, but Lin ignores her choice, dressing her in a tracksuit instead. He says it's more suitable for wandering through the junkyard. They end up buying several identical tracksuits. Later, back at home, Lin remarks that he prepared Lindy's signature mana-infused dishes for dinner. Lily makes a face and asks if this is really what they're going to eat. Lin insists that healthy food often looks bland. Lily sniffs it and admits that it smells good. Lin takes out the gum he saved for later, but decides they can have it now. Lily grabs a chicken leg, takes a bite, and her face lights up with joy. She declares that it's delicious and insists that from now on, she only wants to eat chicken. Lin warns her to eat the rest, or he'll throw it in her soup as well. After tasting the soup, Lin admits it's surprisingly edible, though on the inside, he feels like he might die. He can't help but think that if he hadn't returned to this life, he'd be eating gourmet meals at a restaurant right now. The thought frustrates him. Lily complains that her tongue is numb, and Lin scolds her for talking that way. After they finish eating, Lin stands up, instructs her to wash the dishes, and sits down to read a book. He makes it clear he does not want to be disturbed. Lin then begins to meditate using the Great Sea of the Mind technique. This practice increases his magical power and improves his control. He had trained in it before his return, and now he notices his mana growing faster than expected. In the past, no matter how many calories he consumed, there were never such effects. He speculates that proper nutrition might be the missing factor. He feels his dantian expanding and realizes that by continuing to eat mana-rich foods and mastering this technique, he could surpass his former strength. Eventually, he decides it's time to stop, but his stomach rumbles. Lily hears it and playfully offers him more chicken. He turns with an embarrassed smile. They end up eating that awful-tasting soup again. Lily screams in protest, saying she hates it. 2 days pass, and Lin reflects on his rapid progress. With his current strength, he believes he's ready to hunt for treasures. Suddenly, his phone rings. It's Bak, who comments that she's a little disappointed he didn't call her first. She muses aloud, wondering if he truly cares about how she's doing. Lin, having nearly forgotten about the guild, tells her he has been busy. He then asks how the contract renegotiation is going. Bake goes silent, and Lin guesses that she's facing difficulties. She confirms this, explaining she was unable to persuade their leader. However, she adds that the boss will hire him if he proves he's capable. Lin wonders if they really intend to test him. Bake apologizes, saying she finds it ridiculous. She offers to find another solution if he'll wait a few days, but Lin immediately agrees to the test on one condition. Lin arrives with Lily at the White House Guild headquarters. When Bake asks who the child is, Lin claims that Lily is his half-sister, who recently returned from abroad and doesn't speak the local language well. He explains that due to unexpected circumstances, he'll need to bring her along for a while. Meanwhile, Lily is struck by Bake's beauty, and, speaking in her native tongue, asks who she is. Lin mentions, casually, that she's the woman who gives them money. Lily, equating money with chicken, concludes that Bake must be a very good person. Bake reassures Lin, saying that his guild doesn't interfere in its members' personal lives. They are soon greeted by the guild master of the White House, Chang-Su. He explains that they had planned to visit Lin first but were delayed due to business. Lin cheerfully responds, comparing their arrival to a field trip. Chang-Su then mentions the additional clause Lin proposed to double the contract if he passes the test and confirms that Lin is ready. Suddenly, a massive energy presence fills the area. Chang-Su questions if Lin is truly worth such an amount. Lin senses that Chang-Su, despite appearing untrained in martial arts or magic, emits an overwhelming amount of mana. Lin thinks to himself that a monster is a monster, no matter the disguise. Still, he refuses to be intimidated. He unleashes his own mana and forms a protective sphere around himself, stating that he will prove his worth. Chang-Su promptly instructs Beck to rewrite the contract. They decide to not just double, but triple the original offer and add a bonus clause. Lin will receive 20 billion won if he passes. Shocked, Lin remembers that he was initially offered only 2 billion. He comments that Chang-Su must be quite temperamental, and declares that he is ready to start the test immediately. They are transported to the White House's underground training ground. Chang-Su explains that the test will be considered passed if he defeats 3 guild members. As this is not a fight to the death, no one should go too far. Lin is then introduced to his first opponent, Won Jung-yuk. Despite his young age, he is a member of the First Guild Association. Bake wonders what weapon Lin will choose. Lin replies that his watch alone is enough. Jung-yuk gets irritated by Lin's arrogance, and thinks that Lin has just woken up and still dares to fight, using only this mere watch. However, the match is signaled to begin. Jung starts running at high speed around Lin. The hero can't understand the technique at first. He remembers reading about Jung in a magazine. His ability is speed. He becomes faster the longer he keeps moving, without stopping. Lin quickly realizes he needs to act before Jung becomes untouchable. As Jung circles him rapidly, the spectators begin to doubt Lin's chances. Bake watches with concern. Jung prepares to end it, swinging his sword. But Lin notices, understanding that the moment someone lets their guard down is the moment they can be defeated. Lin intercepts and takes Jung down, with a well-timed strike. Observing the result, Lin concludes that Jung's own speed worked against him. Lin celebrates his victory, while Bake and Chang-Su are stunned. Lin calmly turns and asks aloud who will be next. Changsu praises Lin for his impressive performance. Lin checks on Jung's condition, and Changsu reassures him, saying that Jung's life is not in danger as the medics will take care of him. After a few days of rest, he will recover. Changsu acknowledges Lin's ability to keep his power under control, but Lin wonders if he truly believes it. Meanwhile, Lin reflects on the consequences of losing control, knowing that if he hadn't controlled his strength, his opponent's head would have flown off. Lin realizes he has now secured 6 billion won, according to the contract, for having met the set requirements. He turns his attention to the two remaining opponents and suggests making the test more fun. Changsu notices Lin's smile and questions its meaning. Lin becomes serious, stating that a fighter must always be in control of the situation. The second training location is an artificial forest. Baek explains that the White House has 2 associations, each composed of 6 teams with 5 members. The next opponent is Yongdae Rum, the leader of the 6th team in the first association. As the main tank of the White House, he is known as the Bull. He expresses his anticipation for a good fight, while Lin recalls that the Bull is among those who emanate an instinct to kill him. When the fight begins, the bell rings, and Lin immediately advances on Yonder, attempting a strike to the face. Yonder successfully blocks the attack with his shield. He counterattacks with a sword strike that Lin narrowly dodges. Seizing the opening, Lin maneuvers behind him and executes Falcon's Claws. This makes Yonder wonder if Lin had trained in martial arts before his awakening. Yonder attempts another sword strike, but Lin dodges and counterattacks. He pushes him back with Iron Mountain. The force of the impact sends Yonder flying, though Lin notes that the Bull's resilience is formidable. Yonder acknowledges Lin's strength. Lin had initially intended to hide his abilities until he faced his final opponent, but Yonder's strategy is forcing him to reveal more. Yonder proposes that Lin join his team, believing they would work well together. Lin asks who gets to make that decision. Yonder declares that it's up to the winner. Chief Kang confirms the Bull's statement. This leads Lin to declare that if he defeats the Bull, he will become the team leader. He announces his plan to create his own independent team and recruit members on his own terms. The chief acknowledges Lin's proposal but imposes a strict condition. If Lin loses, he will receive only half of the signing bonus, and the duration of his contract will be doubled. Lin accepts the terms, and Yonder asks if Lin is sure about his ability to defeat him. Lin, in turn, questions the Bull's motives concerning Bak, suggesting that the Bull's aggression stems from personal interests. He challenges Yonder, stating that victory doesn't grant the right to be arrogant. Lin foresees Yonder's downfall, predicting that he will soon face humiliation and eventual expulsion from the guild. Yonder loses his composure. He activates Bull Mode, which enhances his physical attributes and combat abilities. He charges at Lin. Lin retaliates with the Great Sea of Mind technique, Lightning Fist. He advises the Bull to block the attack with his shield. Yonder follows his advice, but the force shatters his shield. Chief Kang and Baek watch in shock as the rookie manages to defeat the Bull. Exhausted, Lin sits on the floor, reflecting on how difficult it is to earn money. His body feels weak. He struggles to believe that a single lightning fist drained so much of his energy. He decides to recover using his mental technique, knowing he'll need all his strength. For the next fight, Baek approaches and congratulates him, officially naming him the leader of the 7th team. Lin smiles at the title. He thinks about how his victory just added another $1 billion to his income. He decides that now he can aim for all 20 opponents. When asked about his final challenger, the chief reveals that it is himself. Chief Kang admits he doubted Lin would defeat Commander Yonder. Chief Kang smiles, stating he has no choice but to face Lin in the final match. Lin feels uneasy about fighting such a formidable opponent. Unexpectedly, he declares that he is forfeiting. Chief Kang is shocked and questions Lin's decision. Trying to persuade him, Chief Kang offers $20 billion for just 5 minutes of combat, followed by $3 billion for every additional 3 minutes. However, Lin refuses. He states that he isn't able to continue. Baek intervenes, reminding the chief that it's time to finalize the contract. Lin proceeds to sign. As he signs, he notes that the conditions are remarkably favorable. Lin expresses hope for a successful collaboration. Baek asks about Lin's strategy for recruiting members, and he replies that he plans to do it gradually. When asked about signing contracts with others, Baek confirms that Lin has the authority, but he isn't sure who Lin intends to recruit. Lin suggests recruiting someone very talented but not affiliated with any guild, making Lily speculate that it could be her. Lin turns to Lily and asks her to create the largest flame she can. She complains that she's hungry, so Lian promises to buy her 3 chickens. Excited, she rushes to his side, reminding him of his promise, and then conjures a massive fireball above her. It's larger than her own body. Blake is deeply moved and wonders if Lian's younger sister is also superhuman. Lian confirms that she is, and declares his intention to recruit her as a member of his team. Lily's fire doesn't set anything around it ablaze. This demonstrates her perfect control over her ability, impressing Lian, as he had only trained her for a few days in his past life. Despite her having been considered a calamity for no reason, he then proposes to discuss the payment for Lily's contract. He prepares to open the negotiations at $3 billion. However, Lily interrupts. Focusing instead on the chicken, they grant her request, and she officially becomes a member of the 7th White House team, securing a $1.5 billion contract fee. The White House owns the building they're in, which houses various facilities, including training rooms. It also has lodgings and control rooms managed by countless permanent staff. As they walk, Blake asks if Lian is impressed with their advanced equipment. He replies that he isn't easily surprised, observing that the equipment looks outdated compared to what he's seen in the future. Eventually, they arrive at another location. Here, Lian admits he's impressed. Blake explains that the building houses an equipment development workshop. He assures Lian that any requests will be completed within a week. Lian comments that he has someone else to give orders to, but he'll still take a few items from the workshop. For the time being, he opts to use the available blades, deciding they will suffice. He then asks if the examination is over. Blake confirms that it is. Since it's Lian's first day on the job, Blake informs him that his duties are done for the day after a meeting with the chief. Suddenly, the chief rushes toward them, carrying an urgent message from the control room. All the other teams are currently out on missions. This leaves them in a tough spot. He apologizes for the timing but asks if Lian can take on a mission. Lian mulls it over, as he was hoping to get off work early today. He asks about the mission details, and before he knows it, Lian arrives at the heart of the crisis. A portal blazes 10 meters above the ground. It's releasing enormous slugs in overwhelming numbers. He spots several people trapped in green slime, unable to escape. Assessing the situation, Lian realizes that most of the monsters have already been contained. He wonders if his intervention is truly necessary, but is informed that they need samples. They need samples of the new monsters. His task is to collect at least 3 slugs, while preserving their original state as much as possible. He recognizes that these creatures will be avoided in the future. They're repulsive slugs that explode on impact, releasing a foul-smelling goo. Lily complains about the stench, telling him to block her sense of smell, using mana. He asks if she'd like to learn the technique, warning her that it probably won't work on the first try, but with practice, she could master it. To his astonishment, Lily suddenly exclaims that she's already done it. She can't smell anything anymore. Lian barely has time to explain before she masters the technique, reaffirming her extraordinary talent. Lian instructs Lily to stay put while he captures the slugs. He notices that Nico struggled to get a sample. A proper sample, that is. The creatures detonate at the slightest touch of mana, while attacks without it are ineffective. Determined, Lian begins his hunt. Spotting a slug in a tree, he gives it a swift kick, sending it flying. The slug tries to counterattack, but Lian employs and uses an open palm technique to spin the creature. The slug spins so rapidly that it loses consciousness. Lian secures the first sample, drawing looks of admiration. Lily enthusiastically asks Lin to teach her the technique, but he teases her, demanding a payment of 100 billion. She refuses, protesting that such an amount could buy an enormous number of chickens. Lin laughs before declaring the samples collected. He hands them over to the assembly team, marking the end of his mission for the day, and Beck expresses surprise. She states that Lin could leave if he wanted, but she still finds it significant since it's his very first mission. She asks if he's nervous or has any questions, but Lin reassures her, saying there's no reason for concern. The other members had already handled most of the problem before he even arrived. Just then, 3 men approach Lin, one of them dressed in red. He recognizes Lin as a new recruit, mentioning he'd heard the White House had recently hired someone. Noticing the strap on Lin's shoulder, he comments that Lin is a commander, and wonders if the White House was so short-staffed they had to put a rookie in charge. He then asks if Lin's technique was part of his ability. Jax from the Blackhound Guild steps forward. It turns out he was Lin's former boss. Lin dismisses Jax's small talk, telling him to get to the point. Jax complains about the snail's constant explosions, which made collecting samples impossible. Lin immediately asks if Jax really wants him to share his method, but he promptly refuses. This frustrates Jax, who questions Lin's audacity to speak to him so casually. The leader of the Warriors Guild's 3rd team steps between Jax and Lin, advising Jax to watch his tone. At the same time, the captain of the guild's 5th team, from the ruling family guild, approaches Lin, advising him to be more cooperative with his peers. He suggests that frequent encounters on the battlefield require mutual support. However, Beck emphatically warns Lin not to give in, promising to file a formal complaint with their boss. Lin has been through this countless times before. He knows that if he refuses, they'll just try to take the bag by force. So instead of arguing, he tosses the bag toward them. He tells them they can have it. They readily accept. But Lin steps forward and sits on the bag, challenging them to take it if they can. His unexpected response catches them off guard. The captain from the ruling family guild tries to negotiate, while Jax accuses Lin of mishandling the situation. Lin silently instructs Lily to set the entire area ablaze on his signal. She asks if she should burn them too, but Lin quickly clarifies that doing so would create unnecessary problems. He refuses to let her cause a catastrophe. Jax, growing frustrated, yells that he's going to teach Lin a lesson as his superior, but suddenly, the portal shifts, and a colossal slug begins to emerge. Panic spreads as people flee the scene, while the monstrous creature pulls itself completely out of the portal. A superhuman warns Lin not to interfere. Lin grabs Lily and the bags, heading for their car. Meanwhile, the others struggle to fight the slug. The creature captures them with its tentacles, and they scream that they need to sever the appendages first. Beck encourages Lin to attack, arguing that a single blow is all it would take for him to claim the rewards. He tells her not to worry, confidently stating that the others will never defeat it. And so, the heroes continue their desperate efforts to take down the monster. They shout about its dissolving mucus as Jax orders the tanks to fall back for now and prepare for a long-range assault. The team notes that this creature is far more dangerous than the smaller snails they faced earlier. Lily impatiently asks how much longer. They plan on just standing by and watching. Lin replies that they'll wait until everyone has evacuated. Meanwhile, a member of the Blackhound Guild, known as a total pushover, desperately tries to flee. His companions' weapons are corroded by the monster's mucus, forcing them to retreat. Afraid of its approach, Wong begs them to take him along, but they insist he use his skills to escape. The creature's tentacles have already captured Val, rendering him unable to fight. The monster prepares to consume Val, who screams for help. Lin watches the scene unfold, questioning if Wong's companions truly consider themselves his allies. Without hesitation, he slices the tentacle, gripping Val, and stands before the monster, protecting him. Lin then turns to Wong and says that's not how he should use his abilities. If Wong truly wants to understand the right way to fight, he'll have to find Lin after the battle. Lin signals for Lily to begin, and she immediately unleashes her flames. The other superhumans are astonished, struggling to comprehend the intensity of the flames. Beck urgently tells Lin to consider the others before acting recklessly, warning that the support team will arrive in 5 minutes. Beck suggests waiting to fight alongside them, but Lin argues that, since the reinforcements will arrive soon, he should claim all the loot for himself. Beck points out that the fire prevents the drones from getting close, so it must be repositioned. However, Beck ignores this and expresses concern for Lin's safety. Lin reassures him, promising to defeat the monster and return unharmed. This monster is extremely brutal, and Lin recalls an entry about it in the illustrated guide. He understands the importance of remembering successful strategies for emergencies. Fire is the monster's weakness, and after separating it from the group, Lin notices a visible slowdown in its movements. He advances and instructs Lily to cover him. He realizes the monster's tentacles are regenerating quickly, so he will need Lily's help during the fight. Lin moves around the creature, waiting for the right moment before signaling to Lily. She sets the monster's tentacles ablaze, and Lin praises the result, asking her to continue. As expected, the monster retracts into its shell to recover, after losing most of its appendages. According to the book, the creature even sealed the portal. Lily approaches Lin, asking how they will proceed now that the monster has sealed itself away. Lin states they will use the supplies from the car. He knows the monster's carapace is incredibly tough, so he must aim for the weak points. He takes a stake and forcefully drives it into the shell, striking repeatedly to weaken the structure. The other superhumans watch in confusion, unable to understand what Lin is trying to achieve. Meanwhile, Wong reflects on Lin's words about using his abilities differently. Val wonders if Lin's approach is really correct. Back to Lin. He continues hammering stakes into the shell, preparing for the final phase. With the stakes set, he aims for the center, and decides to use his most powerful attack. Using the Great Sea of Mind technique, Lin strikes with his lightning-fast fist. However, upon making contact, electricity courses through his body, giving him a shock. The current travels between the stakes, shattering the monster's shell. Lin falls to the ground, writhing in pain, his body too weak to perform normal movements. Lily rushes to his side, asking if he's okay. She questions if he was electrocuted, and Lin, still dazed, reminds her it was meant to help him. He assumes they've finally defeated the monster. Lily asks if she can remove the firewall, but Lin asks her to keep it active for a while longer. Since they worked so hard for this victory, they should take all the spoils for themselves. He notes that the monster's meat is incredibly tender and rich in nutrients, and they begin to store it in bags. Lily contemplates the idea of snail chicken, but Lin tells her the meat will serve as a perfect ingredient for a nutritious mana-recovering meal. After gathering enough resources, Lin concludes that his harvest is sufficient. At that moment he receives a message from the captain of the second team. Bang Wuryuk, who was informed of the hero's situation, announces that his team is on its way to assist Lin hurriedly. He tells them to wait and only enter once he removes the firewall, as there is still one important item left. Bang wonders if just the two of them can handle the slug, worried that Lin is overexerting himself on his first day. Meanwhile, Lin finishes collecting everything he needs. He instructs Lily to lower the flames. As the firewall disappears, the arriving team is stunned. One of them asks if the commander defeated the monster. Alone, Lin replies that he fought with everything he had and simply got lucky. Sok is skeptical, unable to understand how Lin accomplished what the rest of them couldn't. Lin asks if he can leave the cleanup to Commander Bang, who reassures him it won't be a problem. Bang tells Lin to go home, reminding him that if he gets seriously injured he should go to headquarters for treatment. Lin remembers the warning from Bake that if he got hurt, he would face the consequences, and so he decides to rest. Before worrying about anything else, time passes and night falls. Lily complains that she wants to sleep and eat. Lin praises her efforts and invites her to eat her fill, delighted. Lily marvels at the enormous amount of chicken in front of her, insisting that it feels like a dream. She enthusiastically mentions wanting to go snail hunting again. Lin takes a sip of his beer. He swears and comments that moments like this make life worthwhile. Lily observes that he lets loose every time he eats, and suddenly she repeats the swear word out loud. Shocking Lin, he quickly realizes the importance of watching what he says around children. He scolds her, explaining that it's a bad word and forbidding her from using it. Lily, confused, asks why he's allowed to say it. He firmly insists that she is not permitted to use such words. However, she continues to challenge him, asking why he says bad words whenever he eats chicken. Lin has been using the grand sight technique for a long time, but it continues to weaken him. He wonders what to expect after drinking last night. Recognizing that the technique works more as an emergency measure, he knows he shouldn't get drunk, but he still checks his phone to see how many calls he received in the morning when he picks it up. He notices several missed calls from his manager Bake. As soon as he calls back, Bake scolds him angrily. Lin, still exhausted, explains that his muscles are sore from working so hard the previous day, so he has been resting. Bake apologizes and asks if he's feeling better. Lin replies that he's still recovering and asks if there's anything she needs. Bake informs him that she plans to actively recruit people for his team and wants his opinion. Lin understands the need to assemble a team that includes sharpshooters for combat support, medics for care, and an operator to manage communications from the control room, and secretaries to handle schedules and paperwork, recognizing the impact these members would have on performance. He entrusts Bake with the task of selecting them according to her judgment, praising her ability to assess character. Laughing, she agrees. Remembering she was the one who hired him in the first place, she suggests calling him again after lunch, and Liam agrees. He then expresses his interest in recruiting a superhuman named Wang Guro from the Black Dog Guild, and asks Bake to contact him later. Lin calls Chief Yang, who grants him 3 days off from work. Lin protests, insisting that he's just a little tired, but Yang reveals that Bak has already explained everything to him. Yang says that Lin won't be able to join the mission until the full team is assembled. Considering this, Lin decides that taking a few days off is acceptable. Jung had advised him to rest and avoid excessive stress. When Jung later contacts Lin about his guild's future, he suggests that Lin join him in battle once he's recovered. However, Lin stops listening and instead asks Lily if she's hungry before telling his boss that he'll focus on resting. Lily enters excitedly, asking if they're going to eat chicken. Lin replies that he's prepared something even more delicious. Unlike the previous dish, this one is made with fresh, high-quality ingredients, with a smooth texture enriched with a snail's heart. He explains that it's a special and healthy paste called Mana Blue. He presents a bowl of snail meat soup, acknowledging that the color looks strange, but assuring her it's nutritious. Lily, having eaten a lot of chicken yesterday, says she's not hungry. Lin apologizes, then starts eating, savoring the rich flavor. His enthusiasm catches Lily's attention, and she starts to doubt her decision. Lin teases her, offering to eat her portion too, but she suddenly decides to try the dish for herself. She takes a bite and is immediately amazed, exclaiming that it's unbelievably good. Lin jokes, telling her not to be so dramatic, and reminding her that the world is full of delicious food. Lily, still in shock, declares that she no longer trusts Lin's judgment on food. He informs her that dinner will be fried pork belly. Curious, she asks what kind of pork belly he's talking about. Lin proudly states that it's more expensive than chicken. Amused, Lily comments that this kind of food makes life worth living. Lin wonders where she learned such dramatic expressions, then explains that, if she wants to keep enjoying delicious meals, she needs to balance her nutrition. He proposes they go treasure hunting together after the first gate opens. The surviving monsters establish territories among themselves, and the orcs formed a tribe within their domain. Within it lies a relic from another dimension. The heroes arrive near the orc territory, and Lin, observing through binoculars, spots the relic inside a stone statue. Previously, an expedition team had discovered and retrieved the relic, but this time, Lin plans to get there first. Analyzing the situation, he estimates the tribe consists of roughly 200 orcs. Although his body has recovered thanks to the core crystal, facing them all alone would be impossible. Lin decides to infiltrate, instructing Lily to light a fire on his signal. She asks what the signal is, and he explains that when the torch on the far side goes out, she must set the entrance ablaze. He warns her that if she can't see the signal, she is to forget the artifact. Using stealth, Lin moves forward cautiously with Lily following close behind. He's confident that no one in the tribe can detect them unless a more powerful enemy shows up. As he gets closer to the statue, he realizes 10 orcs are standing guard, and feels certain he can take them on alone. Drawing his knife, he suddenly spots the tribe's leader, a mutant orc. This orc had displayed monstrous strength during the previous expedition team's raid, making it a formidable opponent. Determined to stick to his plan, Lin throws a stone at the torch, knocking it down. Lily immediately recognizes this as the signal. As the orcs fall silent, the tribe leader quickly barks out orders, which Lin sees as an advantage. He prepares to destroy the statue, but is caught by surprise when an orc sneaks up from behind him, leaving him completely shocked. He realizes the creature sensed him by his scent. The mutant orc proves to be much stronger than expected, forcing Lin to retreat, running through the flames and past the orcs. Lin understands that the disguise is now useless and deactivates the technique. While escaping, Lily, noticing the situation, asks if he has been discovered. Lin shouts for her to run as well. After getting some distance, the heroes rest near some ruins. Lin observes that although they have not run far, exhaustion has already set in. Lily then recognizes the place and reveals that she passed through this cave when she entered the portal. She describes how strange individuals tried to capture her, which led her to flee. Lin deduces that she is referring to the Red Serpent people and suspects this cave is their hideout. Surprised that they would settle near an orc tribe, Lin praises Lily for her sharp observation. Recognizing the potential advantages of this discovery, Lin suggests entering the cave. Lily hesitates. Expressing reluctance, Lin instructs her to hide in the bushes and remains silent, telling her to contact him if anything happens. Alone, he enters the cave while activating his camouflage. Inside, he observes a heavily guarded area. Confirming that the Red Serpent is not a small organization, he wonders why they chose to establish themselves. Near the orcs moving deeper, he spots masked individuals engaged in an unknown activity. When he sees one of them handling a white powder, a shock overcomes him as he suspects it is serpent powder. Lin observes the illegal drug trade surrounding the serpent, a substance derived from otherworldly plants. Many have succumbed to addiction, losing their sanity, and ultimately, perishing despite years of investigation. The police have failed to dismantle the operation. Lin wonders how such a well-hidden facility went unnoticed for so long. Inside, the director orders the workers in lab coats to speed up production, warning that failure to meet the quota by tomorrow will lead to severe consequences. Lin analyzes the situation, noting that the Red Serpent Group has approximately 100 armed members and 30 drug manufacturers. He also estimates that about 50 kilograms of serpent are in stock, although he cannot determine its monetary value, only that it likely exceeds several trillion. The supervisor reports an increase in demand, creating a supply shortage. He mentions that another worker died yesterday, delaying production. He apologizes, explaining that they are selecting individuals who, even if they die, will not disrupt production. Lin feels revulsion for these people, considering them despicable creatures. Suddenly, the lights go out. Plunging the facility into chaos, the group members panic, shouting that they cannot see and demanding the lights be turned back on. Again, amidst the confusion, someone realizes the supply of serpent has vanished. Invisible Lin moves through the darkness carrying a box, although his concealment protects him from direct sight. Some members notice faint tracks leading outside as he emerges into the open. Lily asks if he is finished. Lin replies that this is just the beginning, warning that they will soon be pursued. He instructs her to get ready, emphasizing the need to escape. Lily smiles. commenting that it looks fun and then reaches for the box. Lin stops her, insisting it is dangerous and ordering her to stay. Moments later, members of the Red Serpent appear, spotting them. Lin comments that the hunters have arrived and urges Lily to hide. While he holds the box, the attackers shoot at him. He enjoys the chase, watching their inability to land a shot. Arriving at the orcs' hideout, Lin recognizes familiar faces. The tribe leader roars, leaving the members of the Red Serpent confused and alarmed. Lin instructs Lily to leave their hiding spot and throw the box forward with tremendous force. The gang members react with disbelief, questioning her sanity. As the orcs struggle to comprehend what has just appeared before them, one of the Red Serpent members suggests eliminating the monsters, retrieving the serpent, and then dealing with Lin. Realizing he now had the perfect opportunity to escape, Lin activates his camouflage once more. A battle erupts between the orcs and the gang. The Red Serpent members fire repeatedly, trying to keep the creatures at bay. However, among the orcs is a mutant immune to bullets. Recognizing its strength, the group decides to prioritize eliminating the gray-haired warrior. The mutant orc charges forward, quickly killing one of them. Lin and Lily watch from a safe distance. Lily asks when the chaos will end, noting that she is hungry. Lin advises patience, explaining that some situations require careful observation, assuring her that the conflict will soon be resolved. He considers initiating a cleanup. The mutant orc overpowers its opponents, killing everyone who stands in its way. Raising its weapon high, it lets out a triumphant roar, but then, something unexpected happens. After acknowledging the mutant orc's effectiveness in dispatching the criminals, Lin himself delivers a fatal blow to the chief. The tribe leader falls. Lin predicts that without leadership, the remaining orcs will soon fall into disarray. Without wasting any time, Lin moves to the statue, striking it forcefully with a hammer. Finally, he uncovers the Guardian's bracelet. It's an artifact that enhances healing and strengthens the wearer's condition by consuming mana. It also allows for a defensive spell that becomes even more potent when used as a pair. As the bracelet shrinks to fit Lin's wrist, his mana, which was recently spent, is replenished. Lily, curious, asks if it's a treasure. Lin confirms it is and gestures for her to come closer. He fastens the second bracelet onto her wrist, which leads her to ask why he's doing this. He explains that it has a protective spell, invisible to ordinary eyes. Blushing, Lily comments that they now have matching bracelets. Lin tells her to stop talking and just accept it, as long as she remains weak. The artifact will allow Lin to track her location in case of danger. He gathers his spoils, including the hide of the tribe leader, which will make for excellent armor. Lin suggests postponing dinner, as he must return to the cave. Lily questions the need for his return, but Lin promises to explain later. He instructs her to burn the village to the ground. She asks if they will go out to eat afterward. Lin avoids making a promise, but assures her there will be something delicious. Lily happily complies, setting the village ablaze and shouting that she expects a good meal. Lin watches in shock, momentarily wondering what would happen if she were left to starve. Back at the cave, the members of the Red Serpent fire at Lin, but the heroes remain protected. Lin demonstrates the bracelet's protective spell, explaining that once Lily masters it, she will be able to use it freely. Lily suggests using it offensively and promptly launches the shield at their enemies. Impressed, Lin acknowledges her talent. The last remaining gang member pleads for his life, offering to reveal everything about their operation. Lin, however, shows disinterest, focusing on the location of the safe. 1 hour later, the heroes emerge from the burning cave. Lin reflects that it was an ideal hidden facility. Besides getting money, he acquired valuable items. Satisfied with the destruction, he asked Lily if she was done blowing everything up. She notes that some members of the Red Serpent might escape. Lin reassures her, stating that they have nowhere left to run. Approximately 35 members of the Red Serpent and drug manufacturers remain. Lin decides not to kill them but refuses to grant them freedom, turning to one of the gang members. He mockingly refers to him as Shiro Tayok, a Shiro Tayok, and orders him to follow. The man protests, asking why he was given such a name, and Lin hits him for talking too much, declaring that the Red Serpent member resembles a Shiro Tayok, which is a Japanese rice ball. He instructs Lily to take the prisoner to the tent and orders the others to surrender. At the security post, they protest, questioning if he will really release them. Lin silences them, reminding them that their actions are illegal and threatening to beat them if they don't understand the gravity of their crimes. In the end, the members of the Red Serpent agree to surrender voluntarily. The guards express disbelief at the number of people found in the restricted area and the discovery of the Serpent production facility. Lin anticipates that the gang members will be handed over to the police and suspects they will try to frame him along with Lily. He hopes their testimony won't be taken seriously. Lin considers establishing connections with the Titan Kim Suru, recognizing the importance of alliances in this life. Reflecting on Lily's performance, he decides she deserves a delicious and well-earned meal. Lily arrives at the tent with Suryo and immediately hits the ground, shouting that she's hungry. Confused, Suryo doesn't understand her complaint as she repeatedly asks for food. After a while, Lily pouts, disappointed because Lin had promised a meal as tasty as chicken, only for it to smell unpleasant and look messy. Lin hands something to Suryo, who quickly understands and takes charge. He prepares 2 pork bellies cooked to perfection, fried garlic, and seasonal green olives, all wrapped in a crispy lettuce leaf with a sesame seed dressing, to be eaten in one bite. Lily tastes it and is instantly enchanted, declaring the food is incredibly delicious. Lin notices her excitement and reminds her to chew, well before speaking. Lily realizes that the more she chews, the better it tastes. 4 days pass, and Lin begins to prepare for more demanding tasks. Meanwhile, he buys the land next to his tent with the money he received from the guild. The seller, noticing the low price, asks if Lin is sure he wants to buy it for 10,000 po. Lin replies that future events are unpredictable and it's wise to be prepared. Suryo, whom Lin brought along for his skills, begins to build a log house. He commits to handling the construction, cooking, cleaning, and other responsibilities for the next 3 years, explaining that Lin gave him a chance to start over. Determined to live honestly, he promises to work hard. Lin confirms this plan, instructing him to remain diligent. Lily, impressed, expresses admiration for Suryo's culinary skills. To ensure Suryo doesn't escape, Lin disables his martial arts capabilities by hitting his pressure points. Unable to reverse the effect, Suryo remains under Lin's control. Lin intends to use him as labor for 3 years, eventually granting him some money and allowing him to leave. At the headquarters of the White House Guild, Beck informs Lin that she will temporarily be assisting the 7th team. Since Lin is new, she insists he needs an experienced guide. Lin questions if she really plans to replace herself later, but Beck assures him she does, citing her busy schedule. She informs Lin that his official task begins tomorrow, and for now, he must familiarize himself with the provided documents. While reviewing the files, Lin notices that his contract includes a clause that prevents him from taking on time-consuming tasks. Beck explains that the mission request to destroy the gate came from the government. 4 guilds are participating, and the government estimates that the cleanup will take 3 days. The 7th team is the only one assigned to this schedule. However, Lin knows not to trust official estimates. Monster gates are divided into 2 categories. Some, close, automatically after the monsters emerge, making them relatively manageable. Others, labeled as Type B, remain open indefinitely. In these cases, someone must enter, eliminate the monsters, and destroy the core to close the gate. Recognizing the location, Lin realizes it is one of the most notorious gates, the Labyrinth of Fallen Spirits. Before he returned in time, he often mentioned its infamy as an instructor. If he had participated in that mission back then, he would have died. Beck mentions a recent conflict with another guild and asks if Lin wants her to reassign the mission. Refusing, Lin states that the 7th team will handle it. Beck advises him to remain calm and composed no matter what happens. Lin assures her that he understands. He then sarcastically questions if she expects him to throw a tantrum. She suggests, jokingly, that it is possible. While Lin rides in a car, he considers the need for a strong tank to breach the gate. Wang Ho's recruitment was delayed due to a contract termination fee, which means Lin must go after him personally. When the car arrives at its destination, the driver gets out and bows, asking Lin to take care. Lin dismisses the gesture, stating that it will not be necessary in the future, but expresses gratitude for the ride. The driver smiles in understanding. Beck comments that Lin seems quite nice at the moment. Although Lin finds it uncomfortable to be surrounded by honest and kind people, he prefers the company of individuals who are aggressive and ruthless, like the members of the Black Hound Guild he once worked with. Arriving at the meeting point, Lin and his team are greeted by Kim Hyun-tae of the Black Hound Guild. Beside him are Wang Ho and team captain Jung So-kyun. Lin exchanges pleasantries and shakes hands with Kim, who mentions he has heard a lot about him. At the negotiation table, Kim questions if they are really interested in taking Wang Ho. He acknowledges Wang Ho's value as an employee, but being the guildmaster's younger cousin and in charge of shady affairs, Lin anticipates excessive demands for the contract cancellation. Beck states that they understand the guild's position. As she prepares to discuss the $5 billion termination fee, he interrupts, correcting, to her. Wang Ho renewed his contract that morning. increasing the termination cost to $10 billion. Baek is visibly shocked. Kim nonchalantly declares that if they pay the amount, Wang Ho will be theirs. Lin recognizes Kim's deliberate provocation, likely reinforced by secret recordings. Getting up from the table, Lin tells Baek they are leaving. He realizes that she, as the daughter of the union chief, has been manipulated. Kim feigns disappointment, noting Wang Ho's apparent lack of enthusiasm to leave. He sarcastically advises them to reconsider and taunts them about the expired cake. Enraged, Lin suddenly punches Kim in the face. Knives appear as reinforcements arrive, but Lin warns them to reconsider their actions. He challenges their confidence, questioning if they truly believe they can defeat Young-suk. Lin demands the guild leader's presence. He realizes that, since they were so eager to provoke him, he might as well escalate the situation. Baek protests his aggressive approach, although her expression betrays her satisfaction. Liam wonders if he's imagining her delight. Watching nearby, Lily asks why Liam attacked the ones who gave her cake. Liam reassures her. He tells her not to worry and instructs her to avoid eating food from strangers in the future. He decides he'll take care of all her meals from now on, despite their claims about the cake's expiration date. Lily remains unharmed, making their lie meaningless. Liam then approaches Angus, telling him they'll talk later. He successfully intimidates him. Suddenly, a powerful presence fills the room. Liam deduces that the guild master, the Demon King, Jin Tae-jin, one of the first awakened beings, has arrived. Baek nervously asks if he was summoned. The guild master demands an explanation. He feigns ignorance, despite having watched everything on the cameras. Liam confirms that he was the one who made the call. He declares his intention to clear things up. However, before he does, he asks everyone else to leave the room. Jin comments on Liam's loyalty, remarking that it's admirable for someone willing to take full responsibility. Liam instructs Lily to go back to headquarters. Lily playfully asks if she can burn the place down. Shocked, Liam warns her not to act so recklessly. He threatens to withhold her fried chicken if she plays with fire without his permission. Once they are alone, Liam questions Jin's intentions. Jin acknowledges Liam's intelligence and asks him directly if he would like to work for him. Surprised, Liam asks for clarification, wondering if Jin is proposing he switch sides, knowing the contract termination fee would be astronomical. Jin denies asking Liam to leave his current guild. Instead, he suggests that Liam remain at the White House while occasionally passing information, essentially offering him a deal to be a spy. Liam listens as Jin promises generous compensation and invites him to review the contract for himself. Liam asks about the consequences of refusing. Jin calmly warns that Liam will pay dearly for his actions today, and if pushed too far, he might lose one arm or even two. Meanwhile, outside the guild hall, Chan-Su screams for Jin to let Liam go. Chan-Su is armed. He threatens to break down the door in 10 seconds if Jin doesn't comply. As he starts the countdown, Liam casually appears behind him, asking what all the fuss is about. Surprised, Chan-Su reveals that Baek claimed Liam had been kidnapped. Liam assures him that he simply apologized to the guild, and that they accepted it. Liam comments that his sincerity must have been very persuasive. Back inside, Jin had threatened Liam to either accept his offer or face dire consequences. But before that, Liam had informed Jin that a little bird told him about Jin's close relationship with his sister-in-law. Jin flew into a rage, demanding to know how Liam knew about that. Liam replied that if Jin wanted to keep it a secret, he would have to consider some of Liam's conditions. First, Liam demands that Angus be released from his contract without paying the termination fee. He also presents a figure for his silence, written on a piece of paper he hands to Jin. Before Liam traveled back in time, Jin had an affair with his younger brother's wife. The affair lasted for decades. Eventually, they were caught, and both the younger brother and his wife tragically took their own lives. Devastated by these events, Jin left the service. Liam is confident that Jin will do whatever it takes to keep this information buried. Chan-Su remarks that Jin is as cunning as a snake and won't let them off the hook so easily. Baek agrees with Chan-Su, stating that he should just be grateful that nothing bad happened. Meanwhile, Liam notices that Lily is quieter than usual. He gently pats her head and asks if she's all right. He reassures her that not every problem needs to be solved right away. Lily, however, simply says that she's hungry. Baek observes them. He remarks that the atmosphere isn't ideal, suggesting Lily might be in shock. Liam then asks Lily if she would mind having chicken for dinner. He realizes that if the guild was their only priority, they wouldn't have come to rescue him. He also concludes that joining the White House was a very smart decision. A while later, Warren and Liam meet. Warren apologizes for what happened the day before, explaining that his boss begged him to renew the contract. Liam interrupts and suggests they sit down. He reassures Warren that everything was resolved yesterday, and declares that from today on, Warren is the team's tank. Liam orders Warren to call him commander. Liam knows that Warren grew up in an orphanage and is introverted and cold towards people, which led to his mistreatment at the Black Dog Guild. In the past, Warren died when the first disaster occurred. Intrigued, Warren now asks why a serious commander like Liam would choose a talentless tank like him. Liam simply replies that he needs him. Warren starts to talk about his specialty, but Liam interrupts and orders him to stop. Gilmin, known as the Moving Fortress, will become a supernatural hero respected by everyone in 10 years. He is a petrification expert, just like Warren. Liam remembers seeing the rock pieces Gilman created when he was still a child. Observing Warren's body in person, Liam is sure that Warren's petrification ability surpasses Gilman's. Liam predicts that in half a year, Warren will become the best tank in Seoul. Warren is shocked, claiming that this can't be happening. Liam reminds him that since he considers himself talentless, Liam is now giving him talent, an idea that Warren denies. Warren is deeply moved by this. Suddenly, Kalpoa arrives and announces that Liam's order has been fulfilled. The hero states that it's right on time and orders it brought in. The dish consists of a soup made from part of a monster and its inner core. Liam states that everyone must eat 3 plates, as they need to prepare for the 4-day journey into the labyrinth of fallen spirits. 2 days later, at the site of a monster hunting mission, Liam is fighting a monster that resembles a white lion. He yells for Warren, reminding him that as the team's tank, he shouldn't be afraid. Liam orders Warren to get as close as possible to the monster and immobilize it. For 2 days, Warren has consumed 3 bowls of monster soup along with 5 training sessions per day for his petrification enhancement training. He's not ready yet, but Warren grabs and immobilizes the monster. However, the effort causes him immense pain. Liam asks Warren to hold on for 1 more minute, promising that if he fails, he'll have to eat 6 plates of monster soup. Warren, determined not to consume any more of the soup, struggles to complete the task. Petrification skills strengthen the more they are broken. So, Liam decides that Warren must be pushed beyond his limits. Turning to Lily, Liam tells her it's her turn. Lily refuses. She complains that she has been eating disgusting food every day. Liam reassures her, saying there will be chicken for dinner that night. Motivated, Lily aggressively orders Warren to get out of the way, fearing he'll get hurt. Using her fire abilities, she quickly defeats the monster. Awestruck, Warren watches Lily and admires her strength. Liam asks Lily why she called him the tank, and she replies that Liam was the first one to call him that. So, Liam turns to the dispatcher, requesting updates on other monsters. He is aware that 8 white tigers emerged from the gate 20 minutes ago. This means they must find another one to get a sample. Barcia informs him that only 1 target is moving, at their 7 o'clock position. She notes that the Warriors Guild is closer to the target than they are. Liam asks about the distance difference, and Barcia explains that the heroes are 2 kilometers away, while the Warriors Guild is only 1 kilometer away. Determined, Liam states that he will run ahead and instructs the others to follow at their own pace. He assigns Lily to look after Reg. Liam runs after the monster at an incredible speed. His training and mana-rich diet have improved his abilities, even if they haven't yet reached his previous level. As he passes a guild member, he loudly declares that the white tiger is his. The guild member is shocked. The Warriors Guild had already prepared their magic spells, and is rushing to attack the white tiger, which is problematic because the first to strike will claim the loot. Lin quickly executes the body technique, Crescent Moon Shadow. He leaps over the monster, delivering a decisive blow that fells it instantly. The Warriors Guild is stunned, unable to believe what they just witnessed. Lin reports to the dispatcher that the hunt is over, leaving her astonished. Since the map indicates the hero has just arrived, Lin dismisses her concern and asks if there are other targets nearby. She replies that another monster is located to the south. Meanwhile, the heroes have already defeated that monster. Lily asks if he cooked it right this time and if they'll be having chicken for dinner. Lin assures her that a sample can be collected from the monster. The dispatcher informs them that the monsters are gone, the gate is destroyed, and the situation is stable. Lin confirms they are finishing up. As the hunt ends, a medic with long blue hair approaches Lin and asks if they need his assistance. Lin replies, everything is fine, Lily just needs to wash her hands. This guy is Ian Cheon, the leader of an on-site medical support team. Another young man tells Lin their hunt video turned out great. He is the leader of the field filming support team, Liam Cheon. Lin looks at the video and is impressed. The scene looks like something out of a movie. Meanwhile, Leo Cheon asks Lin to move his arms, as he is responsible for dismantling the equipment. Beck hired the 3 Cheon brothers for Team 7's field support. Lin knows these guys will soon make a big name for themselves in their respective fields. He wonders how Beck hired such a great team. He apologizes to the brothers for not remembering their names and assures them they will have plenty of rest and bonuses for future hunts, and asks them to take care of his team. The brothers are happy to hear these generous words, and Liam makes sure to have recorded this moment. A short time later, Lin's driver tells Lin that he is very popular with the team. Lin calmly replies that he is just observant of people's feelings in this field, because in his past life, he also had to follow someone's orders without question. Later, he grew tired of it and left the guild, so he doesn't want his team members to feel the same way. At the White House Guild headquarters, Beck comments that Lin has a remarkable ability to communicate for someone who is only 20 years old. She jokes, asking if Lin is living a second life, but he ignores the comment, asking them to focus on business. Beck presents a list of necessary items and informs him that the special equipment Lin ordered will be ready in 2 days. Satisfied, Lin praises Beck for her efficiency. While browsing the list, he comes across a potential candidate for the team. Beck explains that finding information about this person was difficult since they only had a name. However, she managed to locate an online video showcasing items made by the candidate. Lin confirms his interest, Young Shin-jung, the only superhuman in Korea, specializing in craftsmanship. He asks where the candidate is. Lily reminds Lin not to forget 4 servings of boneless chicken and a large order of fries. Lin promises to keep his word, but only if she gets everything exactly as he taught her. They enter a barbershop, and Lin comments that they have a lot of toys. The woman behind the counter says her son likes to make different things. Meanwhile, Lily sits on the sofa, visibly bored. Lin asks her to sit still. Suddenly, Lily sees something she likes among the items on display. Lin quickly shouts at her not to touch anything, afraid she might break something, but Lily picks up a toy and says it looks like the chicken she loves. The woman says her son made it and offers it to Lily if she likes it. Lin apologizes, saying his little cousin is a real troublemaker. The woman laughs and reassures him, saying it's no big deal, they have plenty of toys. Lin then asks how old her son is. She says her son, Aiden Jang, has 13-year-old savant syndrome, a rare condition in which individuals with developmental disabilities possess exceptional skills in specific areas. Because of this, his social skills are very low, and he doesn't like to talk to people. Leo immediately understands that. Unlike other superhumans, he must approach Aiden in a gentle and natural way. The first step is to visit the barbershop more often. The woman adds that even now Aiden is probably creating something in the warehouse. Leo hopes they aren't distracting him with their conversation, but the woman assures him that Aiden is so focused that he rarely notices anything around him. Even so, Leo realizes they aren't whispering. If Aiden is a superhuman, he might be hearing everything. Leo wonders if now is the right time to test this theory. Suddenly, Aiden comes out and asks his mother if everything is okay. She is surprised he has never come out on his own like this before. Leo realizes that Aiden must have sensed her presence, confirming that he is a superhuman. Recognizing her cue, Lily springs into action. She runs up to Aiden, showing him the toy chicken and asking if he made it. She says it is incredibly cute and asks how he did it. Aiden, a little confused, says it's nothing special. Lily, despite her broken Korean, praises the toy, calling it incredible. Leo observes that her craving for chicken seems to be helping their plan. Aiden tells her he can make many things and asks if she would like to see more. Lily agrees enthusiastically. Aiden's mother is astonished. He has never spoken so freely before. Leo feels strange but realizes that Aiden might have started to like Lily. The hero decides it's all right. After all, they managed to bring in a valuable ally, someone capable of creating equipment for superhumans that's worth hundreds of billions. The next day, Aiden officially joins the guild and begins developing battle uniforms. After a few days, Leo admits that the Uruk chief's leather works well for the uniforms. He asks Lily how she likes her new outfit. She says it's comfortable and cool, and that it even has chicken and pizza designs on it. Wade asks about his own uniform, but Leo says he doesn't need one yet. Leo did everything he could in a short time. Beck reports that the support team is fully prepared. She said it's time to go. Smiling, she asks Leo if he got a new hairstyle. It must be hard to maintain. Leo realizes she must be the reason why the barbershop has no customers. Next, they arrive at the gate, and Beck is furious, yelling at a man who let another guild enter before them. He claims the line was changed and that the heroes would have arrived late. Beck demands to know who told him that. Apparently, 4 guilds are participating in a joint task. Leo calmly says that none of this changes the mission. The heroes will proceed as planned. Beck says that even if they go in now, there's probably nothing left. She apologizes for not being better prepared. Leo reassures her, saying it's possible they'll find something better inside. Leo comments that the other guilds have already cleared the place. 2 hours after entering the labyrinth of fallen spirits, the team is still navigating. The twins are also in the vehicle. Leo was supposed to take them, but they missed their chance. Originally, the labyrinth's difficulty was rated as B, but after several failed attempts to close the dungeon, its threat level increased dramatically. Suddenly, Leo becomes alert. He tells everyone to stop and get out of the car. He senses something nearby. He tells Wade to stay and watch the vehicles. The labyrinth of fallen spirits is notorious. It turns people into zombies. The twins see something that terrifies them. They can't understand what it is. Lin inspects the figures and notices their tattered clothes. He suspects they are members of the Red Shark Guild. They've likely been infected by zombies. Their sharp fangs are strong enough to tear through battle armor. Lin deduces that these Red Shark members must have been bitten when they let their guard down. It's fortunate there aren't many of them. He asks Wong to demonstrate his training. Wong hesitates, frightened. Lin warns him that even a scratch from the infected could spread the virus, pushing him forward. Lin tells Wong not to be a coward. Wong steadies himself and begins to fight. Lin notices that Wong's petrification technique is more stable than it was during training. Lin reminds him not to kill the infected. Surrounded, Wong asks what to do. Lin tells him to figure it out. Wong begins to attack the infected with his petrified hands. After landing a solid blow, he shouts with joy. Lily, still bored, asks why she can't just burn them all. Lin explains that these people aren't just civilians, but also members of another guild, so destroying them isn't an option. Lin checks on the support team. One of the twins says he's recording everything. Lin confirms they will use the footage to demand compensation. The other twin says he has finished preparing the repellent suits. Another man brings an antidote that Lin had previously entrusted to him. Lin says the antidote is crucial in this type of dungeon. He begins to analyze the situation. The Red Shark support members must have been superhumans. Their movements confirm this. Lin starts to knock out the infected one by one, using just a single blow to the neck. With all the infected neutralized, Lin says they did well. He tells Wong to lay the infected out in a row. Among the items Lin prepared for this dungeon, the anti-zombie venom antidote is essential. After being bitten, a person has 10 minutes before symptoms appear. After 30 minutes, they become mindless warriors, serving the zombie hive. He calculates that more than 30 minutes have passed since these people were bitten, so even with the antidote, their minds will remain unstable for a while. Lin asks everyone to step back. He says he needs to concentrate. Then, he approaches the infected and says, calmly, that he saved them, so they should help him in return. Lin is experienced and understands that those with talent can focus and improve. But as survival rates increase, people like Lin must develop multiple skills. That's why Lin traveled through various dimensions in his past life. The Gaia Murim continent, the underworld, and the Byron continent. He survives thanks to the magic and martial arts he learns during these journeys. One of the techniques Lin learns along the way allows him to control animals with low intelligence. Now, facing the infected, Lin tells them they will fight by his side. Surprisingly, they seem enthusiastic about the idea. As they all agree, Lin instructs them to start hunting the zombie bees, and to follow his orders carefully. Later, Wong appears wearing an insect control suit. Visibly exhausted, he reports that he has captured the queen bee, but they are surrounded by many others. Lin orders Lily to burn everything, and then offers her food. Unable to resist the promise of a meal, Lily happily obeys. One of the twins comments that he didn't expect members of the Red Shark Guild to actively support them, and asks if their commander did something unusual to convince them. Lin denies it, saying they simply offered help in return. He announces that the insect control suits are ready, so they can move forward. Suddenly, he orders everyone to stop. Sensing someone approaching, a group of superhumans appears. Lily recognizes them as the ones she saw with the snails. She is already controlling them now. Lin says that he hopes they'll be grateful and willing to make peace. The situation seems to be unfolding more smoothly than expected. On the fourth day in the dungeon, one of the twins reports that monsters have invaded the supply storage and devoured the rations. Lin inspects the scene and concludes that, based on the tracks, the creatures must still be nearby. He gives an order to Lily, using a special whistle. Lily gathers all the creatures they saved to fight against the monsters. Lin is relieved to see her enjoying the act of commanding reptiles. The floor is now covered with the bodies of poisoned, red-stained mice. Lin feels confident. They've prepared for all kinds of scenarios, and everything seems to be going well. However, he knows he must not let his guard down. The boss-level monsters are still lurking. Suddenly, something starts flying through the cave. It's a demonic mirror, a mid-boss. Lin immediately warns everyone and orders them to prepare for battle. All vehicles are abandoned. Lin orders Wong to advance, noting that the Red Shark warriors, now mentally controlled, are immune to the bat's illusions. This monster creates hallucinations for anyone who looks into its mirror, turning them into followers. Lin warns his teammates to be extremely careful, and shouts for Wong not to look in the mirror. but the terrified Wong turns around and admits that he's scared. Lin and Lily harshly reprimand him. Lin tells Lily to create a fire shield to block the bat's path, and orders everyone to fall back at least 2 kilometers. He says he'll gather information and regroup with them later. Lin whistles, and his subordinates disperse. Lily asks if she should just burn everything, but Lin tells her to lower the flames for now. Using a concealment spell, Lin disappears. Now alone, he searches for the bat. Suddenly, he spots it. He throws a knife but misses. He quickly realizes that the bat's erratic flight pattern makes it difficult to predict. He decides to observe from a distance. Eventually, Lin returns. The twins are relieved and ask if he's injured. Lin reassures them, and quickly begins to explain the next steps. There is no time to waste. The bat continues circling the dungeon while Lin orders the support team to retreat. They confirm their withdrawal and report that the fortifications are in place. Lin praises their progress and instructs his team to prepare for battle. The bat, meanwhile, releases its minions, which begin to attack the team. Lin springs into action, trying to hit the bat, but it evades him. He calls for Lily, who tries to incinerate the bat with fire. However, the creature skillfully dodges every attack. The bat mocks the heroes and lowers its guard for a moment. Lin seizes the opportunity. He creates a shield around the bat, leaps forward, and, with Lily placing a platform of fire below him, delivers a powerful kick. His attack severs the bat's head. He declares that he'll be taking the mirror. Then, the heroes arrive at a mysterious gate. Lin announces that they've reached the end, but warns them not to lower their guard yet. Lily asks how long the coward Wong will remain petrified. Lin replies that he plans to leave him that way until they defeat the final boss. Otherwise, Ong might fall under mind control again. The scene shifts to a new location, where a hooded figure appears. It is a skeleton, shrouded in a cloak, its eyes glowing with eerie blue flames. It is a spirit hunter. At Lin's sharp whistle, all of his minions storm the room. The spirit hunter is taken by surprise as Wong steps forward with a wide grin. He wraps it in a hug, declaring that hugs are always welcome. The spirit hunter reacts with a strike, but Wong quickly blocks the attack. Unfazed, Wong scoffs at the hostility and mocks it for being such a hater, then dodges another blow with surprising composure. Lin watches from the sidelines, observing silently. He notices that Wong still shows signs of hesitation, but he is holding his own, much better than expected. Lin reflects that this is the very moment Wong has been preparing for. When the spirit hunter realizes it is surrounded, it activates a spell, runes glowing beneath its feet. It is a spiritual connection spell meant to transform nearby opponents into mindless puppets, extending its control across the field. But Lin just smiles, completely unfazed. He knows the spell will not work. The minions remain unaffected, pressing forward. The spirit hunter looks around, clearly bewildered. The spell should have worked, but it did not. Lin's countermeasures, rooted in the power of the defeated demonic mirror bat and a little trick of his own, had left the minions in a constant, low-level trance. This made them immune to this specific enchantment. The spiritual link had failed. Suddenly, the spirit hunter realizes it cannot raise its sword. Whirling around in alarm, it finds Wong gripping the blade firmly, locking it in place. Wong grins and declares that he likes the spirit hunter too, calling it a friend with cheerful sarcasm. Still relaxed, Lin looks to Lily and signals that it is her time to shine. He remembers the spirit hunter's second ability is demonic summoning. Watching intently, Lin suspects that this is a variant of monkey summoning magic, and he smiles, knowing he already has countermeasures in mind. Lily wastes no time. She unleashes a torrent of fire, the flames roaring around the spirit hunter. She laughs and jokes that if everything catches fire, maybe they can have roast chicken for dinner. Panic flashes across the spirit hunter's face. Lin praises Lily and tasks her with dealing with all the summoned monkeys. This only fuels the spirit hunter's rage. In a fit of anger, it hurls both its sword and Wong directly at the heroes. Lin hesitates briefly, thinking he just saw something odd, but he quickly dismisses it. This is not the time for Lin to fight. His objective remains simple: clear the dungeon with minimal effort. So he continues to watch, calculating every moment. As his minions continue to wear down the spirit hunter, Lin lets the battle drag on. An hour passes. The spirit hunter grows frantic, screaming in frustration. Lin takes this as his cue. He whistles sharply. Immediately, his team retreats from the fight, leaping back as a unified force. Lin walks slowly forward and comments that the wait is over. The spirit hunter shrieks something incomprehensible, and although Lin does not understand the words, he grasps the meaning. The enemy is calling him a coward, and he responds coldly. He declares that some people do not have the luxury of courage or glory. Some people just live like this. Then he raises the mirror of illusion. It cannot brainwash the spirit hunter, but it does what Lin expects and distracts it. This single moment is all that Lin needs. His thunder fist descends, cracking the skeleton's armor. Then Lin notices something incredible. Deep inside, the spirit hunter's chest lies one spirit stone, brilliant, rare, and far more powerful than any high-level magic crystal he had ever seen. This is not a common reward, this is a miracle, and it's why he came to the labyrinth of fallen spirits. He leans in closer, mesmerized, murmuring that such a treasure will be put to good use as Lily stands nearby. She asks if the battle is finally over. Lin remains silent, smiling at the stone with a chilling fascination. This is more than a prize. It's an opportunity. With this, he can activate the transformation, and if successful, his body will become the perfect vessel, perfect for mastering the arts. But Lin isn't just concerned with power. What he truly desires is the ability to slow his aging, to extend his youthful years well beyond retirement. He's only 3 years from freedom, and this stone could buy him decades of fun. Lily looks at the glowing crystal in his hand, and curiously asks what it is, and if it tastes good. Lin replies that it's not edible, and warns that she'll get sick if she tries to eat it. Lily argues that he was trying to eat it all by himself, crossing her arms with childish stubbornness. Lin starts to answer, but before he can finish, the spirit stone vanishes from his hands. Shocked, he stares at the empty space where the miracle once was. That gemstone could have been worth 1 million at an auction if he had chosen to sell it. Lin has no idea why it disappeared. He looks down and notices something strange. His watch is no longer working, the hands have stopped. Lin realizes it's now powered by external magic. This means the spirit stone's energy is still active, but has been redirected. Suddenly the world shifts. We are pulled from the labyrinth back to the real world on the news. Reporters discuss the 4 great guilds that united to destroy the gate. 10 days have passed and they still haven't returned. Experts suspect they are already dead. Bach stands silently near the gate, her eyes filled with worry. Her uncle approaches and makes a casual comment about seeing her here again. He reassures her that the White House's 2nd team will return along with the 7th team, completely intact. He tells her not to worry too much. He is Bang, the commander of the 2nd team. Bach replies, noting that the other guilds have already given up on the idea of a rescue mission. She admits she trusts Team B's ability to clear an A-rank dungeon, but she still begs Bang to be careful. Bang promises that they are reliable. The 2nd team gathers in front of the gate. Bang gives the signal to advance, but just as they are preparing to enter, the gate begins to glow strangely. Something is happening. Bang shouts for everyone to prepare for battle. Then, to everyone's surprise, the 7th team emerges from within. Lin stands at the front. Bang stares in disbelief. Bach gasps and then runs forward, throwing herself into Lin's arms. Lin is frozen, confused. He asks why she is acting this way. He reminds her that he has a child on his back and asks her to let him go. Bach ignores him and asks what caused the delay. Lin calm, but vague, replies that there were some unexpected circumstances that are not appropriate to discuss in public. He again asks her to let him go, but she refuses. She clings to him tighter, admitting she was deeply worried. Lin lets out a weary sigh. He feels completely exhausted. All he wants now is to go home. Thanks to the White House's 7th team, all the superhumans from every guild returned home, safely. However, new information confirms that the gate was far more dangerous than the government originally estimated. The driver comments that the entire country is now buzzing about Leo's actions, hailing him as a national hero. To Leo, all the attention is just an extra headache. He asks if it rained while he was in the dungeon. The driver assures him it didn't, not a single cloud in the sky. He assumes Leo must be asking because of the rainbow that appeared 4 days ago. Leo immediately understands this is no natural phenomenon. It's the warning sign of the first great calamity, and he knows what comes next. The colors of the rainbow will slowly fade, one by one. When the final color vanishes, the first great calamity will begin, the night of the 7 months. Portals will open everywhere, and endless waves of monsters will invade the world. In the past, Leo only survived by hiding inside a shelter. But now, things are different. The flame of disaster is on their side, and Leo is stronger than ever. His watch, infused with the mana of the Spirit Stone, can even transform into an iron gauntlet. Before we return to the present, we go back in time to earlier that day. Lily is choosing an outfit, and complains that her waist is tight. She jokes that she plans to eat a lot, so Leo recommends she wear a jumpsuit. Lily refuses, explaining she doesn't like the style. Leo shrugs and asks what she expects him to do. Joy had given the dress to Lily, after discovering she had no evening wear, and it would be rude not to wear it at least once. Lily, finally, advises her to just go with the dress, and if it gets too uncomfortable, she can change later. Lily smiles and praises the idea, calling Leo a genius. That night, After returning safely from the dungeon, a celebration is held at the White House. Jin-soo greets the heroes at the door, throwing his arms around Leo and proclaiming that he always knew Leo would return alive. Beck praises Lily, noting that the dress fits her perfectly. Lily smiles and thanks her for the gift. Beck then notices that Lily's voice seems to be improving. With each passing day, Jang overhears and invites Lily to dinner someday. Beck notices the gesture and finds it touching. Eventually, Jang and Lily leave the party together, and Leo watches how genuinely happy everyone seems. It's a feeling he never experienced in the Black Dog Guild. While Leo is enjoying the evening, Jin-soo approaches him with a drink in hand. He asks about Leo's goals. Leo doesn't understand at first, so the slightly drunk guildmaster clarifies that he's curious about what young people are dreaming of these days. Leo answers honestly. He wants to retire, live comfortably, and save up money. Enough to build a 90 by 90 by 900 square meter mansion and invite friends over to do whatever they want. John Wong and Ian are all impressed by the audacity of his dream. Beck calls it a beautiful goal. John agrees, adding that a peaceful life sounds nice. But Jin-soo goes further, asking if Leo still wishes to get stronger. He is about to offer to train him personally, but Beck quickly intervenes, changing the subject. Leo had planned to avoid future disasters, but now with the strength he has acquired and the trustworthy companions by his side, he knows he must find a way to use the disasters to his advantage. Later, the team takes a short break in the Forbidden Territory. Standing beside a crystal-clear lake, Sue comments on how beautiful it is and jumps into the water with joy. He exclaims that nature always lifts his spirits. Leo calls out to the others, encouraging them to take the week off and enjoy themselves. Then he calls over Beck, who asks for help scratching her back. She complains that she can't reach it on her own. Leo teases her, advising her to practice stretching, and demonstrates by easily reaching his own back. Beck pouts and begs him to agree. So instead, Leo points to John and Tai, suggesting she ask one of them for help. Beck turns to Sue and Tai, and comments that she hadn't greeted him properly. She asks who he is. Surprised by the attention, he runs up to her and introduces himself as Kevin, also known as Red Bean. He nervously mentions that she can call him that too. Becky replies that it's a pleasure to meet him, but they aren't close enough for nicknames yet. Lin jokes that if Kevin says something like that again, he'll rename him Beaten Blood Pie. He then shouts to Chang, asking if he wants to race across the lake. Chang laughs and agrees, it sounds like fun. They decide that whoever reaches the other side first wins. They throw a stone, and the moment it hits the water, they both dive in. Chang takes the lead immediately. Lin knows that as a top-tier superhuman, Chang is incredibly fast. Thanks to him, Lin is expecting a big catch today. As they swim farther out, Chang suddenly stops. Something is bothering him. A giant octopus emerges from the depths. Annoyed, Chang demands to know how it dares to interfere. He launches himself at the monster and delivers a crushing blow. The octopus staggers, stunned, but Chang continues his relentless assault. Lin watches in admiration. Chang is fighting with just his bare hands, and it's working. Lin silently congratulates himself for bringing him along. The octopus is defeated. Lin checks if Chang is all right. He nods and expresses relief that Lin wasn't hurt. He warns that the restricted zone is full of surprises and points out that they've swum quite far from the group. He recommends they head back and take the octopus to the lab. Lin agrees but says he wants to explore the bottom of the lake for a bit first. Chang calls out to him, reminding him to be back for lunch. Lin dives deeper, his shield raised. He believes this area is clear and that no monsters will appear. He recalls how the Kren creature died for interrupting his fun. But now, a greater threat might be lurking below. Lin has no idea how deep he needs to go, but he's confident the treasure is at the bottom. As Lin descends, a faint green glow appears. He finally finds what he was looking for. Satisfied, he thinks he can come back later with Lily and explore more. But then, something changes. He begins to feel a powerful force pulling him down. Suddenly, his shield cracks and shatters. He tries to swim away, but the force is too strong. Panic swells in his chest. This is bad. He had just promised to be back soon. Meanwhile, Zhang and Lily are sitting together on the shore. Zhang offers her a drink and tells her to enjoy it before Lin gets back. Lin finds himself inside a mysterious cave as he regains consciousness. He hears faint voices murmuring that he's awake. The small, worried-looking creatures wonder what to do with him, and if something terrible is about to happen. Still groggy, Lin realizes he's tied up, but he easily tears the ropes with little effort. The creatures recoil in fear, thinking he might harm them, but Lin quickly calms them down, assuring them he has no intention of hurting them. Recognizing the creatures as Nunum, a type of kind-hearted fairy from the continent of nostalgia, Lin remembers working there as a guide. He recalls that the fairies, usually live near clear water, and are rarely seen elsewhere. The Nunum are surprised that Lin knows who they are and begin to question him rapidly, asking if he's been to Nostalgia and if he speaks their language. Lin, a bit overwhelmed, asks them to speak one at a time and tries to understand their presence in this lake. The Nunum explain that they lived peacefully in the lake until a strange phenomenon transported them to another dimension. They describe how terrifying monsters began to fight and devour one another, and how octopus-like monsters slaughtered many of their kind. Lin realizes they are talking about the Kraken, one of the creatures he recently defeated. One reveals that the lack of sunlight and the constant threat of predators left them weak and hopeless. Lin informs them that the predators are now gone, and they can safely return to the surface. Skeptical at first, the Nunu test his words by touching his hand with their tails. When it glows green, confirming his truthfulness, they erupt into a joyous celebration. However, Lin gets annoyed by their noisy celebration and tells them to calm down. He agrees to help them return, and they eagerly declare that they are now friends. Lin starts thinking about turning the lake into a snow theme park and wonders how much money he could make from it, but suddenly, the Nunu warn him not to move forward. There's a trap ahead. Thanks to the warning, Lin avoids the trap and acknowledges that navigating the area alone would have been much more dangerous. The Nunu announce that they are almost at their destination, and they want to introduce Lin to their friend, the one who allowed them to live there. Lin becomes uneasy when they describe their friend as a hard, white creature about half his height. When the figure emerges from the shadows, Lin recognizes it as a powerful golem, likely the guardian of the area. The passage behind Lin slams shut with a bang, trapping him. The golem immediately identifies Lin as an intruder and targets him for destruction. Lin protests, saying he thought the golem was a friend. Snowdrop, the leader of the Snowcaps, is shocked when the golem transforms into a massive combat machine. A fierce battle begins. Lin uses his iron gauntlet to block the attacks, but is still pushed back. He realizes the golem has a self-healing function and that he is in serious danger. He tries to plan a strategic retreat, planning to bring reinforcements like Anguro and Lili next time. As Lin tries to escape, Snowdrop blocks his path and begs Snowblind, the golem, not to attack. Lin is confused but carries on. He attacks the golem again, insisting they can discuss this afterward. Snowdrop accuses him of hurting a friend, but Lin insists he had no choice. After defeating the golem, its chest opens, revealing a glowing key. The Nunu mourn the loss of their friend and angrily reject Lin, saying that friends don't kill each other. But Lin says the golem can be revived and that he knows someone, young, who can do it. The Nunu, surprised by this revelation, realize that Lin is telling the truth. They acknowledge his honesty, although their emotions are still raw. Lin proceeds, entering a newly opened gate. Inside, he finds what he was looking for: the drink of life. It is a golden liquid with incredible healing properties. Elated, Lin takes a sip and feels its rejuvenating effects. He realizes that this potion could save countless lives when the calamity of the 7 months begins. He shares a drop with a Nunu, who immediately begins to glow. The transformation surprises him. Lin suspects the drink might have unique effects on water fairies. Snowdrop says she feels lighter, but Lin notices she looks smaller. He decides they will investigate this later. For now, it's time to leave. Lin tells the Nunu to bring the golem and follow him. As they ascend, the water gets warmer, and they see an intense glow above. When they break the surface, the sky is dark but ablaze with light. The Nunu mistake the light for the sun, but Lin immediately recognizes the source. It's Lily. She is floating in the air, conjuring a massive fireball, probably experimenting with her magic or sleepwalking again. Lin looks up and smiles, realizing she must have followed his instructions, and in the most explosive way possible. Lin yells at Lily, telling her to put out the fireball and come down immediately. He asks if she really intends to destroy the lake below. Changsu calls out for Lin, demanding to know where he's been. Lin then realizes that if he had stayed away any longer, there would have been serious consequences. He tells Changsu that the situation is extreme. Changsu replies that he's glad that Lin returned safely and stopped Lily just in time. Otherwise, she might have drained the entire lake. At that moment, Beck and Wong come running, shouting as they approach. Changsu tells them to stop searching. June runs towards Lin and gives him a tight hug, asking where he's been. Snowdrop suddenly flies out and starts to ask something when Changsu yells that there are monsters behind them. Lin steps forward and asks everyone to calm down. He explains that the approaching creatures are not enemies, but new allies. He promises to explain everything in detail later. Then, Lily crashes into Lin, burying her face in his chest and hitting him. repeatedly. She says it's dinner time, and he was nowhere to be found. She yells that she was worried and skipped dinner, just to look for him. Lin gently places a hand on her head and apologizes for being late. The vacation doesn't last long. Soon, everyone returns to their daily responsibilities. Time passes, and the heroes are back on the battlefield, fighting monsters, and organizing the evacuation of nearby citizens. They face orcs. Lin gives an order to Wong as part of their monster extermination mission. Among Wong's daily tasks are eating 5 hearty meals and training hard. When the monster extermination request arrives, he goes first. His growth rate surpasses even Lin's expectations. Lin thinks that with a little luck, Wong could play an important role during the first calamity. Lin then tells Wong that he's done enough for now and asks him to step back. Lin asks Lily if she's ready. She nods, asking for a minute. Apparently, Lin promised her French fries. She reminds him of this as she turns the monsters to ash. She says she followed his orders and now wants a monster burger combo. As a reward, Lin tells her she's 5 seconds late and will have to settle for just one item. Longun approaches and asks if he can join Lin for dinner. Suddenly, Lin notices something behind Wong. Without hesitation, he runs and covers Wong's back. It's a shadow goblin, hiding and waiting to strike. Lin warns everyone and asks what this is about, this other dinner that Wong mentioned. Wong apologizes, saying he will eat something nutritious and train hard. Lin praises Wong's determination and notes that his skills have reached the same level as in his previous life. The shadow goblins are no longer a threat to him. His mana pool has also grown. If Wong continues at this pace, he will become even stronger. Then they look at the sky. A rainbow has formed, but Lily points out that the red is missing. Lin wonders if the rainbow will disappear in 2 weeks. To survive the upcoming 7-month night, they need some key elements. Lin knows it will require firepower to eliminate the waves of monsters, a specialized team to destroy the gate's core, and a plan to minimize the city's destruction. Healing and restoring the physical strength of the superhumans is also essential. Lin takes on this responsibility while preparing for the rest. We flash back briefly to see Beck reporting on potion sales. She says distribution begins this week. Lin tells her to proceed and report any problems immediately. He asks if the conditions for food sales have been approved. Beck says it doesn't matter anymore. The recovered superhumans are lining up on their own. In her report, she included the prices of each dish and noted that the portion sizes are fixed. The prices are high, which she indicates is a good thing. Beck asks if she has managed to please him. Lin asks about Jung. He says there are reports that the golem can already move. Beck expresses her doubt, but admits that Jung claims he can control it. As Lin gets into the car, he asks her to trust Jung. Beck asks why he is so confident. Lin says it's just for the chance to take Lily to the zoo. Afterwards, he opens a document listing the names of friends who attended a retirement party. He realizes that since his intervention changed the future, there's no guarantee they will meet again. He keeps the document with him. Beck asks if he needs anything else. She says she wants to work with him a little longer before her 1-week vacation. Suddenly, Lin asks the driver how long it takes to get to work. The driver replies that it takes about an hour. Lin comments that it's quite far and must be tiring. The driver denies it and says it's not a problem. Still, Lin asks if he would consider moving to an apartment nearby, the guild headquarters. The driver is surprised. Lin tells Beck to prepare new accommodations for the driver, with enough space for his entire family. Lin says he will cover all the costs. Beck smiles discreetly, thinking that Lin is a very strange person. The driver asks what Lin means. Lin says it would be more convenient for everyone. He adds that he has more than enough money, so the driver shouldn't refuse. The driver is speechless, wondering if he's dreaming or if it's his birthday. Lin reflects that, although money is no longer an issue, thanks to the potions, he knows he can't evacuate all his loved ones this way. There is still a lot of work to be done. Next, we cut to another scene where Sia wishes the heroes a successful mission. Lin asks him to take care of the house in their absence. Lily jokes that Sia won't be able to escape his responsibilities. The heroes set off, walking through a forest, and they come across Val standing silently in front of a rock. Lin asks Lily to lower her voice. He says they will just move on, since Val is clearly focused. Wong mutters that he's too slow and it won't work. He says that if he doesn't get stronger, the commander will kick him out. Lin feels a bit embarrassed to hear that Val is so worried about being left behind. Even so, he thinks that whatever the motivation, striving to improve is a good thing. So he chooses not to intervene as they continue flying. Lily announces that she will create a shield. Lin is impressed and asks when she learned to do that. Lily says she just tried it, and it worked. She then asks if he can do it too. Once again, Lin is surprised by her talent. Finally, they arrive at Lin's personal treasury. filled with rare items collected from the Forbidden Territory. Lily greets Nunu, who says there is nothing to report. Lin tells them to continue, patrolling near the cave. Nunu has consumed the elixir of life, and can now move as fast as bullets. He trusts, in their speed, to contact him in emergencies. Lily looks around and asks why they are there. Lin explains the different items. The charlatan's mask makes someone look attractive and charming, changing their voice to sound like a public speaker. And the sage's robe emanates an aura of mana that is hard to resist, and a wooden staff that glows when mana is injected. Lin puts on the sage's robe, and Lily wears the charlatan's mask. She says her voice has changed and sounds strange. Lin replies that they are ready, and the operation can begin. Suddenly, they appear in a portal. The people nearby are stunned to see two figures emerge from the portal. Lin thinks it's good that there are so many witnesses. He removes his hood and introduces himself as the mage Aximos from the Gaia continent. He has come to warn them that a great calamity will soon fall upon their lands. The people wonder who he is. They can't understand what language he is speaking because they have never heard it before. They speculate if he came out of the gate. Then suddenly, the staff glows. Lin asks them not to worry and announces that he will use translation magic. He requests permission to introduce himself again. He declares that he is the mage Aximos from the Gaia continent. Leon asks them to listen carefully. Lily recognizes this as a signal and creates a shield. They climb onto the shield, and Leon shouts that he has come to warn them. The people begin to murmur, agreeing that he must be a magician. Leon proclaims that the rainbow is a sign of a curse. He explains that when all the colors disappear, a calamity descends upon their lands, opening thousands of gates to hell. Lily interprets his signal again. Leon continues, saying that monsters and demons will flood the earth and the skies, the living will close their eyes, and the dead will rise. He insists that everyone must unite and prepare for the imminent disaster. Leon feels satisfied, realizing he has captured their attention. His special mask amplifies his voice, and the sage's robe emits an aura that draws everyone's gaze. The staff simply emits light, but it enhances his presence. A police officer then steps forward and asks how they can avoid this disaster. Leon replies that it cannot be completely avoided, only minimized. He then asks where the king of their world is, and states that he will provide all the details. Suddenly, we shift to the interrogation room of the Blue House. Director Hawk, head of the Superhuman Support Service, comments that he has never met anyone like him. Leon replies that he understands the surprise, but reiterates that he is only there to warn them of the danger. He demands to be taken to their king immediately. Director Hawk asks why Leon is so sure that he is not the king. He suggests that perhaps their cultures are different, and that is why he doesn't look like the king from Aximos' world. Leon replies that he finds that unlikely. He explains that he can read destinies, although not very well. He claims that he can glimpse events that shape history and the fates of great people. Leon states that Director Hawk is not a king now, but he will strive to become one in the near future. Director Hawk is surprised and asks how Aximos knows this. Leon remembers seeing Director Hawk's future, his candidacy for the presidency, and his role as a judge of superhumans who detests it when they commit crimes. However, Leon said that he cannot reveal more. That is all he saw. Shortly after, someone enters the room and announces that the president wishes to meet the magician from another dimension personally. Hawk hands his staff to Aximos and offers to escort him to the king. The Blue House was rebuilt 2 years ago after the first gate opened on its roof and a monster emerged, killing the president and most of the parliament. A new president was elected, which only slightly stabilized the chaos. Now, the Blue House resembles a military facility. They enter the president's office. The president greets the hero and introduces himself as the leader of the nation. He informs him that he heard Aximos came from another dimension. Leon confirms this and introduces himself, again as a magician from the Gaia continent. He apologizes if his assistant's translation magic is not perfect. The president assures him that it's all right and invites them to sit down. Leon approaches the chair and notices that it is unusual. The president explains, it is a lie detector. If Leon lies, they will know immediately. Leon shows a slight discomfort and suggests that the president should sit as well. The president asks him to repeat, but Leon plays it off, saying he has nothing to hide and is ready to answer. The president asks if they really come from the Gaia continent. Both Leon and Lily confirm. He then asks if the prophecy about the disaster is real. Leon replies that it is, and that is why they are here. He adds that his assistant does not know much about it. The president asks for total transparency. Lily has difficulty understanding half of what is being asked, thanks to his martial arts training. Leon controls his breathing, pulse, and sweat, so the lie detector cannot detect anything. The president orders that all the equipment be removed from the magician. Leon lets out a sigh of relief. The president apologizes for doubting him. Lin replies that he would do the same. Then the president leans forward and asks a personal question. Can Lin help him escape to Gaia before the disaster strikes and it will be safe? He speculates that since Lin came from there to warn them, it might be possible. Lin explodes with rage, asking if this is really a king speaking, someone ready to abandon his people. The president shouts back that he is not a king. It just so happened that the position fell into his lap. He offers money, resources, anything Lin wants. He confesses that he is tired of living in a world where death lurks around every corner. He begs Lin to take his family and friends with him. Lin is stunned. He admits he had a different opinion of the president. Holding Lily's hand, he declares that they are leaving immediately. The president protests. Afai, saying the mage promised to help. Lin retorts that the president would never understand what is in his heart. He refuses the offer and turns away. At that moment, the man who was standing silently removes his mask. It is Kenjiro, the first awakened titan. He moves with lightning speed and blocks the hero. Things take a bad turn for Lin. He realizes he cannot look Kenjiro in the eyes, so Lin tries to back away. Kenjiro gives a smirk and asks what is so funny. Lin confronts him and asks how long they plan to continue with this charade. He identifies Kenjiro as the true king. Kenjiro is surprised and asks how Lin knows. Lin points to a huge star of destiny above him. Kenjiro is the one who restored order in South Korea after the first gate opened, after awakening his abilities. He mobilized the police to protect civilians. After the election, he rebuilt the Blue House and led the country's recovery. Everyone in South Korea knows this. Next, we cut to the Disaster Response Center. Kenjiro announces that before the meeting begins, he wants to introduce the mage who brought the prophecy. Lin steps forward. Kama states that his name is Aximus and asks everyone to listen carefully. Then, he shares the entire story and warns that the disaster threatens them all. In the room are powerful figures. Monsters. Beijongs, the Demon King. Eden V, the Ice Queen, Rania, and the Iron Wall, Mikhail. These are the strongest among the first awakened. Together with Kenjiro, they help destroy monsters and stabilize the territory. The president states that he will declare a national state of emergency tomorrow morning. He asks the assembly to cooperate. Jim questions how the president can believe such a fantastic story. Tyron agrees, suspecting that Lin is a fraud. They argue that such drastic action without solid proof is reckless, as tensions rise. Kenjiro shouts for them to stop. The president confirms that he has verified everything. He reminds them of the chaos during the opening of the first gate. Kenjiro says that if nothing happens, no harm will be done. But if they are not prepared, they will suffer greatly. Tyron sighs, mutters something about hard work, and then advances toward the heroes. Lin panics, thinking he is under attack. But Tyron grabs Lily. He laughs with disdain, saying she annoys him, and orders her to stay still. He tries to take her mask and scoffs that it is probably to avoid recognition. Lily's mask falls to the floor. Lily suddenly transforms into a cat, and she is furious. They begin to question if she is even human. Lin tells his companion to calm down and explains it was a misunderstanding. They did not know the truth. Lin said that people like Lily are ashamed to show their true faces, which is why they always wear masks. Lin remembers how he and Lily prepared for this exact situation. The cat mask not only serves as a disguise but also alters her voice. But if it is forcibly removed, it triggers a transformation spell that turns the wearer into a cat. Lin wonders what Tyron will do now that her assumptions have been proven wrong. Sora screams at Kai and demands he apologize. Kai sincerely apologizes for removing Lily's mask, without her consent. Lin thinks to himself that Lily is really good at playing the part of a cat. The next day, Zoro declares a state of emergency on national television and radio. Standing on stage, he announces a major crisis in Korea. There is some initial confusion after his speech, but the citizens quickly adapt. The army, the superhuman police, and various guilds begin large-scale exercises in preparation. Someone approaches Lin and mentions they heard the sage is leaving today. Lin confirms the power of the dimensional transfer magic is running out, and he must return in a few hours. The man asks if Lin can do him a small favor before he leaves. Lin agrees to do his best. The man explains that he has several books that were confiscated as loot during the national uprising. He brought only the ones that were in good condition, and asks Lin to take a look at them. Time is short, so he just wants Lin to check if any of them are important. Lin says he is not a scholar and that they shouldn't expect much from him. He wonders if they really see him as a sage or just a fool. Lin can speak any language, but can only read the languages of the Gaia continent and the martial arts world, and even then, only in the fields of martial arts and magic. As he walks through the library, a book catches his eye. The hero feels something special and wonders if it could be the notes of the Sword Emperor. The book is narrated from the perspective of Nangong, the Sword Emperor, known in the martial arts world as the Incarnation. Lin realizes the language is one he can read and suspects the book might be authentic. When the assistant asks if something is wrong, Lin explains that the writing seems demonic. Lin asks if there is a sword connected to this book. The assistant says the sword also contains a demon and will corrupt whoever wields it. Lin asks him to investigate further. He secretly hopes that the Heavenly Emperor's sword is among the recovered items, but the assistant says they only found the book and some old clothes in the collapsed cave. Lin is disappointed but says it's all right. He decides the book is too dangerous and announces that he will seal it himself. Since the king is busy, he asks the assistant to keep this a secret. Soon after, Lin reads the book. It tells the story of Nangong, the illegitimate son of the Nangong clan, who, despite being born with divine martial talent, was discriminated against. After his mother's death, he steals the clan's martial techniques and elixirs. Lin isn't interested in the early parts. He already knows this story. What intrigues him is the Sword Emperor's battle with the heavenly demon, which he lost in a single moment before disappearing. Suddenly, Lily appears and asks what Lin is doing. She says she's bored. Lin tells her to go have fun. While he reads, she runs off mischievously. Lin calls after her, telling her to return soon. He is happy to be alone in silence again. As he reads, Lin gets tired. The book is long-winded. He finds a section about the divine art of shattering the heavens, but there is a lot of unnecessary rambling. Still, he feels the main part is coming up. The technique is explained so simply that even a monkey could understand it. If he doesn't get it the first time, he knows he'll have to reread it. Lin crosses his legs and sits in meditation. A red circle appears in the center of his torso. He remembers that inner strength has 3 categories: accumulation, stability, and radiation. Lin realizes that Dehasan Bop, the technique he studied before, focused mainly on stability, but Patan Sin Bop achieves perfect harmony in all 3 areas. Lin calls it a truly perfect and pure Sin Bop. Now he understands why martial artists dedicate their lives to improving their techniques. He simply wants to practice for today, but then he glances at the time and realizes it's way past lunch. Lily still hasn't come back. Suddenly, Leo feels something and turns around. A portal appears in the sky and the people begin to scream. Monsters are coming. The first to emerge is a minotaur. It's enormous. The people scream and flee in a panic. The minotaur raises its mace to attack, but Leo quickly protects the crowd with a magic shield. He tells them to stay inside the barrier. He assures them it will hold until reinforcements arrive. Leo knows that using his full magic could destroy the palace, so he chooses to fight, using only his body. The minotaur swings its mace, but Leo leaps onto its head and sends it flying with a single punch. He is surprised because the monster is so weak. Then he realizes it's not that the monster is weak, he has become stronger. As more monsters begin to emerge, Leo understands that avoiding damage to the palace is no longer possible. There are too many of them. He raises his hand and shouts, calling for fire to rain from the sky. The onlookers are stunned. Even the future president remarks that it is a magnificent spell. One day, a statue of the great sage will be erected in Guangwaman Plaza to honor him. After the monsters are defeated, Soren thanks Leo. He promises to never forget this favor. Leo replies that he only did what was necessary. The assistant approaches and offers a gift in gratitude. Leo initially refuses, but they insist. He finally accepts and wonders how many high-quality magic stones are inside. Leo says he can't stay here any longer. He and Lily are in a magic shield and prepare to leave. It turns out one of Lily's new friends is a Titan, one of the first awakened beings. As they leave, Leo hopes everyone will remain safe. Back home, Leo asks Talon if he has been looking after the house. Talon begins to cry, asking where the heroes have been all this time. Sir Cyrus says that something terrible has happened. Cyrus reveals that if all the floating rainbows in the sky disappear, a disaster will come. Cyrus is horrified. The president says that hundreds of gates will appear. Leo and Lily look at each other and smile. Becky asks what everyone is laughing about. Wayne also went to the guild. After the emergency call, Cyrus asks to be informed when his brother returns. Leo praises him and suggests they go to the guild immediately. Although Leo initially thought he might run away, he's impressed that he's waiting for them, even in this situation. Looking at the rainbows, he realizes there's less than a week left. He insists that they all go to the guild together. At the guild, Becky indignantly confronts Leo, demanding to know where he has been. She says she tried to contact him during the state of emergency, but even his phone was off. She continues to scold him, asking if he understands how serious it is, the situation. Leo replies that he's heard enough of it on the way and walks away. At that moment, Talon arrives and greets Becky. She recognizes him, saying they met at the lake and haven't seen each other since. Becky asks where they plan to evacuate. Leo asks if there are any available rooms at the guild, but adds that he doesn't intend to stay long. Becky asks if he's just come back from beyond a gate. She offers to call someone to escort him. Instead, she suggests Leo go straight to the chief. Leo ignores her and tells Cyrus to move their luggage and get some rest. Becky points out that Leo is the only one who didn't respond to the emergency call warning, that even the chief will be furious. Leo retorts sarcastically, saying the chief wouldn't be mad if she didn't answer her phone on the weekend either. Suddenly, Wayne comes running toward the heroes. Leo asks where Van is, but Wayne unexpectedly calls him Commander and attacks. Leo dodges and asks if Wayne has lost his mind. Through his tears, Wayne says he thought Leo had abandoned him, and his attack was out of happiness. Liam assures him that even if others ignore or accuse him, he would never leave Van behind. Van is overjoyed, and Liam knows that Van is truly useful. Liam knocks on the chief's office door. All the heroes gather as the chief asks them to take a seat. Beck reports that Liam was outside the forbidden territory. Changsu replies that this is no excuse. The chief asks Liam what he knows about the impending disaster. Liam says he heard a few things on his way back. Changsu explains that the great sage Aximos spoke with him alone and gave him a prophecy. Aximos mentioned the seventh night, telling Changsu to leave the wheel of fate for them to lead, and that they would bring the light. Changsu believes that Aximos was referring to Liam's team. Everyone agrees. Liam feels a bit embarrassed and says that, if the invasion begins, the seventh team must operate independently. He insists that everything will be fine. He explains that simply, eliminating monsters in designated locations is a waste of time. Instead, they must focus on enabling independent action and destroying the main gate. The disaster is called the Night of the Seven Moons, because 7 special, moon-colored gates appear among hundreds of others. The main gate that anchors the surrounding gates disappears, along with dozens of others nearby. Liam, through Aximos, shares intelligence on 6 of these critical gates. In a flashback, Aximos tells Changsu that he cannot handle the red energy or determine its location. Changsu says it's a shame, but it's still useful. The one thing Aximos withholds is the exact location of the red gate. Due to the soul stone, Liam reflects that this time, he can finally achieve his dream and become handsome. Changsu shares the same hope, but he wonders if the prophecy is really that simple. Beck speculates there might be hidden meanings, and Van adds that it's too abstract to fully understand. Liam, feeling a bit strange, questions whether a great sage trying to help would make such an enigmatic prophecy. He concludes they shouldn't twist anything. After some persuasion, the 7th Squad receives permission to operate independently. 3 days later, on the White House training grounds, Liam asks Van to focus on the path of mana circulating in his body. Van admits he can't remember. Liam says they will try again and encourages him to focus. Liam studies an image from the Emperor's records of the sword. He knows that the martial art, Diamond Power Fist, emphasizes external strength and that its breathing method is simple. It's good for physical strength and basic development, and Liam believes it will also benefit Van. Liam asks Van if he understands now, but Van is still struggling. They repeat the process over and over again. Eventually, Liam loses his patience and yells, "It's the 30th attempt." He says Van is worse than a monkey. Van insists he is improving and will practice on his own. Liam apologizes, saying he has something else to do. As Liam walks away, he observes that only the purple band remains in the rainbow. The disaster is near. He sees Lily eating and asks if the food is good. She says it is. Liam bought 3 boxes of chicken, but they're already gone. He tells her it's time to prepare. She needs to repay him for the meal. Shocked, Lily realizes why he bought the chicken. Liam knows that the Red Gate holds terrible dangers, boiling lava, high flames, and strong auras. To fight the boss there, they need the Ice Dragon's Fang, which is unfortunately stored at the headquarters of the Black Dog Guild, Liam's old workplace. He remembers working under terrible conditions there in his previous life before he was 20. The job offered no vacation unless you were sick or injured. If only he had undergone proper rehabilitation back then, perhaps life would have been different. Now, equipped with sword energy modified by the Pachon technique, Lin needs information on the building's layout, including security cameras and key items. He identifies the security control room as a potential exit. Inside, a man mutters that he should have robbed a supermarket or a department store. Another blonde man says he left the door open and plans to run for the shelter when the disaster strikes. They all fall silent when the camera feed suddenly cuts out. Assuming it is a broken lens, they are shocked to discover the camera was pointed at their door, but it is too late. Lin bursts in and takes them down. Lin triggers an alarm. The guild realizes someone has broken in. A hero reports that 4 armed, non-superhuman invaders are in the representative's office. Lin instructs the team to gather at the representative's office. When they arrive, the room is empty. Confused, they realize the control room is locked. Lin says the intruders are secure. Elsewhere, he and Lily break down a door. Lily is amazed. Everything is sparkling. She asks if it is all money, then wonders if she can get chicken again. Lin does not understand her obsession, but says the statue is too heavy to carry. Instead, he shows her the special armory, where otherworldly items are kept. There lies the ice dragon's fang, well preserved. As they prepare to leave, Lily says she wants to see what is behind a certain wall. She senses powerful mana. Lin tells her to stand back. He activates his watch and shatters the wall. Inside, he finds something valuable and praises Lily. As a reward, he gives her 3 raw orbs. Lin plans to consume the next soulstone himself and lets Lily eat this one, but Lin is disappointed with the results. It makes little difference. Only her claws grow. Even so, he thinks it is enough to claim an unpaid severance package. He decides it is time to head home. The next day, the rainbow disappears. Lily is more concerned with one thing, her cheese puffs. The next day, at the 3rd evacuation shelter, Lin seems calm, even laughing with a slight smile. His team is surprised by his behavior, especially with one of the worst gates about to open. A team member approaches, curious if something good happened. Lin replies that he finally received the severance pay from a company where he worked a long time ago. As Lin speaks, a menacing aura becomes noticeable nearby. The scene shifts to the 4th evacuation shelter, where the source of the aura is revealed to be Quintaden, leader of the Black Round Guild. His members gather, worried about his behavior. Someone mentions hearing a rumor that the guild's warehouse was robbed yesterday, and they still do not know who was responsible. Back at the 3rd shelter, Lin is on the phone with Bake, who apologizes for the delay. Lin thanks her for her work. Soon after, she finishes enhancing his armor, marking the completion of the equipment preparations. Lin checks in with the support team. Through his earpiece, Tiao Ilnam confirms he can hear him, followed by Ilnam, who says the sound is coming through clearly. Lin turns to Lily and Wang, asking if they are ready. Lily complains that her armor is too tight, and Wang agrees, saying his new suit is embarrassing. Lin explains that their suits are custom-made. Lily's for defense, Wang's for mobility, with a flexible material. As they talk, Lin notices Wang in a strange posture, and asks if he plans to fight like that. Wang calmly replies that if posture becomes a problem, he will use petrification to correct it. Bake approaches and informs Lin that the people he mentioned a few days ago have arrived at the shelter. Lin thanks her but declines to meet them, saying this is enough to repay their kindness. He had requested protection for those who attended his retirement ceremony, and also for friends lost in a disaster in a past life. This time, he is determined not to let it happen again. Suddenly, Chan Su yells that the disaster could happen at any moment, and that he will stop it. Lin is surprised and asks Bake if she ever gets any sleep when Chan Su gets like this. Bake admits she can't, and says, shyly, that sometimes she feels like she's raising a child. Lin observes the area where tanks, military vehicles, weapons, soldiers, and hunters have gathered. He is confident that this force should be enough to stop the disaster. In the distance, robotic footsteps approach, making the hunters tense up. As the sound gets closer, they realize it's an ally. Lin smiles as Yongshin's robot arrives. Lily approaches the robot and asks if Yongshin can see her. He confirms and announces that he is inside the robot, surprising Lin. He asks if he manually modified the robot. Lily tries to get in as well, but Lin stops her and asks Yongshin if he has his mother's permission to use the robot as a combat suit. Yongshin ignores the question and blushes as he promises Lily that he will protect her. Lin scolds him, saying it's not the time for romance. Beck, looking at the sky, notices something strange and calls Lin's attention. Lin looks up and sees that the colorful, rainbow-like lights in the sky have dispersed, signaling something threatening. He immediately instructs Yongshin to return to the command room. Suddenly, numerous portals open in the sky, unleashing an overwhelming number of monsters. The soldiers and hunters take defensive stances, visibly shaken by the sheer number of enemies. Lin hears their panic, but remains calm, knowing this is just the first wave. He reminds everyone that these are monsters they have faced before, and encourages them to focus. Encouraged, the soldiers prepare to engage, and Lin feels confident enough to leave the shelter's defense in their hands. Gunfire erupts as the soldiers begin to attack the monsters. Hunters take over any that get too close. The battle rages on incessantly, and the number of monsters doesn't seem to decrease. Chansu joins the fight, cheerfully expressing how long it's been since he was on the battlefield. He declares that he will destroy everything, including the dark blue core gate. The core gates were divided between the elite first team and the professional hunter team, as decided by the guild leaders and the chairman. Lin plans to act separately and enter the red core gate on his own terms. He turns to Young Shin, who still refuses to go back to the command room, and tells him to pay close attention to what a real battlefield is like. Although annoyed, Lin allows him to follow and provide support. Lin instructs his team to move to their designated positions. As the solo operation begins, he, Wang, and Lili board an armored vehicle while Yang Shin follows in the robot. Lin's strategy is to make it seem like they are moving aimlessly before eventually reaching the red core gate. Along the way, Chon and Unam report that monsters are approaching from all directions. Lin tells her to ignore them and keep driving. Inside the vehicle, Lin assembles a spear, even though he isn't familiar with military-grade weapons. His 2 decades in the superhuman force give him the skill to handle the situation as their vehicle closes in on a pack of monsters. Werewolves and slimes ahead, Yoon alerts Liam, who tells him to keep driving. He climbs onto the roof of the vehicle and uses his spear. To eliminate the attacking monsters, he instructs the driver to turn at a nearby intersection and to watch out for the bodies. On the road, Liam asks Lily if she's ready. She's already charging a fireball and says she is. He points to the distant monsters and instructs her to attack. Lily launches a fireball, saying she wants to finish this quickly so she can eat at the chicken buffet. Her attack incinerates the monsters, but Justin Shin worries about driving through the flames. Liam insists they must keep moving. He raises his hands and parts the fire, allowing the vehicle and the robot to pass. She continues shouting about food, and Justin watches her in amazement. Liam just smiles. He encourages everyone to move at full speed. He continues giving directions, telling them to turn right at a hospital and then again. After 2 blocks, he calculates that they are approaching the red core gate. Soon, the gate comes into view. He doesn't smile, wondering if this is what the great sage's prophecy was meant to be. As they approach the gate, Liam tells the team to prepare for entry. Suddenly, a creature plummets from the gate. Initially looking like a blob of slime, it transforms into a gigantic Tyrannosaurus Rex. Yoon reports they are only 1 kilometer away and asks if they should slow down. Liam decides to avoid any delays, fearing that more monsters might arrive. He tells Yoon to maintain speed and calls for Hank to face the T-Rex. Hank leaps from the vehicle and confronts the monster as its enormous jaws snap shut around him. He activates his petrification ability. His body glows gold as he holds the monster's mouth open. Liam recognizes the golden aura. It's the mana of the diamond power sphere. Hank, proud of his progress, continues to hold the beast at bay. Liam calls for Justin Shin to act. Remembering his earlier promise to protect Lily, Justin Shin charges toward the monster. The T-Rex notices him, spits out Hank, and tries to bite again. But Justin skillfully maneuvers the robot. He grabs the T-Rex's tail, lifts it, and slams it into the ground. The team is stunned. They watch in awe as Justin dominates the enormous creature. Jealous murmurs spread. Everyone wants a turn piloting the robot now. Justin's attack immobilizes the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and Liam seizes the opportunity to deliver the final blow. Afterwards, he approaches the massive corpse, guessing from its size that something valuable might be hidden inside. He quickly carves up the beast and finds a shining, pearl-like object. It's called a Nadan, a rare and nutritious item. Holding it in his hands, he admires it, until Hank shouts, pointing to a new wave of monsters pouring out of the gate. Liam just smiles. Excited like a kid in a candy store, he urges the team to move towards the red core gate. Destroying the red core gate requires defeating the fire giant sleeping inside the volcano. After fighting through the new monsters and entering the gate, Liam clears a path for the team so that Kai can help them don armor suitable for the intense heat. Once suited up, everyone feels much better. Liam clenches his fist, smiling as he comments, "These combat suits are surprisingly cool." He stretches his shoulders and tells Kai, "The suits aren't just efficient and comfortable, but also visually impressive." He believes this armor will make future encounters much easier. Sena shares her surprise at the quality of the suits, revealing that Justin Shin helped design them. She praises him as a valuable ally. Lin reflects that stealing from the Black Dog Guild and ordering the suits ahead of time is finally paying off. Young-shin approaches Lily and asks her to press a button on the robot's arm. When she does, a popsicle appears, and she thanks him. Jung-shin blushes and plays down the gesture. Not wanting Jung-shin to get too comfortable with Lily, Lin orders Team 7 to prepare for the match. Soon after, they encounter a pack of fire wolves. Wang leaps to the front line without waiting for orders, which surprises Lin, but it doesn't bother him. Lin climbs onto the armored vehicle, drawing a gun and remarking that it's been a while since he's shown off his shooting skills. As the monsters close in, Wang braces for combat, but the heat overwhelms him. Lin fires at the monsters, freezing them with liquid nitrogen bullets and saving Wang. He feels relieved to have brought this weapon. He's grateful to the White House Guild for preparing it in advance. Once Lin finishes freezing the monsters, he tells Young-shin to finish them off. Young-shin responds immediately, flying in and shattering the frozen creatures with a single blow. Lin watches in awe, acknowledging how much more comfortable his job has become. He informs the team that they will maintain this pace and move quickly past the flame centipede ahead. Later, Lily sighs out of boredom, catching Lin's attention. When he asks what's wrong, she complains that her fire ability is useless in this environment. Lin replies that it's obvious and tells her to rest, a suggestion that disappoints Lily, and she wonders aloud if she's useless now. Annoyed, Lin turns his back and tells her that after resting, she'll have plenty to fight. He asks if she'd prefer that to resting. She shivers and admits that fighting sounds less fun, then lowers her head with a gentle smile. Team 7 arrives at a lava lake. Lin orders everyone to halt, sensing that this area could pose serious problems despite the lack of visible monsters. He asks the medical team to fetch a monster corpse. Tian and Nam bring a small one on a tray, which Lin throws into the lake. Suddenly, a giant lava monster emerges and devours the body whole. Everyone except Lin is shocked. Lin sighs and says that advancing blindly would have been a disaster. The monster retreats back into the lava, and Lin realizes they need to lure it out. He calls for Il-nam and asks if she brought any large fishing rods, even if just for a single use. A surprised Il-nam questions if Lin is really trying to catch the fire snake. Lin acknowledges the risk, but insists on trying. Il-nam leaves to search through the equipment. Meanwhile, Lin tells Wang and Hyung-shin to play rock, paper, scissors. The two exchange confused glances but follow his instructions. A moment later, Wang is launched across the lava lake by Hyung-shin. The fire snake immediately emerges and swallows him. Lin instructs Hyung-shin to pull with the robot's full strength, and a tense tug-of-war begins. Inside the snake's mouth, Wang remembers Lin's instructions and activates a hidden device, piercing the stunned monster's jaws. The snake becomes vulnerable, and Hyung-shin pulls it out of the lava. The snake spits Wang out and then collapses to the ground. Lin rushes over and asks if Wang is okay. Wang confirms he is, but before they can rest, the ground trembles. Lin and Wang instinctively turn towards the volcano as a massive hand emerges, gripping the edge of the crater for support. The fire giant begins to rise. Lin watches as it descends from the volcano, wondering if their previous activity triggered its awakening. Realizing this changes everything, he turns his attention back to the recovering fire snake. As Lin approaches, the fire snake whips its tail towards him, but he dodges by leaping into the air. His movement distracts the snake long enough for Wang to grab its tail. As the monster prepares to strike again, Liam attacks its face, calling for Shin to flank from the left. Shin activates a piercing weapon and jumps into the fray, but Liam soon realizes their attacks are ineffective against the monster's thick scales. Suddenly, the fire snake raises its head and spits venom. Liam barely escapes, but Shin's robotic arm is hit and begins to melt. Liam glances at Rina, noticing her inexperience with monsters of this caliber, and Rina, sensing his concern, reassures him that the robot has a restoration function. Liam says he's aware, but tells Rina to withdraw for now. He also orders Wang to fall back and get checked, while Liam draws the monster's attention. Rina carries Wang to a safe place. Still worried, she asks Liam if he can manage on his own. Liam confirms that the fire serpent hasn't cornered him yet. Elan says she will monitor the surrounding area with cameras to ensure he doesn't encounter other threats, while Liam dodges more attacks. Elan adds that his focus should be elsewhere. Liam agrees, knowing that the fire giant is the real danger. Elan reports that the fire giant is approximately 40 meters tall and is moving faster than expected. She suspects its enormous size allows for its rapid advance. The giant is now halfway to the volcano, and its imposing presence makes its scale even more terrifying. Liam remembers that in his past life, the first Awakeners were the ones who dealt with this gate. Now he realizes the responsibility falls on him. He grits his teeth, wondering what he should do next. Liam's original plan was simple. First, he would defeat the fire snake in the lava lake. Then, while the fire giant was still sleeping inside the volcano, he would approach it and stab it with the ice dragon's fang. Finally, once the creature was weakened by the Fang's cold energy, he would deliver the final blow. Liam believed it was a perfect plan, but now that perfect plan is in ruins, he sighs and instructs all members of Team 7 through his earpiece to fall back to the rear and wait for his signal. Wong asks how they can retreat without their team leader. Lily, also worried, watches as Wong speaks. Liam responds by asking if Wong has ever heard the saying about how when whales fight, the shrimp always suffer. He explains that staying here would make them the shrimp. Releasing his aura with a slight smile, he tells Wong that, first, they must make the whales fight each other until both are weakened. With that, Liam leaps onto the fire snake. Landing on the monster's body, he uses the heavenly destruction step to launch himself along its back and approach its face. The snake raises its head as Liam draws near. It opens its mouth and spits venom at him. Liam swings his spear, cutting through both the venom and the creature's tongue in a single motion. The snake writhes in pain, rolling on the ground. Liam starts running towards the fire giant, baiting the snake to follow him. Enraged, it begins the chase. As he runs, he uses his earpiece to ask if everyone has reached a safe area. Suddenly, Lily shouts that she refuses to fall back. Liam starts to sweat nervously. He begs the others not to let Lily come his way and turns off his earpiece, hoping she won't cause any more trouble. Soon, Liam arrives in front of the fire giant. Despite his fireproof combat suit, the heat from the creature's body is suffocating. The flame snake catches up to him and swings its tail in his direction. Liam dodges just in time, and as the snake moves, the fire giant takes notice. It strikes the snake with a punch, disorienting it. Liam watches with anticipation as the two monsters turn against each other. They size each other up, waiting for the other to make the first move. The fire giant strikes first, but the flame snake dodges out of the way. She spits venom on the fire giant's face. The giant raises its arm to block, but the venom begins to corrode its flesh. Hidden behind a rock, Lin watches the battle unfold and thinks that the monsters are doing well. He takes the box containing the ice dragon's fang and studies it. He knows the fang would be most effective if it pierces the fire giant's heart, planning to wait for an opening. He puts on combat gloves to protect his hands from the heat. His attention returns to the fight, as the fire snake now coils itself around the fire giant's arm, then quickly wraps around its neck, beginning to tighten. Lin believes this is his chance. He grabs the fang, activates his stealth skill, and begins to sneak closer. As he approaches, the fire giant, still struggling, suddenly turns its head and faces the fire serpent. Then flames begin to consume the serpent from its tail upwards as it cries out in agony. The fire giant grabs it by the throat and starts to tear it apart. Lin watches anxiously. Still, he intends to strike while the fire giant is distracted. With its victory, he uses the heavenly destruction step to move through the air. But before he can act, the fire giant suddenly appears behind him. It notices Lin and attacks. Lin tries to activate his shield, but it's too late. The giant slams its fist on the ground, trying to crush him. After lifting its hand, the giant is surprised to find nothing underneath. Then, a voice interrupts. The fire giant turns and sees Lily, who tells Lin that he would have died if it weren't for her. Still stunned, Lin sits on the ground, asking why she came. With a cheerful expression, Lily says she came to pay for the food. Enraged at being ignored, the fire giant becomes furious and charges at them. Lily steps forward, saying she will take on the fire giant. As she activates her fire ability, Lin hastily tries to stop her, telling her not to use fire, but it's already too late. Lily unleashes her flame-throwing ability, and the flames rush towards the giant. The fire giant begins to absorb the flames. After absorbing a good amount, it lets out a loud burp. Lily is surprised that it could eat fire. A pale and nervous Lin explains that this is exactly why he wanted her to avoid fire-based attacks. Feeding the fire giant with flames is like putting gasoline on a fire. Even worse, Lin lost both his weapon and the fang of the ice dragon during the previous attack. Disappointed, Lin tells Lily that they should retreat and regroup, but Lily, seemingly excited, asks if she could do what the monster boss just did. Before Lin can answer, Lily begins to inhale. The fire giant realizes something is wrong. The flames it emits are now being drawn towards Lily. It tries to resist by releasing even more flames, but this only increases Lily's absorption rate. Lin watches, stunned, as the scene unfolds. The fire giant finally realizes that Lily is about to absorb all of its flames. In a panic, it starts to flee. Lin is shocked, but he quickly realizes what is happening. Lily's fire control surpasses even that of the boss monster. Her fire control is on a higher level. As the fire giant flees, Lily absorbs the last of its flames, leaving behind only a dried husk. Lin, perplexed by the outcome, stares at the remains of the fire giant, unable to understand how his team managed to win in such an absurd way. After the destruction of the red portal, other portals in the city are also destroyed by the guilds assigned to them. The disaster ends earlier than in Lin's previous life. 1 week later, citizens and construction workers volunteer to rebuild the parts. In the damaged parts of the city, Team 7 of the White House Guild joins the recovery effort, with Serac seemingly in charge of the construction crew. He rallies everyone to work quickly so they can finish today. Wong helps carry heavy materials, and another member assists with the welding, using his robot. Some construction workers take a break and call out to Serac, asking if the team is really part of the White House Guild. They observe that guild members usually don't bother helping out on the ground like this. After hearing them, Serac clenches his fist and passionately replies that this is exactly what guild members should be doing. He declares that if there's a place that needs help, hunters should step up and offer it. The construction workers, moved by Serac's enthusiasm, serve him a drink and invite everyone to join their break for some food. Lin happily accepts the invitation and joins Serac and the others. However, one construction worker grows suspicious. He wonders why everyone is working so hard, and asks Serac and Lin to point out the person responsible for this effort. Caught off guard, Serac and Lin hesitate to answer, but the worker has already started looking around. His eyes lock onto Lin, who is lounging in a beach chair while Lily, sitting beside him, eats popcorn. Serac tries to explain, saying that Lin is their team leader and is still injured, but the construction worker notices Lin's bright and relaxed expression and asks what kind of injury makes someone look so refreshed. Another team member tries to explain, saying that even though it doesn't seem like it, it was Lin who suggested that the White House Guild should provide public support. The construction workers appreciate the idea, but they still think someone as young as Lin should be contributing physically as well. As their complaints continue, Wong suddenly slams the table and exclaims that he really enjoyed the food. His sudden outburst shifts the tone of the conversation. One of the workers stands up and says they should get back to it, and the others agree. The worker invites Wong and the rest of Team 7 to rejoin them, saying that the help of an awakened is still needed. With a smile, Wong replies that he'll be there shortly. According to the last prophecy left by the great sage Axmos, the citizens believe that new gates will not appear for 31 days following the recent disaster. With this reassurance, people unite quickly to rebuild the city without hesitation. The guilds keep busy, disposing of monster corpses and conducting research. A few days later, while Lin is resting and reading, Vicky approaches him, interrupting his relaxation. She smiles cheerfully, asking if he still plans to keep relaxing like this. Lin lifts his head and wonders aloud if such a lifestyle is even possible, reminding her that his dream is to relax and rest forever. Vicky turns to him and questions if that dream is just an excuse to be a rich slacker. Although Lin finds her comment annoying, he decides to ignore it, considering his achievements. Vicky, still looking at him, notices something different and points out that his skin has suddenly improved. Lin smiles and touches his cheek, proud of how his skin glows. After defeating the fire giant, he used its core to activate a body transformation technique. Now, he's enjoying the benefits of a handsome appearance and healthy skin, even in retirement. Striking an odd pose, he tells Vicky he recently received a facial massage. Vicky brings her hands to her mouth, imagining how pleasant the massage must have been. She asks Lin how it felt and where the place is. Liam quickly explains that the massage parlor closed, making it impossible to visit. Bianca remains persistent and jokes that he shouldn't keep all the benefits of the fire giant's core to himself. Liam knows that only half of the core's mana has been used, and that it can still be activated one more time, but he chooses to save it, avoiding more questions. He asks if she came just to talk about his skin. Bianca corrects him and hands over documents related to potion supplies. She explains that although production has increased, it's still not enough. Several organizations have requested partnerships for the potion based on the elixir of life. It is currently distributed exclusively by the White House Guild. Thanks to this potion, many lives have been saved. People who were previously destined to die or live with permanent injuries have recovered. The number of deaths has dropped to 1/10 of what it used to be. Liam acknowledges the growing demand and praises Bianca's work, encouraging her to make the partnership decisions on her own. Bianca then brings out another document and asks Liam what to do with the fire giant's body. Liam interrupts, saying the matter is easy to resolve. He requests 20 kilograms of the giant's skin, some bones, and blood for personal use. The rest can be managed freely. Wanting to get back to his rest, he asks if there's anything else. Bianca puts the paper back in her bag and informs him about a joint funeral ceremony that will be held today. Liam leans back in his chair and refuses to attend, saying such events are suffocating. Bianca is shocked by his response, and asks why he requested details about the families of those killed in combat with such a serious expression. Liam said he wanted the information because he thought it was time to call Santa Claus, despite it being summer. At the ceremony, President Quinn addresses the crowd. He announces that 7 days ago, they faced the gate anomaly known as the disaster or catastrophe. On that day, 427 citizens lost their lives. He pauses to regain his composure before continuing. Among the dead are soldiers, police officers, and hunters, people who were parents, children, friends, and citizens. Ken approaches the gathered flowers, each bouquet representing a lost life, and promises they will not forget the sacrifices these heroes made. Sobs rise from the crowd. A little girl tugs at her crying mother's clothes, asking when her father will come back. The mother remains silent and continues to cry. The child hugs her and tells her to stop crying, warning that Santa Claus might see her sadness. She continues to encourage her mother to smile. The weight of the moment falls on Ken. He closes his eyes, unable to face the grieving citizens. Suddenly, a silhouette appears in the sky. Liam, dressed as Santa Claus, flies over the ceremony in a red sleigh with Lily by his side. Snowy owls glide alongside, creating a surreal scene. Someone in the crowd points to the sky, and the hunters look up. Unsure if it's a monster, they remember the prophecy and remain on high alert. The little girl notices the sleigh and excitedly tells her mother that Santa Claus is here. As the sleigh flies overhead, Lily activates a shield, forming a vibrant pattern in the sky. Ken assumes it's a gate opening and prepares to launch an attack. He leaps into the air, shouting that whoever is doing this has chosen the wrong moment. But mid-air, the beautiful pattern created by Lily stops him. He descends slowly, mesmerized. The little girl points again, begging her mother to look. Lily enhances the scene even more, using her shield ability to create fireworks. The animals begin to rise, and the snowy owls release bubbles for the children to play with. A worker asks Ken for orders. Smiling, Ken tells him to let it be. The worker is worried about how to report the event. Kim, still looking at the sky, says they simply reported that it was the real Santa Claus later. Lynn takes the sleigh to the roof of the White House Guild. After landing, Lily jumps out and plays in the snow. Saying it was fun delivering presents, Lynn follows, suggesting they eat something delicious. As they approach the terrace door, they hear Bic's voice. She greets them and asks if they had a good trip. Lynn thanks her, saying the sleigh and the costumes were beautifully made. Bic leans against the wall, disregarding the compliment and asking why he did it. Lynn explains that simply, compensating the grieving families felt empty. It's also a tiring task. He begins to explain more, but stops, recalling memories from a past life. Most of the deceased were the heads of their families, soldiers, police officers, and hunters. Lynn knows that what their families need now is realistic help. The government's aid is minimal and insufficient. Lowering his gaze, Lynn admits the final reason is simple. He did it because he could. He has the ability. And when he's not being lazy or drinking in retirement, he wants to help others who are struggling. Bic listens with her arms crossed as Lynn finishes. She sighs and touches her cheek, expressing concern. Lynn asks if she's worried he's getting too soft. Smiling brightly, Bic admits she's afraid she'll fall for him if he keeps this up and confesses she already has feelings. Lynn walks past her, saying that people should keep their love lives and work separate. Bic is furious at his reaction, muttering to herself and questioning if Lynn is a eunuch. Lynn overhears her and sighs. The three of them enter the guild building. Inside, decorations are up and music is playing. Lily runs ahead excitedly, saying she's going to sing along. Lynn gets nervous, wondering when she learned to sing. Sirat and Wong approach and warmly greet their team leader. Lynn thanks them for their hard work during the disaster and reconstruction. Jung Shin has a table set up with Lily's favorite food. Prepared in advance, Lily praises him, calling him the best. As Jung Shin turns to sit next to her, Lynn takes the seat, smiling. He asks why there are only 2 seats, and a bewildered Jung Shin silently adds a chair next to Lily. Lily eats enthusiastically. Lynn wipes the crumbs from her face and tells her to eat, slowly. She agrees and returns to her food. Watching her, Lynn realizes she never talks about her family. He calls out to her. Lily looks confused when Lynn asks if she misses them. He mentions that she never says things, like she misses her parents or wonders how they are. Lily's expression darkens. She puts her pizza aside. An annoyed Jung Shin asks Lynn if he's scolding her. Lynn calmly explains that he's trying to talk about something important. He turns to Lily and says she doesn't have to answer if she doesn't want to, but he wants to know if she wants to see her parents again. Lily replies that she really wants to, but before she can explain further, Lynn pats her on the head and says they will need to go to the continent of Gaia. With a pleasant smile, He asks if she wants to bring anything since they will be meeting her parents. The scene changes. Lily runs through a dark forest, apparently being chased. She sees Lin in his combat uniform and runs to him, calling his name. But Lin remains silent. As she grabs his arm and begs for help, his appearance changes. A goblin mask covers his face. He turns to her and asks if she is asking him for help. Lily wakes up with a start, screaming. She gets out of bed and sneaks into Lin's room. The sound of her climbing into bed wakes him, and as Lin tries to get his bearings, Lily speaks in a frightened tone. She admits that she doesn't really want to go back, but feels she has to. She misses her mother and made a promise to someone named Wendy. She wonders if everyone is okay after all this time. Lin looks at the ceiling and pats her back, comforting her. As she repeats that she must go back, even though she doesn't want to, Lily begins to tell Lin about her past. She explains that she comes from a poor family, and that she and her mother often went hungry at night. Her mother would hold her, always apologizing for their situation. But Lily never cared because her mother was always by her side. One day, her mother calls for her and asks her to listen carefully. She tells Lily that she will become a maid for a wealthy family, and if she follows the instructions, she won't go hungry anymore. Her mother hugs her and promises to find her later, when life gets better. Shortly after, a carriage arrives to take Lily away. While traveling through the forest, Lily observes the other children inside. The child next to her turns and introduces herself as Wendy. Without waiting for a reply, Wendy leans on Lily's shoulder, thanking her for being warm. She then asks Lily's age and reveals that she is 1 year older. Soon, the carriage stops, and strange men order the children to get out. They are lined up and marched through an unknown place that is clearly not the wealthy family's compound they had heard about. A man wearing a goblin mask cracks a whip on the ground, silencing the confused children. He coldly tells them to shut up and follow him. Lily and Wendy are locked in a large prison cell. Over time, the other children begin to disappear. Lily remembers little of what happens next, but she recalls waking up in a strange room. 2 men are standing over her. One mentions that this is already their 3rd attempt. The other confirms, explaining that they are using fire essence, fragments of a demon's blood, and that all the items have been successfully integrated into Lily's body. They check for signs of rejection but find none, although one man warns that the risk is still high. Before he can continue, they notice a reaction in Lily. They declare their success, celebrating the baptism, now settling into her body. Although Lily is in pain, the men rejoice at finally achieving their goal, a goal they had long desired. One asks if there are any side effects. The other dismisses the concern, claiming that Lily is no longer a person, but a monster. From that day on, a magic circle appears on Lily's stomach, and she becomes increasingly hungry. At these times, Wendy always gives Lily her portion of food. Although Lily refuses, Wendy threatens to throw it away, leaving Lily no choice but to eat. While apologizing, Wendy always comforts her, saying it's okay. One day, Wendy suggests they escape. She gets Lily's attention, and shows an ice crystal in her hand. Lily is confused, but Wendy admits she doesn't know how she can do it. As she speaks, her hair changes color from blonde to blue. Lily notices but says nothing. Wendy then proposes that they escape, and Lily agrees with a smile. However, during their escape attempt, they are discovered. Hooded figures restrain Lily, while the masked man grabs Wendy by the neck and lifts her up. He admits he never expected Wendy to awaken. If she had revealed her powers sooner, he claims, she could have avoided more suffering. Lily screams for him to let Wendy go. Wendy, in turn, hurls ice spears at the masked man, screaming for him to die, but a green barrier forms around his body, deflecting the attacks. He looks at Wendy and smiles, saying that even though she has awakened, she still can't stop him. He declares that she will serve as a puppet in the future. Wendy grits her teeth, grabs his arm, and swears she will die before returning to the prison. She unleashes an icy wind and tells Lily to run. The masked man grows irritated by Wendy's resistance, but Wendy continues, directing freezing winds at the men holding Lily. As a result, the 2 captors freeze solid, and Lily's powers awaken. Her hair turns red and flames erupt from her body. The masked man notices and orders the others to capture her. Wendy screams for Lily to run, insisting this is her only chance. Lily obeys as Wendy expands her powers, forming a blinding ice tornado to cover Lily's escape. Wendy's distraction buys Lily some time, but the men eventually track her down. As she runs, Lily promises Wendy that she will come back for her. With her pursuers right behind her, a red gate suddenly opens before Lily. Having nowhere else to go, she dashes through it. The men scream for her to stay away, but the gate starts to vanish. Lily takes one last look back and promises again to come back for Wendy. In the present, after sharing her story, Lily collapses from exhaustion. Lin watches in silence and mutters the words, "Masked Goblin Man," he says with rage. The next day, Lin visits Kang Su and requests a 1-month vacation. Kang Su furiously slams the table, questioning Lin's timing, especially with how busy the White House Guild has been. He reminds him of their recent disasters and denies the request, saying the most he can allow is 1 week, and not until next month. Lin remains quiet. Baek stands behind him, visibly nervous. In a serious tone, Lin says he has a reason and something personal to ask. Before he can explain, Kang Su cuts him off, saying he isn't interested in excuses. Lin then calls out to Baek and asks about the guild's monthly profits. Surprised, Baek hesitates. Lin comments that the demand for potions is so high that the guild can't keep up with production. He questions whether it's necessary for the White House Guild to be the sole supplier. Kang Su is surprised and leans back in his chair, unsure of where Lin is going with this. Next, Lin brings up the loot from the Red Core Gate, reminding Kang Su that even all the other teams combined can't match the achievements of Team 7. He questions whether it's worth staying in a guild where he's treated this way. Kang Su feels the pressure. He lowers his head and asks if Lin is threatening him. Lin sighs and asks how much it would cost to break his contract. This finally breaks Kang Su, who angrily agrees to the vacation but sarcastically adds that he wishes he could go too. Lin smiles and thanks him, promising to bring back a gift. Kang Su asks what Lin plans to do with the whole month off. Lin says he's looking for some people. Baek suggests leaving the search to the clan, but Lin insists on doing it himself. In his mind, Lin resolves to find Wendy or Lily's mother. As for the masked man, his anger swells, a vein throbbing on his forehead. Regaining his composure, Lin reminds Kang Su that he had another request. Kang Su crosses his arms and asks what it is. The two discuss it, and after a while, Kang Su looks at Lin and questions if this is really what he wants. That night, in the White House Guild quarters, Lin calls Lily over to look at a map he drew. He confidently circles a region and says it matches Lily's memory. Lily is shocked, realizing her home might be there. A knock interrupts them. Lin turns to the door, confused. Lily calls out, equally puzzled. As Lin opens the door, he finds Gideon and his mother. Gideon's mother asks if they can come in. Lin lets them in, and after greetings, she prepares to explain, but stops, letting Gideon speak. Gideon tells Lin that he wants to go on the trip with Lily. Lin is surprised, realizing he might have said too much, leading Gideon to learn about the trip. Although hesitant to bring him along, Lin knows that having a creator like Gideon could be useful. He considers the risks, and explains they will be traveling through dangerous territory. Gideon becomes nervous, thinking of ways to protect his mother. He suggests taking the robot but can't find a way to keep it safe. Yoonsin's mother laughs and tells him that she won't stop him just because she can't join, but she asks Lin to bring her son back safely. Lin promises to do so. Yoonsin then approaches Lily and tells her, with a radiant expression, that although he is weaker than her, he will still do his best to help. Lily smiles warmly and thanks him. At midnight, Lin goes to the main building of the White House Guild. While he's in the elevator, an unexpected thought comes to his mind. He never imagined the day would come when he would have to visit this place alone. The elevator stops on the 12th basement floor, the personal training hall reserved for Chang-Su. When the doors open, a wave of steam billows out, revealing Chang-Su in the middle of an intense warm-up, heat visibly emanating from his body. Upon noticing Lin's arrival, Chang-Su immediately stops and turns to him, accusing him of being late. Confused, Lin explains that he arrived 10 minutes early, only to receive an embarrassed apology. Chang-Su confesses that he was simply too excited to wait and started warming up on his own. Chang-Su then mentioned the real reason he called Lin here, a request they had made earlier, which Lin now understands is for a 3-day training match. This surprises Lin, especially since he had always avoided the subject. He laughs nervously. In truth, Lin had voluntarily signed up to be beaten, because Earth was no longer the most dangerous place. The Gaia continent was teeming with powerful individuals, and before venturing there, Lin wanted to fully test the martial arts he acquired through his cosplay as the Great Sage. He believes that Chang-Su, one of the most talented people he has ever met, would be the perfect opponent. Gathering his courage, Lin unsheaths his sword and respectfully asks Chang-Su to take care of him for the next 3 days. Chang-Su reciprocates the sentiment and assumes his fighting stance, signaling that the warm-up phase is over. He explains that Lin should have prepared physically before showing up, and then immediately unleashes his aura. Lin realizes he has made a mistake. Trying to back out, he claims he was being overconfident when he made the request, but Chang-Su cuts him off, saying that from now on, they will only speak with their fists. In the blink of an eye, he lunges forward, his attacks explosive. Every blow that lands on Lin sends shockwaves throughout the White House Guild building. 3 days later, inside the rented lodging room that Lin and Lily are using, Lily approaches Lin and asks with an intimidating aura why his face looks like it's been run over by a truck. She demands to know who did this so she can personally reprimand them. Lin, his face swollen and bruised, ignores her and asks her to start packing. The truth is, being beaten by Chang-Su for 3 days helped Lin master the new martial arts he had recently acquired. But the prolonged use of these techniques drained his energy, and the last day of training was particularly brutal. As he drinks a potion, Lin silently wonders where monsters like Chang-Su come from. Later, after they finish their preparations, Lin and Lily head down to the first floor of the White House Guild's main building. They are greeted by Chang-Su, Anseo-rak, and Beck. Chang-Su greets them warmly, noting that today is Lin's big vacation day. He advises Lin not to go to dangerous places, especially where he might get beaten up again. Lin, however, doesn't share the same cheerful energy. He looks completely wrecked. Dark circles under his eyes and a weary face tell the whole story. He sarcastically replies, thanking Chang-Su for making him feel invincible. Then he turns to Wang and officially puts him in charge of Team 7 for the next month. Wang is speechless and asks if this is really allowed. Lin snaps back, warning Wang to take very good care of the team, or else. He makes a cutting gesture across his neck to emphasize the consequences. Tears stream down Wang's face as he promises to do his best. His subordinate approaches and starts to console him, leading Lin to comment that Wang hasn't realized how capable he's become. Lin sighs and instructs his subordinate to keep an eye on Wang, to which his subordinate agrees with a warm smile. Lin then turns to Vicky, preparing to give her instructions, but he freezes. Vicky is looking at him with a dreamy expression, eyes closed and lips puckered. Lin, confused, asks if she got dust in her eyes. Vicky explodes with frustration, grabbing Lin's arm and demanding to know how he doesn't understand that she was asking for a goodbye kiss. Lin, trying to escape, plays dumb and says he's never heard of such a thing. He asks her to take care of Team 7 in his absence and complete the tasks he had previously assigned to her. This only irritates Vicky even more. She accuses Lin of exploiting her, but he doesn't respond because Tiansu is now glaring at him with deadly intent from behind her. Lin knows he's not trying to use Vicky, but he also doesn't want to die just yet. Hurriedly, Lin turns, looks back one last time with a smile, and tells everyone it's time to go. Lily smiles and waves goodbye. Lin grabs her hand, and the two of them run off, not wanting to risk getting burned by Tiansu's furious gaze. After Lin is gone, Vicky remains, silently watching where he left, sadness in her eyes. Tiansu approaches and gently places a hand on her shoulder, asking why his beautiful daughter looks so downcast. She lowers her head and says she feels like she might never see Lin again, but quickly dismisses the thought as silly. Tiansu reassures her. He says that Lin is much stronger than he expected. He mentions a move Lin used the day before that was dangerous enough to threaten even someone like him. Vicky is surprised to hear this, and Tiansu confirms it with confidence. He clenches his fist and tells Vicky that when Lin returns, everyone will get back to work. But until then, they will continue to train and improve. He himself plans to undergo special training to make the next fight even more explosive. As Lin and Lily approach the restricted area, Lin begins to feel a wave of anxiety wash over him. He can't explain why. When they arrive, young Shin immediately notices the expression on Lin's face and comes to check on him. Lin drops his backpack on the ground and dusts it off, saying there's nothing to worry about. He asks if young Shin has already said goodbye to his mother, and young Shin confirms he did so earlier that morning. Lin then expresses concern again about Young's decision to join them. 3 days ago, he tried to convince him not to, even with the robot. It would still be dangerous. Lin emphasizes that this whole vacation story is just a facade. They are crossing dimensions to bring back Lily's mother. Young Shin brushes it off and says that since they're going to Lily's home, that's all that matters. He then takes out his phone and shows Lin the modifications he made to the robot, just as Lin asked. By pressing a button, young Shin triggers a transformation. The robot morphs into an elegant carriage pulled by a mechanical horse. Lin and Lily are stunned. Seeing their reactions, young Shin humbly says it's no big deal. The transformation feature already existed, he just customized it. Lin is amazed, slowly realizing just how talented young Shin is. Young Shin mentions that there are other transformation modes, but Lin cuts him off and says the carriage will be enough for now. At that moment, Lin senses the flow of mana beginning to swirl. He steps away from Lily and young Shin, announcing that he is going to open the portal. The gathered mana begins to concentrate in a single spot. Lin kneels and draws a large magic circle. Beneath him, Earth and the continent of Gaia are technically connected. They are separated only by a gate, and now he is about to unlock that gate once the circle is complete. Lin takes a soul stone from his pocket. Normally the portal would open on its own within a year, but the stone will accelerate the process. He crushes it in his hand, and its stored mana merges with the swirling energy. Above the circle, the reaction is instantaneous. A portal begins to open. Lin tells Lily and Young Shin to get in. Quickly into the carriage. After they are inside, he joins them, and they wait as the portal widens. Lily watches with anxious eyes. Lin gently tells her to relax. Comforted, she smiles and says she is ready. A few moments later, Lin turns to her and declares, "It's time." With that, the carriage charges through the gate. The portal closes behind them. Meanwhile, on the continent of Gaia, chaos unfolds in a city engulfed in flames. A gang of bandits roams the streets, killing civilians while searching for something specific. The red-haired leader, wielding a club, approaches the town chief, who is tied up and forced to witness the destruction. The chief shouts in defiance, praying to the gods to punish these criminals. The red-haired leader laughs and tells the chief he should have just cooperated, pointing his weapon at the old man's head. He threatens to kill the chief's grandson if he doesn't give up the information. The terrified chief sweats, but remains silent. Losing his patience, the redhead shouts for answers. Watching from the shadows, a man with a fake mustache grips the hilt of his sword. He had been hiding and watching the slaughter, but now he cannot stand by while his benefactor is in danger. He prepares to reveal himself, apologizing to the chief and saying that he cannot let him die. Just then, a portal appears in the sky before anyone can react. Lin's carriage plummets from the sky, landing violently in the middle of the city. Shock runs through the bandits and the mustached man alike. Everyone stares in disbelief at the strange object. Lin opens the carriage door. Dizzy and disoriented, complaining about the rough landing. As he steps out, he notices the bandits and the tied-up town chief. Sizing up the situation, Lin immediately realizes what is happening. Curious, Lily tries to peek outside, but Lin quickly shuts the door in her face, instructing her to stay hidden. Lin turns and casts a furious glare at the bandits. His attention turns to one who is still taking part in the slaughter of the townspeople. Then he notices a crying child and another trying to calm them down. The sight enrages Lin. He releases his aura and states that he is deeply disappointed, especially since he was excited to see the state of this town. Lin knows that, in 1 year, the portal connecting to Earth will open in this village. Therefore, to increase the value of his property, it becomes clear to him that he must develop the village on his own. A man with a mustache approaches. Lin throws himself in front of him and kneels, calling Lin a magician. The mustached man desperately begs for help. Lin is surprised and asks if the man is really referring to him. The mustached man explains that with teleportation magic of such a scale and such an extraordinary carriage, Lin must be a magician who has reached unimaginable heights. The mustached man presents a bag of gold coins to Lin, saying they will be truly grateful if he helps them. The sight of the gold coins makes Lin happy. He had brought some magic stones to exchange for gold, and the sight of real coins makes him beam with joy as Lin takes the bag. The mustached man adds that if Lin takes care of the bandits, he will pay him 10 times the amount in the bag. The bandits begin to panic. One questions if Lin is truly a powerful mage. Another nervously asks their leader, the redhead, if they should really attack someone like him. The redhead, annoyed by their cowardice, points at the mustached man and reminds them that he is one of their targets. He also notes that their comrades will arrive soon. The bandits quickly regain their confidence. The redhead turns to Lin and advises him to take the money and leave. However, Lin pays him no mind. He's too busy counting the gold coins in the pouch. This irritates the redhead, who angrily asks if Lin is ignoring him. On purpose, Lin continues to ignore him. He turns to the mustached man and notes that there are 25 coins in the pouch. He then asks if the mustached man really intends to pay 10 times more for eliminating the bandits. Smiling, the mustached man affirms that he does this. Gets Lin thinking. He asks if the mustached man would be willing to pay 20 times the amount instead of 10 if he kills the bandits. The mustached man hesitates, so Lin turns his back and says he'll leave if the man doesn't accept. The mustached man quickly grabs Lin's shoulder and agrees to the payment. Getting rid of the bandits was something Lin planned to do anyway, so this seems to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. He turns to the mustached man and accepts the mission. The mustached man thanks Lin with a wry smile, acknowledging he'd been outplayed. The furious redhead orders his subordinates to shoot Lin. The bandits open fire, but Lin activates a shield. The arrows bounce off harmlessly when the attack ends. Lin opens the carriage door and asks Lily to come out. As Lily steps out, Lin asks her to put out the fire. Lily moves her hands forward, gathering the raging flames into her palm. She then consumes them and remarks that this fire is worse than the fire giants. Upon seeing Lily eat the fire, the bandits lose their confidence again. They assume Lily must also be a mage, and this makes them question their attack. The redhead, frustrated, turns to his shaken companions and orders them to release the battle ogre. He insists that with the ogre, they have nothing to fear, since mages are nothing without someone to protect them. This revives the bandits' morale, and they quickly release the ogre once free. The ogre lets out a battle cry, annoyed. Lin turns to Yushin and tells him to handle the situation. Yushin steps out of the carriage and leaps onto the robotic horse. Pulling it, he touches the side of the horse's neck. Initiating a transformation, the mustached man watches in stunned silence as the horse and carriage transform into a golem. The ogre charges forward and attacks with a downward axe swing, but the weapon shatters on contact with the golem. Yushin counterattacks with a powerful punch, knocking the ogre to the ground and defeating it in a single blow. The bandits panic. They try to flee, but Lily blocks their exit with a wall of fire. Lin moves through them quickly, taking each one down. As he takes down the last of them, the redhead calls out to him. Lin turns around. The redhead is holding the village chief hostage and starts making threats, warning Lin not to come any closer. The mustached man anxiously pleads with Lin to save the chief, calling the man his benefactor and begging Lin to keep him safe. Lin replies that if the hostage is indeed the chief, then the mustached man will have to pay extra. The redhead becomes hysterical. He says that if Lin wants to save the chief, he must first put out the fire and bring him a horse. He starts to explain what will happen if Lin defies him, but before he can finish, Lin suddenly appears behind him and decapitates him. As the redhead's body hits the ground, Lin pauses, reflecting on how he just used a sword technique enhanced with stealth and physical strength. Although it's his first time using such a move, in a real battle, he feels the execution wasn't bad. While checking himself for any side effects, he notices a piece of paper falling from the redhead's pocket. Lin recognizes what it is and discreetly puts it in his own pocket. Later, once everything has calmed down, the chief invites Lin, Lili, and Young-shin to his home for a meal. After serving the food, the chief sits down and bows his head. He thanks the trio for saving the village. He adds that, although Lin acted as if he did it for the money, he doesn't believe Lin is a bad person. He points out that Lin used expensive-looking potions on the injured villagers after the fight, when there was no longer a need to. Because of this, the chief tells Lin that he can consider the village his home, and hopes he will enjoy dinner with them. Before Lin can respond, a familiar voice interrupts. Lin looks over and sees the man with the mustache, smiling at him. The man with the mustache thanks Lin for his help and asks the chief if he can join the meal. The chief invites him and the two people accompanying him to sit down, but first turns to Lin and asks if he is comfortable with them joining. Lin says he doesn't mind. The man with the mustache gratefully sits at the table. His two companions also take their seats, and he introduces them. The person in the green cloak is his wife, and the other is their escort guard. Lin responds outwardly with a polite smile, but inside, his suspicions grow. The so-called escort guard was nowhere to be seen during the bandit attack. Lin glances at Young-shin and Lili, who are enjoying the food, and decides to suppress his doubts for now. However, it becomes increasingly difficult when he notices the three newcomers staring at him intensely. Sensing the attention, the chief tries to change the subject. He asks Lin if he is traveling somewhere and wants to know his destination. Lin replies that they are heading to a small village in the kingdom of Peru to find someone. This answer surprises the wife of the man with the mustache. Lin notices her reaction and watches her, but she quickly looks away. This reinforces his suspicions. The man with the mustache then adds that to reach the kingdom of Peru, Lin will have to cross the border. He smiles and says that they are also heading in that direction. This confirms one of Lin's suspicions. He can now see that they are making plans. The chief stands up, saying he will bring more food. Lin concludes that, although they call the chief their benefactor, he probably knows more about them than he lets on. Lin continues to feign ignorance and focuses on the meal. The man with the mustache gets his attention and says he has a favor to ask. Clasping his hands, he asks for Lin's help in escorting them to the border. Lin continues to act as if he knows nothing, and asks why they need help if they already have an escort guard. The escort guard responds sternly, stating that he has heard of Lin's remarkable skills, and since their destination is the same, he questions why Lin is making such a fuss over the request. Lin smiles, and the escort guard's tone confirms his final suspicion. These people are not peasants. They are nobles, pretending to be commoners. Lin reaches into his pocket and pulls out the piece of paper he recovered from the redhead's corpse. He places it on the table and refuses their request. It's a wanted poster showing someone who looks very much like the man with the mustache. The name on the poster is Rokan Allen, a court mage with a bounty of 100,000. He is wanted alive for the crime of mutiny. As Lin presents the poster, he explains that the bandit leader had it in his possession. From his calculations, Lin estimates that Earth and the Gaia continent will be connected in approximately, in 1 year. Trade between the two dimensions is expected to begin about 6 months after the first contact in his past life. Liam was only able to travel to Gaia after all the political conflicts were resolved, however. During his time there, he learned about several important historical events, some of which might be happening right now. Currently, they are in a small village called Ron, located in the Principality of Rix in the southeastern part of the continent. If Liam remembers correctly, a rebellion should be underway in the Duchy of Rix around this time. Smiling with satisfaction at the thought, he suspects the people around him might be directly involved. Alan stands up from his chair and approaches Liam. Asking if there is only one flyer, Liam confirms that there is. Without hesitation, Alan kneels at Liam's feet. He begs him to let his wife and her companion cross the border in exchange for taking Alan and claiming the reward for his head. The woman and the companion are shocked by Alan's request, but before they can respond, Liam suddenly rises from his chair, asking if they are trying to play him for a fool. Liam explains that something was wrong from the beginning, specifically the woman Alan claims is his wife. Liam reveals his suspicion that she is none other than Princess Lena, the last surviving member of the Rix royal family, who supposedly escaped during the rebellion's overthrow of the monarchy. His guess terrifies Alan and the others. The escort, though shaken, quickly regains his composure. He positions himself firmly in front of the woman and orders her to stay behind him, turning to Liam. He warns that any step further will be met with force. The escort draws his sword and slashes downward, but Liam, armed with only a dinner knife, effortlessly blocks the attack. The escort continues with a flurry of strikes, but Liam parries each one with ease. As he dodges, Liam comments that if it weren't for the guard's age and injuries, he might have actually been a threat. In a swift move, Liam sidesteps, kicks the guard's foot, and sends him to the ground. Liam mocks him for making excuses. Turning to Alan, he asks if they can speak alone, but Alan, now agitated, warns Liam to back away and begins to cast a fireball spell. He threatens to burn the whole place down and get any closer. Before he can finish his incantation, Lily interrupts by casually absorbing the fireball. While chewing on her sandwich, she scolds Alan for playing around during a meal and turns to Jensen for support. Jensen, unaware of what's happening, just nods his head. Liam approaches Alan and punches him, with so much force that Alan is sent flying like a bug. As Alan rolls across the floor, Liam reflects, aloud, that he hoped this display of force would calm everyone down enough to talk. Suddenly, the village chief rushes in, brandishing a blade. He yells that, no matter how much Liam has helped, they will not allow the princess to be harmed. As he charges forward, he declares that he once served as a knight and only retired to become this village's chief. He is more than willing to sacrifice himself to protect her. Liam steps aside to avoid the attack, then touches one of the chief's mana points with 2 fingers. The man instantly falls, paralyzed. Liam walks past the fallen chief and addresses the princess directly, asking her to calm down and listen. Alan yells from behind for the princess to run from the ugly bastard. Alan insists that Liam won't be able to take the princess as long as he is still breathing. Liam gives a sarcastic smile and mockingly asks what Alan intends to do if he decides to take her by force before anything else can happen. The princess asks everyone to stop. She lowers her head and admits she always knew this day would come, removing her hood. She agrees to go with Lin peacefully, on the condition that he lets the others go. Alan and the escort protest, but the princess remains firm. She demands that Lin take her away quickly. Lin lets go of Alan and sighs, looking at the princess with frustration. He asks why she is acting as if he were the villain. He reminds her that he never said he intended to hurt anyone. The princess asks if Lin intends to hand them over to the rebels. If not, she says, then perhaps they can talk. She extends her hand, offering a truce. Lin looks at her hand and replies that nothing in this world is free. The princess quickly retracts her hand, thinking to herself that she was right. No one is free from greed. With determination, she throws her cloak in Lin's face, obstructing his vision, then lunges forward to attack. Lin dodges and tries to grab her hand, but she disappears and reappears behind him. He turns, surprised by her agility. She uses the same movement technique to take Lily hostage. Holding a blade to Lily's throat, she warns Lin to drop his weapons, or the girl will be hurt. Lin hesitates and warns the princess not to do anything reckless. Junshin, completely unconcerned, tells Lily that he managed to save the food. Lily, visibly annoyed, yells at the princess for interrupting her meal. Confused, the princess orders Lily to stop moving, but before she can react further, Lily activates her shield and sends the princess flying. As the princess struggles to regain her balance, Lily runs back to the table to continue eating. Seeing her disoriented, Lin approaches the princess and asks if she is ready to surrender, but before he can finish, she throws a shower of knives. Lin dodges them all with ease, activates his camouflage, and closes the distance in an instant. He grabs her by the face and starts to remove what looks like a mask. Despite her protests, Lin insists he needs to verify her identity. When he finally removes the mask, he confirms that she is a half-elf, likely Princess Lina. Satisfied, Lin strikes one of her mana points, telling her to calm down and rest a bit. She faints. Alan and the escort rush forward, shouting for Lin to stop. Annoyed, Lin quickly immobilizes them with pressure point strikes. He turns to Lily and Junshin, saying he warned the others not to move. Then he asks if they can help carry the unconscious bodies. When they finish eating, Lily, still chewing, tells him to wait a second so she can finish her meal. Sometime later, the princess regains consciousness. Alan and the escort are visibly worried, noticing they have been tied up. The princess murmurs that it seems they have finally been caught. She turns to Lin, who is sitting in front of them, and asks what he plans to do now. This woman is indeed Princess Lina, a direct descendant of the Rix royal bloodline and the granddaughter of an elven elder. As a half-elf of noble birth, Lin knows from his past life that she is destined to die a tragic death, a death that could trigger a devastating racial war, and Lin wants to prevent that. So he holds up 3 fingers and offers them 3 choices. First, he could sell them to the rebels. Second, they could all go their separate ways and pretend they never met. Upon hearing this, Alan quickly interjects, offering all the money he has in exchange for their freedom. Lin laughs, saying that if he wanted their money, he could have just taken it while they were unconscious. Finally, Lin presents the third option. He will personally accompany them to the elven forest. The offer surprises Alan and the escort, who ask why Lin would do such a thing. Lin smiles and says they are going in the same direction anyway, but once again, nothing in life is free. He asks the princess to arrange a meeting with her grandmother. The princess hesitates. Having someone as powerful as Lin escorting them is more than she could hope for, but she still doesn't trust him, narrowing her eyes. She asks why he wants to meet her grandmother, and warns that if he has other intentions, there will be consequences. Lin sighs in frustration. He tells her directly that if he wanted trouble, he wouldn't be offering to help. His honesty catches her by surprise, leaving her momentarily speechless. While she thinks, Lin remembers the main reason they came to the Gaia continent, to find Lily's parents. But he also plans to gather certain useful items along the way, and manipulating people like Alina will help him achieve that. So be it. With a smile, he tells her that the only reason he is doing this is because he wants to arrange something important for some people on the Gaia continent. There is a being who has lived longer than any other, a creature known as Abraxas, the wise dragon. Legends say he has mastered all the knowledge and magic in the world. Lin believes that if anyone can help him understand the strange watch attached to his wrist, the probable cause of his regression, it would be this dragon. However, only an elder elf can find such a being. Lin calmly asks the princess and her escort if his request is really so unreasonable. The princess speaks up, explaining that even if her grandmother grants permission, there is no guarantee the dragon will agree to meet. Lin accepts this and tells her that he just wants her to fulfill her part of the deal. The rest is up to him. The next day, their journey to the forest begins. Inside the carriage, Alan marvels at the magical features, the controlled airflow, the folding chairs, the reflective mirrors. Lin, however, stares straight ahead, annoyed. He tells Alan to be quiet, warning him not to wake the children. Alan apologizes. Outside, Leonard holds the reins. Lin notices Leonard's wounds and asks if it is safe for him to drive. Leonard was poisoned but has already been detoxified. Lin suggests they switch later, and lets the two of them decide the matter on their own. Inside the carriage, Alina sits upright with her arms crossed, refusing to talk. Lin turns to her, curious. Lin reminds her of the rules. She is not to expect royal treatment. She must follow Lin's instructions without question, and until they reach the elven forest, her royal seal is his collateral. Alina reflects in silence. Only she knows that the real seal is with her, and not even her bodyguards are aware of this. But somehow, Lin found out the truth. Sitting in front of her, Lin asks what she plans to do when they reach the forest. Alina replies that she will retrieve the seal. Lin says he has no intention of keeping it. She then declares that she will gather her forces, punish the traitors, and retake her kingdom. Lin warns that such ambitions will lead to war. He tells her to do as she wishes, but warns that the obsession with revenge will cost her her youth. He smiles gently and says it is just a piece of advice from an older man. Alina watches Lin, calling him lazy and overly optimistic. He shrugs and says it is just his way of living. As the sun filters through the trees, the carriage stops. Suddenly, Alina pulls back, anxious. Lin senses they have been caught. Leonard confirms that this is the Marquis of Hamilton's pursuing detachment. Lily, still sleepy, murmurs about breakfast. Lin orders Jung Shin to stop the carriage. When asked why the horses had stopped obeying, Lin says they will move again soon. He tells Leonard to rest inside. A group of armed warriors appears, surrounding the carriage. As a man steps forward, he greets Leonard with feigned familiarity, asking if the half-elf is inside. Leonard seems to know him and calls him a traitor. The man is named Viscount Monty. He says that he is now a count. He scoffs at Leonard's former title of hero and laughs at the idea that someone who never even achieved the status of a master swordsman could deserve such praise. He announces that he will face Leonard alone, and his knight must stand aside. Leonard raises his hand to cast a spell, but Monte strikes first, knocking away his weapon and stabbing him. As Monte prepares for a final blow, Lin intervenes. His strike slices through Monte's mustache, distracting him. Lin quickly orders the mage to take Leonard back to the carriage and heal him with an expensive potion. Monte becomes furious and calls Lin a bastard. He threatens to slice his soul with an aura blade. Lin, unfazed, says he can conjure one too. Monte is shocked. He claims that no young man should possess such power. As they cross swords, Lin mocks Monte's technique, easily parrying his blows. Monte roars that he will finish Lin, but Lin remains calm, reflecting on his recent progress thanks to his training with Bic and the manifestation of the Sword Emperor's records. Lin has grown, but defeating someone like this count requires more than just skills. Monte mocks Lin for retreating like a rat. Lin replies that he hasn't even started yet. Lin dashes forward and lands a clean hit. Monte furiously attacks what turns out to be an afterimage. He calls Lin a coward once more. Lin slices his mustache again, causing him to lose his composure. Monte orders his knights to attack the carriage and kill everyone except the princess. Zheng Xin mounts his horse. He declares that he will handle the knights alone, as an imposing robot appears by his side. The knights are dumbfounded. Zheng Xin replies that he is more than enough on his own. The machine charges, scattering the enemy ranks. Meanwhile, Lin continues to fight Monte. Monte refuses to yield, and Lin urges him to focus. Monte's rage intensifies as he unleashes a demonic aura. Lin realizes that Monte is wielding a cursed demonic sword. Monte grins maliciously and announces Lin's death. He taunts Lin, asking if he truly believes he is capable of handling such a dangerous weapon. As Monte emanates a red aura all around him, Lin responds with unshakable confidence that he can handle it. Then, Monte scowls, demanding to know where Lin keeps trying to escape to. Lin grips his sword, parrying. Blow after blow. Cracks begin to spread across the blade, dark energy surging from the fissures. The explosion of aura throws Lin violently backward. He coughs up blood, gasping for air. Monte steps forward, laughing loudly at Lin's struggle. But before Monte can press his advantage, Lily extends her hand, calling out firmly as jets of fire explode toward Monte. He growls and commands his cursed sword to absorb the flames. Suddenly, a robot appears beside Lily. It warns her not to get directly involved, as the danger is too great. Zheng Xin watches cautiously, ready to intervene. Monte now confronts Lin, savoring the taste of a real fight after so long. He scoffs at the childish games and urges Lin to stop wasting time. Lin clenches his fist, a spark igniting in his eyes. He announces that he will now reveal what a true cheat item is capable of. He charges forward, sword ready to kill. Lin swings his fist, releasing a blinding stream of energy that tears through the air. Alina watches with concern while Lily smiles with joy. A deep trench opens up at his feet from the power of Lin's strike. Lin realizes this is the first time he has used the special item, and wisely limits its energy to 25%. Even so, its power proves more useful than he expected. A luminous aura envelops the sword as Lin lifts it, noticing there isn't a single scratch on its surface. The blade's durability is impressive. He narrows his eyes, remembering a similar weapon he once heard of. The demonic sword, Salad. He imagines a blood-soaked blade and countless victims, knowing the sword grants immense power at the cost of its wielder's soul. The user gradually falls into madness, consumed by demonic energy. The weapon's possession has changed hands countless times, each victim lost to the curse. Lin stares intently at the blade, now completely certain of its identity. It was supposedly last seen during the peak of the race war. It had the best stats among the demonic swords, though now that he holds it, he hesitates to use it completely. He feels that even selling such a sword would stain his hands with blood. The carriage travels through the forest, and Lin casually wonders if he could trade the demonic sword for a holy weapon later. Leonard looks away and asks how far they are from the border. Lin replies that they will soon reach Randall, but to cross the border beyond the city, they will need a pass. The border itself is 3 days away after leaving Randall. Leonard nods grimly, admitting uncertainty about whether he can last that long. The princess begs him not to give up, and the old warrior apologizes, explaining that his strength is no longer what it once was. Not even magic can restore his fading energy. Alina looks at Leonard and admits that his presence alone gives her strength. She encourages him to never again use words that sound like weakness. Lin flips through a book to ward off boredom. When asked what he is reading, he shrugs and says it is just a distraction. Leonard and Alina exchange glances. Then, Leonard speaks cautiously, asking if he can ask for a favor. Lin slams the book shut forcefully and simply refuses to listen. However, Leonard continues, saying that if Lin helps them reclaim the kingdom, he will receive anything he desires: title, money, anything. But Lin replies that he will only believe their promises if they give it to him now. The blonde mage sits next to Leonard. Her hands tremble as she imagines the hardships of crossing the border with them. Leonard imagines long nights on horseback, and his past glories, victories, and wars, praised as a hero destined to master the sword. However, now he feels broken, unable to protect the princess from the traitors. He lowers his gaze, overwhelmed by failure. Lin looks out the window, telling Leonard that he heard him and will offer nothing more. The carriage stops near the gates of the Randall fortress. Torches flicker in the twilight. Lin declares that only he, Lily, and Alina will enter the fortress. The rest will stay here. Alan protests, worried about the princess's safety. Lin questions how he can trust them enough to leave her here. Realizing that Lin is taking the princess to prevent reckless actions, Alan tries to defend himself, but Lin retorts sharply, reminding them of how they once took a baby hostage. The girl calmly replies that everything will be fine, and that she will accompany him. They move fast, quickly running across the rooftops around the Randall fortress. Leon leads Lily and the princess forward. Alina asks if there's a nearby shop to buy supplies, but Leon insists they must handle another matter first and warns them not to get distracted. Alina wrinkles her nose at the unpleasant smell permeating the area. She asks everyone to leave, quickly. Leon explains that it's the usual smell of the slums. People are sitting on the bare ground, children climb on barrels. The princess questions how anyone can live in such misery, and a local resident replies that she knows nothing, having never left the palace walls. This poverty is a part of the kingdom she doesn't understand. They enter a local bar, where a man asks Leon if they want beer, but Leon pushes a coin forward, stating he wants to ask for information from the Thieves' Guild. The man eyes the coin suspiciously, asking if it's gold. Bandits behind him draw knives, intending to rob them if they have anything valuable. Lily looks at Leon, who silently nods. They've come to the right place. Chains of flame engulf the bandits, who mutter about whether the newcomers are mages. Leon looks away. When the man asks what they want, Daniel bows and asks to follow the man. Leon allows it, explaining that he needs a pass and some information. He sits across from a bald man who talks about the pass and asks for their destination. Leon looks at him seriously and says he is traveling to the kingdom of Teru. The man asks how long they need to make the pass. He still can't believe the tavern's basement hides such a vast space. The bag of coins drops onto the table. The man replies that it will take at least 1 week, but it can be done in 2 days, if Leon's status as a mage and his 5 servants are considered. Lily and the princess look at him in surprise. He thinks the girl must have gotten her hands on all the knight's gold coins, so money is not an issue. The man assures them they will do everything as best as possible, closing his eyes. The bald man listens as Leon mentions he's looking for a mage who wears a goblin mask and probably has only 1 arm. The man places his hand under the table and says he's heard rumors. First, they must check if there are any records about this mage. Leon looks ahead suspiciously, thinking these guys might know more than they're letting on. Night falls on the settlement as Leon and his companions are told they must be taken to the headquarters of the Thieves' Guild, because the information they seek can only be accessed there. Leon shrugs, saying it doesn't matter, and they can be taken wherever necessary. The bald bandit watches them, convinced that Leon, who calls himself a mage, overestimates his abilities. He plans to get rid of them as soon as they arrive, and take Leon's gold coins for himself. The cloaked man stops at the gate, which is stained with blood. Leon reflects that if someone isn't part of the Thieves' Guild, finding its headquarters is nearly impossible. Most outsiders who enter never return. This also means the guild's treasury must be full of valuable items. Leon looks at Lily beside him and asks if her legs hurt. She says no, but when he offers her food, she admits she's a little hungry. Leon hands her a package and encourages her to eat. Hoping to ease her tension, Lily blushes, chews gratefully, and thanks him for the thoughtful gesture inside the reception area. Behind the bald man, chairs line the room. The bandit politely asks them to wait while he fetches an informant. Leon suspects this is all a trap, and asks if they really walked all this way just to wait. Again, he demands to be taken quickly. Suddenly the man touches the wall, Triggering a trap, a huge cage descends around them, sealing their fate. The princess grabs the bars, screaming that they were betrayed and hunted the whole time. Gold Mary, the leader of the thieves, steps forward, crossing her arms. Lin wonders if this is the same Gold Mary he's heard about, and if Goblin Mask is influential enough to have brought her here. The bald man denies knowing Alina's identity, but Lin remains firm, explaining that she sometimes gets delusional and they should ignore her. Goldmary announces that the latest information confirms that the woman is indeed Princess Alina. Goldmary is surprised and asks if the princess has changed her appearance, stating that she doesn't look like the face she knows. She orders her subordinates to send information about the princess and lure them with the promise of revealing what she truly looks like. Alina protests, denying the accusations. Lin asks her if they know about someone who wears a goblin mask, or an orc. Goldmary thinks Lin must be dangerous since he is looking for masked men, so she asks Lin who he really is. Lin steps forward and asks why she asks so many questions when he is the one paying for information. He demands answers and criticizes their shabby service. Goldmary snaps her fingers and explains. The situation unfolds as a magic seal blocks their powers. A glowing barrier appears above, sealing away all magic. Lin clenches his fist, annoyed for not having anticipated this trap. Alina explains that humans cannot penetrate such barriers. Behind Goldmary, armed men stand guard. She demands that Lin reveal why he is looking for the goblin mask. Lin reaches under his cloak and reveals a weapon. He claims he is after something holding the weapon Zeus, the original weapon of Aiden, in front of her. Suddenly he fires, and the woman falls bleeding. As men in black robes rush towards them, Alina covers her ears, and Lin orders everyone to hide under the table just in case. Lily nods in understanding. Lin reloads, thinking about the weapon's name, Zeus, and the power it holds. He continues firing from the cage, satisfied that they do not possess such a weapon. Goldmary bleeds on the floor. She growls that Lin is locked in the cage and threatens to come back to kill him. Lin grabs the hilt of his sword and asks where she is going. The sword glows, and he declares that even without mana, he can cut through these thin bars. Goldmary sits up on the floor asking if Lin is really a mage. He replies that he simply asked for a pass. Now it's his turn to ask the questions. Lin pressures the woman. Where is the goblin mask? Near the fortress, Alan is worried that the sun had already risen, but they still haven't arrived, and he worries about saving the princess. An explosion occurs behind them. Alan shouts that they must run to the city, but at that moment, Lin and his companions approach. Alan greets the princess, relieved that she has returned safely, mentioning his concern about the fire in the city. Lin smiles, explaining that the fire was intentional to destroy evidence. When asked about the bags he is carrying, he says they are gifts. An emerald staff and mandrake preserved in honey, a scroll with blueprints for a magic weapon is revealed along with sparkling jewels, the shadow bracelet, capable of changing one's appearance, and the persona necklace. Lin lets the bags drop with a thud, saying he got everyone what they needed. He examines the loot and calls it a good haul. Lin's gaze falls, regret welling up. As he realizes that much of his time has been wasted, he discovers that Goldmary has been brainwashed. She screams at him not to speak ill of them, calling them her masters. Lin is sure that even Goldmary follows them blindly. She knows nothing about their true masters and their intentions. A red sphere glows in Lin's hand. It is a magical communication device used only to receive messages and is frequently used by criminals. Children sleep nearby. While Lin admits that everything seems confusing, he imagines a palace overflowing with gold coins and deduces that there are few places where such vast sums could be invested in experiments on children. If his assumptions are wrong, the culprit must be a group with equally massive influence. Lien only wanted to catch Goblin Mask, but the conspiracy has grown far beyond what he ever imagined. Lien looks at the sleeping Lily and suddenly realizes they must be looking for her. She was the one who escaped. Lien thinks it wouldn't hurt to let them come after Lily. Before them rise the imposing mountains where the border wall of the principality stands. Of Rix. Built in the deepest ravines of the continent, this ancient barrier has stopped monsters from descending from the central mountain range for hundreds of years. Lien opens the map and explains their plan. They will cross the border wall then, head to the elven forest north of the mountain range, and finally reach the kingdom of Teru to find Lily's mother. The princess and her bodyguards sit before Lien with faces heavy with worry. He asks why they look so grim, reminding them that the border is near. Leonard wonders if Lien himself has lost hope with such a reckless plan. Lien simply explains that they intend to cross the barrier by breaking through it with speed and force. Since they don't have a permit to cross the wall, this is their only option. Leonard shakes his head and warns Lien that he doesn't understand who guards that border. Lien looks straight ahead and says he knows. Count Gokhan, who commands the Order of the Black Lion Knights sworn to fight monsters beyond the wall. He is a master swordsman. Leonard says he understands Leon's confidence since he defeated Count Monte, but warns Leon that Gokhan is on a different level, considered the best swordsman in the world. Alina the princess lowers her gaze, bitterness in her voice. When the traitor Orman rebelled, Gokhan rose to protect the kingdom, but as the rebellion grew, he refused to answer the call, insisting that the wall could not be left undefended. She suspects Gokhan guards the wall because he has something precious to protect. At the entrance of the fortress wall, people are lined up according to status and purpose, waiting for passes. The fortress has 6 gates, and only those of high rank can use the largest ones. The princess observes a young man nearby, mocking the strict rules, questioning if the sky would fall if a low-class person used the wrong gate. Alina presses her hand against the window, remembering how she once believed that differences in status were natural. Now she thinks of the common people, oppressed by the civil war, those who lost their homes and freedom. Her eyes close and she silently prays for a chance to fix this broken world. Leonard Allen, another guard, promise her that they will create that chance and help her. Even if Manhart unleashes his wrath, they will break a path through the wall for her. Lien moves away from Alina, who thanks them silently. Lien refuses to complicate things. Jock the coachman holds the reins. Lien tells him to drive, and Jock nods. Lien announces that they are about to begin. At the gate, a guard raises his hand to stop them, and demands their names. Warriors brandish blades, ready to defend. Lien steps forward masked and confident, declaring that they are going to the kingdom of Teru. He knows this will attract the attention of a true soul-hunting goblin. Suddenly, a weapon is pointed at the guard. A shot is fired, and a scream echoes as the wall's alarms blare. Lien turns to Jock, ordering him to ride faster. The horse-drawn carriage surges forward. Inside, 2 groups of men face each other. Count Gokhan, accompanied by a scarred man with a dangerous gaze, is asked to accept the sovereign's decree. He scoffs, asking for it to be repeated. An official demands that Gokhan kneel and accept the order. Gokhan's eyes gleam with contempt. He refuses, saying he has never recognized that man as his sovereign. If anyone has something to say, he demands they come and say it to his face. Tearing up the decree, he dismisses the old man with a heavy hand. From a balcony, Garrick watches over the land before him. A heavily armed warrior asks what to do if the princess is found. Garrick responds coldly. She has fled the country and must be killed on sight. The warrior bows and says, "It will be done." Garrick pondered the contents of the letter, noting the mention of a boy who killed Klaus. There is a strong warrior here in this small land that Garrick did not know of. His eyes shift. Meanwhile, the carriage speeds down the road. Liam, still masked, wields a sword. Blood trickles from his mouth after taking a fierce blow. Warriors advance on him, but he fights back fiercely. Liam spreads out a map showing the Lion Fortress. The border wall is a 2-tiered structure, with another fortress wall a kilometer ahead. Their plan is to push forward as fast as possible. Arrows fly, and Lily's shield ability intercepts them. Liam's eyes remain sharp as he anticipates the danger. Mages atop the walls cast lethal spells, but Alan counters with a powerful magic shield. The horse-drawn carriage pushes forward amid the chaos. Liam orders Lily to direct her firepower at the wall. Flames ignite in her hands as she prepares to strike. Suddenly, Liam senses a dangerous presence approaching. As he orders everyone to keep moving, Liam clashes swords with Garrick. The scarred swordsman is surprised that Liam is holding his ground. After blocking the strike, Liam's hand trembles slightly. He recognizes the raw power behind Garrick's skill. Garrick smiles cruelly, asking if he's the real deal. Liam stands before the commander, who casually tells him to enjoy himself, gripping the hilt of his own sword tightly. Liam curses under his breath, blocking Garrick's powerful strike with a swift swing of his blade. The masked protagonist watches nervously. Just as he'd been warned, Garrick is obsessed with martial arts and shows no mercy in combat. His eyes hold the wild expression of a madman. The scarred man grins widely as he faces Liam in a fierce clash. The masked protagonist calculates his chances. Although Garrick's strength is immense, he realizes he has the advantage in speed. When Garrick extends his hand to the side, exposing his flank, Liam spots an opening. Seizing the opportunity, he aims his sword at the commander. Garrick just smiles and says this is very interesting. Then, swinging his sword forward, he remarks that Liam's blade, much like his own, has clearly been tempered in real combat. With that, he invites Liam to show him what he can do. Liam raises his arm to the side and asks if Garrick is truly curious, warning him that this might hurt. Liam's fist begins to glow with a blue aura, and a brilliant flash erupts as he unleashes a strike. Using only a quarter of his strength, the tip of his sword scrapes the ground. Garrick braces his blade with both hands and says with surprising sincerity that, thanks to Liam, He feels alive for the first time in a long time. Holding his sword defensively, Liam coldly replies that it's a shame. He was hoping Garrick would feel dead instead. The commander charges forward, declaring that since Liam started this, he must also be the one to finish it. Liam wonders aloud if the man is insane. He detests pointless fights and notes that the carriage should have reached the fortress gates by now. Perhaps he thinks it's time to make his exit. Liam looks ahead, confused, when Lily's voice calls out to him. The girl appears, hovering in the air with a confident expression, and shouts that she's here to help. Liam is shocked to see her and asks why she came back, especially when he is risking everything to buy them time. Lily lands beside Liam and declares she couldn't just abandon him. Not after what Zeke said, and not when everyone else turned back as well. A carriage approaches, carrying their comrades. Alan quickly checks if Liam is all right, and the princess insists that she couldn't possibly leave a comrade behind. Lynn murmurs that he was wondering why things had gotten so quiet at that moment. He notices a large number of knights behind the commander, and then understands that this place is completely surrounded by military forces, and worst of all, they still have to fight Kale. Lynn raises his sword one more time and declares that there is no other choice. If they are going to escape, they must be prepared for one of them to die. Lynn remains frozen without a reaction. The commander laughs loudly, placing a hand on his head. When asked what is so funny, he recalls running across the rooftops, and replies that he is just curious. He wonders aloud why Lynn has not killed anyone yet. Surely with his power, he could have shattered a wall in seconds. Kale's expression becomes serious as he suggests that Lynn considers them unworthy at this moment. A blonde figure appears beside Lynn. He calmly explains that it was a request from the client. Kale's pupils narrow as he questions him again. Alina, still wearing her mask, remains silent. Lynn reveals that the client was actually a princess and she did not want anyone to suffer. For Lynn, it was not difficult to fulfill this request. The commander approaches Lynn and asks if he is still eager to fight. But then, to everyone's surprise, Kale declares that the fight is over. He offers to write them a pass, asking only that they spend the night. Lynn, sweating a little, questions him again, surprised by the sudden change. Later, during dinner at the Black Lion's residence, it is revealed that Kale is fascinated by strong warriors. According to rumors, he even once invited superhumans from Earth to dinner during their passage through the wall. Lynn raises his mug and reflects on how strange it is to find himself in such an honored place. He had heard that if Kale likes a fight, he sometimes gives gifts. Looking at Lynn, Kale comments that the boy looks younger than expected, although his skill with the sword rivals his own. Lynn shrugs, replying that he simply has a young face, but has lived a long and full life. Bottles pile up on the table as Kale, now intrigued, says that Lynn does not seem to be from this country. He asks where he learned to wield a sword so well. Lynn thinks about their conversation and realizes that the family of Kale has been guarding the wall for generations and will probably continue to do so. Curious, Lynn asks why Kale, so interested in the outside world, does not leave the wall to see it for himself. Closing his eyes, Kale replies that abandoning family duty for personal greed is unacceptable. He insists that Lynn must finish the story he started. Lynn begins to recount what happened at the bottom of the lake where he lost consciousness. Alina looks at Kale and finally speaks, asking how long he plans to pretend not to recognize her. The commander casually scratches his ear and replies that it suddenly itched. With growing frustration, Alina accuses him of cowardice, of being unable to face her because he failed to protect the sovereign. Kale's expression turns grim. As he releases a menacing aura, he coldly replies that if Lynn had not intervened, he would have cut her throat himself. She should be grateful to still be alive. The blonde princess clenches her fist and defiantly declares her name, Alina Lionheart, rightful heir to the throne. She reminds Kale that he is a knight of the wall and demands he remember his oath. Kale smiles, saying that she is better than her father, bold and eloquent. The blonde protests, asking him not to insult her father. Kale scoffs, calling her father a coward who feared his own strength and never supported him. Lynn grows tired of the conversation and calls her boring. Lena disagrees, saying that's no excuse for insults. Gokhan then explains that his decision not to intervene in the civil war was strategic. If the wall were left unprotected, there would be a risk of invasion. He argues that her father was not worth putting the entire country at risk, and warns Lena not to return to this land. If she does, there will be consequences. But Lena refuses to back down. She vows to return, punish the traitors, and reclaim her country. When Gokhan questions her belief that she can change things, Lena firmly says that she can. She recounts the bloodshed she witnessed, the brave knights who died for her, and the poor citizens suffering under tyranny. She promises to change the system from the ground up. She announces her first decree. The 6 local gates will be open to the public and the class system will be dismantled. Gokhan narrows his eyes and asks if she truly believes that he will allow this to happen. Lena replies without hesitation, "This is the will of the Empress." As tensions boil, Lin simply turns his head, thinking about finding a place to nap. Gokhan laughs again, and the men near the wall continue their tasks. One insists he is on an urgent mission, but is told to wait, as it will take time. As Gokhan walks along the wall, he orders the Hounds of Oromond to wait at the gate for a few more hours before being sent away. When asked what to do with the princess, he replies that he will wait and watch. One day, they will meet again on this wall. The scene shifts to the central mountain range, where the sun shines on the entrance to the elven forest. A voice says, "They have been waiting." An elf steps forward, places a hand on his chest, and introduces himself as Garant, a researcher from the elven forest of Cypher. He explains that the Supreme Elder sent him to escort them. Lin stands behind Lena, who urgently asks to be taken to her grandmother. Lin reflects on the Elder's gift of foresight and feels relieved. They can safely proceed to the village. Lin stops when an elf approaches and questions him about the presence of demons. Surprised, Lin asks for clarification. The group is near a carriage, as the elf explains that he senses a corrupting demonic energy, making Lin unfit to enter the village. In this state, Lin wonders if it is just an elven prejudice against humans. Garant extends a hand toward the blade, confirming that it is a demon sword. Lin suggests it is probably his fault and offers to take the weapon. Lin calmly replies that the matter is closed, and proposes they move on, but the elf disagrees. Holding the sword, the elf accuses Lin of being a demon. Lily gasps in fear, shocked by the accusation. Lily approaches Garant and asks what he is doing. Garant, visibly disturbed, exclaims that his eyes do not deceive him, that the girl is the devil. Worried, the girl looks forward and pleads, insisting it is not like that. But the elf, perceiving a terrible demonic energy, explains that he can feel a great evil within her. He accuses her of suppressing a deep, burning desire to kill, calling her absolutely disgusting. Lin approaches, standing behind Garant, and urges him to stop. Garant calls Lin ignorant, and demands to know if he even understands who he is protecting. The elf then points his sword at Lily. Lin, unshaken, calmly replies that yes, he does understand, and that is precisely why he is asking Garant to stop. He explains that, although the girl appears to be an ordinary child on the outside, on the inside, she has undergone a demonic baptism. Garant grimaces at Lin's words, insisting that the girl must be destroyed immediately. As he raises his hand, Lin steps in and stops him, asking if he can even hear himself. In a fit of rage, Liam punches the elven researcher and warns him to never say those things again. In front of the child, the elves behind Garen draw their weapons, demanding that Liam get out of the way. They question how he dares to attack one of their own, but Liam remains calm and silent despite their aggression. Dark energy begins to emanate from Liam as he orders them to deliver a message. To the High Elder, they are not permitted to enter the elven forest. He adds that if she does not come to them in person, in 2 days he will burn everything under the night sky and among the trees. Liam advises the mage to rest in the carriage if he feels tired. The mage replies that he is fine. Liam then sits down in front of Alan, who admits he is ashamed to look Lily in the eyes. He reflects on the absurd claim that she underwent a demonic baptism, noting that even healthy adult men usually die in the ritual. 9 out of 10 do not survive. Liam, listening intently, says that it seems Alan knows a little about it. Alan explains that he once read about the baptism in a book and that only high-ranking sorcerers can perform such a ritual. He adds that it demands an enormous amount of money and magical materials. More importantly, the pain is unbearable. Almost no one survives. Liam clenches his fists in anger, silently vowing to end the bastard in the goblin mask who did this. Later, as they sit by the fire, Liam ends the conversation, encouraging everyone to get some sleep. Lily, hugging a stuffed animal, tells Liam she cannot sleep. He suggests she switch places with the mage to feel more comfortable. Clouds drift over the treetops as Lily sits by the fire. She turns to Liam and asks, softly, if she is going to become a demon. Liam, sitting across from her, honestly replies that he does not know. Lily then asks what she should do if her mother ends up hating her. Liam hesitates, opening his mouth before speaking. He says half-jokingly that she really does seem like a little devil because she never listens, eats a lot, and has a difficult personality. Lily looks at him, seeking more clarity, so he continues. He admits that he was exactly the same at her age, never listening to anyone. He did not study and only spent his time playing with friends. His parents probably thought he was a little devil too. Lily squeezes her toy as Liam says that her mother is probably just as worried about her as his parents were with him. Lily agrees, agreeing that her mother is no different. In the center of the clearing, Lily suddenly suggests the three of them live together once they find her mother. Liam laughs and asks if she really intends to stop a good bachelor from getting married. He jokes that he will buy an apartment near the guild and live there just with her. Lily then innocently asks where he would live. As she lies down next to Yuna, Liam comments that she is very clingy. Settling down on the grass, Liam suddenly hears someone approaching. A blonde elf appears silently before him despite having extended the range of his senses to prevent a surprise attack. Liam is stunned. He had not noticed her presence at all. Sweat forms on Liam's forehead as he realizes that only one person among the elves possesses such power. He wonders aloud if she is the High Elder. The elf gives a respectful bow and confirms his assumption. She adds that she heard her children behaved rudely toward him and offers her sincere apologies, placing a hand over her chest. The High Elder thanks him for saving her granddaughter and changing her fate. Liam stands before her and replies that he is not the one who deserves the apology, although he still accepts it. He then mentions Lena, asking if the elder was informed of the conditions he had laid out. Upon bringing the girl there, the elder confirms she has already contacted the dragon, Liam, and then asks about the reply. She tells him the reply hasn't arrived yet and might take a few days. Pensive, Liam considers if they should check on the kingdom of Perun. Meanwhile, the Shadowmancer asks if they wish to wait for the dragon's response. In the elven forest, as buildings emerge above the canopy, she formally invites them to Cyprus, the heart of the elven forest. Looking aside, she silently reflects on Lily's tragic fate. The carriage pulses with a dark energy as the elder decides to purify Lily from the effects of the demonic baptism. Fearing the child could become a disaster for the world in Cyprus, elves gather near the carriage, alarmed by the demonic sword and the aura it emits. They question why the High Elder would bring such dangerous things to their sacred land. At that moment, Alina smiles radiantly and runs over, relieved that everyone arrived safely. Alan rushes towards her, excited to see her again. Liam nods and says he's happy to see her, doing well. Alina admits she felt uneasy not traveling with them. Liam mentions that a certain lady had accompanied them, but is now nowhere to be seen. Alina explains that Lena's condition worsened, and she stayed behind to care for him. Liam suggests that when time allows, they should visit him. He then hands Alina a sealed object. Recognizing it, Alina clasps her hands and declares that their contract is complete. She promises to repay him one day for everything he has done. Liam smiles, showing the coins she gave him, and tells her to think carefully over the next year. Perhaps something like giving the Whitestone Guild a monopoly on the Principality's magical goods. Alina asks if he will visit her after this year. Liam seriously replies that it is possible. Pleased, she promises to achieve her goal within that time. She imagines shaking hands with the others, using the royal seal to uncover her ancestors' relics, and forming a pact with the 6 elven families. Once she gains the support of the High Council, upon her return to the capital, her preparations will be complete. Liam asks again what she officially plans to do. Alina just smiles and says she never promised anything specific. Meanwhile, Lily, now resolute, announces she is ready. The High Elder sits down beside her, gently warning that the purification might hurt but promises everything will be fine afterward. Lily, with calm eyes, says she is not afraid. She is used to pain. The elder acknowledges her courage. Liam appears and asks if the preparations are complete. The elder confirms, and Liam draws a holy sword from its sheath to be used in the ritual. They stand beside a sacred spring as the purification begins. Elsewhere, in a dark, torch-lit dungeon, a man approaches the bars. Gordon holds a luminous sphere, commenting that despite everything, the man is lucky to be alive. Inside the sphere, an image of the carriage and the group appears. Lily opens her mouth as if casting a spell. A dark-haired man stares ahead in shock, recognizing her as the child of fire. When asked for confirmation, he is told she is the one he missed. Alan and Liam are wearing masks, as the man grinds his teeth in fury, remembering how he became a test subject after that day. Gripping the bars, he is told this is his last chance. With trembling hands, he takes a red mask and is ordered to correct his own mistakes. Liam and the elf watch as Lily enters the water, moving slowly. The elven elder raises her hands and begins to chant. A spiral of green energy forms around her fingers. A magic circle forms around Lily, and the water rises. Suddenly, a wave of dark red energy erupts from her, and she screams in pain. Monica watches with concern. She had expected this outcome, but is still shocked by the intensity of the energy. The demonic energy emanates from Lily. Monica warns that the ritual will be difficult and urges patience. Dark energy pours from Lily's stomach as she screams in agony. A red cloud of mana emerges, echoing with tormented screams. The elf collapses, panting, saying that something must be done. Lin steps forward, positioning himself in front of Lily. The elf warns that the baptism can only be broken by defeating her inner demon as she speaks. The swirling red energy solidifies, and a monstrous, insect-like creature emerges. Lin unleashes his blue aura. He leaps back, then launches himself into the air toward the demon. The creature flees, leaving a trail of red smoke. Lin slices through it, trying to close the distance. As he gives chase, he mutters, bitterly, that he is tired of fighting demons. Meanwhile, Lily collapses into Monica's arms, trembling. Monica gently asks how she is feeling. Lily looks away and asks about Lin. Watching him fight, she can feel his rage. Monica explains that when a loved one is hurt, anger is a natural response. Lily listens in silence, comforted by the thought that she matters so much to him. Back on the battlefield, Lin is panting as he faces the wounded demon. Although it is weakened and slower, it still tries to escape. Drawing his sword with both hands, Lin activates his autumn energy. He runs through the heaven-shattering mind technique, a sequence he knows by heart. The demon attacks. Lin counterattacks with the first divine sword technique, delivering a powerful blow. He immediately follows up with Heaven's Vengeance. The flash of light is so intense that the girls cover to their eyes. When the dust settles, Lin stands victorious, but just barely. His body trembles from exhaustion, and pain pulses through his limbs. His sword cracks and disintegrates. He finally understands why these techniques should not be used before reaching the Wagyan level. Looking down, he spots a glowing crystal buried in the earth, the demon's core. He had been expecting this. Wielding his demonic sword, he shatters the core. Dark red energy flows into the blade, transforming it. Lin watches the change and nods in approval. Lily suddenly rushes over and gives him a tight, emotional hug. Lin tells her that it hurts and gently asks her to loosen her grip. She teases him, asking if the pain is gone. He pats her head and admits that he feels lighter inside. Later, in a forest cabin, Lin sits cross-legged in meditation, reflecting on the battle. He lets the lingering pain engrave the martial arts into his very being. He has avoided potions and healing spells to allow his body to adapt naturally. Even his internal injuries are healing on their own. Monica enters with food and asks how he is feeling. Lin thanks her, saying her care has helped. He asks about the child. Monica replies that the effects of the baptism still linger, but her recovery will be swift. Inside the sacred tree, Lily's appetite has exploded. Lin simply remarks that she has always eaten a lot after finishing his meal. He sets the tray aside and thanks the elf for her help. Monica says it was just repayment for saving her granddaughter, Alina. Lin explains that their agreement with the princess is a separate matter, and insists that he will repay the favor in his own way. Monica tells him to just focus on getting stronger, adding with a smile that she expects nothing in return. Lin offers to explore the misty forest for her. Monica is surprised that he knows, and he admits to overhearing a conversation about the forest. Lin remembers that his mist is lethal to elves but harmless to others. He confidently declares that he will go as the elf's voice echoes in the room. She says that if he is serious, she will prepare an official request and a reward. Lin dismisses it, saying he wants to repay her kindness, and doesn't need the money. Elsewhere, Leonard calmly admires the forest. Lin approaches and asks how he is doing. Leonard smiles, saying he heard about the demon's defeat from the excited princess. He notices the familiar book in Lin's hands, and laughs, asking if he's reading it again. Lin turns a page, commenting that it's full of self-praise, but it's still worth the read. Leonard remembers the battle on the frontier. He poured out all his human strength and saw his limits. He wonders how things might have been, if he had realized it sooner, a year earlier, or even 3. Leonard observes the enormous mountain wall before him and reflects. There is a different world of swordsmanship beyond this wall. He once thought he could overcome that wall and reach a new world of sword skills. Lin continues reading the old martial arts book from Mooring. He reads aloud. Even if your body feels withered and your mana core is empty, with a serious expression, he continues that your appearance is more like a corpse than a human's. The old man beside him, intrigued, asks what he means. Without looking up, Lin continues to read about his first day with a sword, a near-death experience, and how he had forgotten why he even started. All he sought now was mastery in the martial arts. Leonard, moved, begins to cry. He says that even though the words come from a different world, he understands Lin completely. Leonard then asks if he could show him his sword skills. Lin stands up, unsheathes his blade, and says he's not good enough yet, but he'll show him just this once. Pay attention. Lin positions his sword and freezes. Then, in a burst of movement, he begins to execute precise moves. Leonard, inspired, picks up a stick and imitates him, smiling. As he repeats the boy's technique, his training emits a brilliant light. Lin shields his eyes, realizing he must surpass his limits. Looking at Leonard holding his sword with confidence, Lin comments that he can't even be called an old man anymore. The scene shifts to a misty forest. Leonard swings his blade through the mist, calling out loudly for enemies to come at him. Lin warns that monsters might be attracted by the noise. Leonard is confident he will handle them all with his aura blade. Sitting on a log, Lin adds that, the deeper they go into the forest, the thicker the mist becomes. Alan agrees, saying there are no monsters around, but wishes they had a golem for security. Lin is reminded of Shin, sitting beside a tree and refusing to move until his girlfriend wakes up. There are rumors that this mist has been a nuisance for the elves, just as it has for the goblins. Lin agrees, saying that clearing it would increase their safety. Leonard suggests this could win the favor of the elves. Alan agrees it would speed up their plans. Lin nods, implying this was part of his strategy. He imagines a house built into a tree trunk and dreams of retirement in the elven forest. Alan calls him magnificent for working so hard for the princess. Leonard expresses his gratitude. Surprised, Lin asks what the princess has to do with this. Suddenly, Lin senses something. He warns of an enemy. Leonard charges forward, and Lin thinks this turn of events is rather convenient. Leonardo is facing a monster, stitched together from various parts. Lin explains to Alan that it's an elf, and the spirit stone in its chest is its weak point. He leaves the chimeras to them and turns to face the real threat. He sees shadowy figures behind the monsters, and quickly deduces the origin of the mist. Before a black-haired elf, Lin recognizes that this could be the work of the archmage Driz, a guardian of this misty forest called Mordrea. As soon as she sees him, she fires a flaming arrow. Lin dodges and closes in as she launches another attack. 3 elemental arrows. Lin deflects them with a smooth movement of his blade. Suddenly, a wave of green magic surges from behind him. Lin activates his shield ability and blocks it. Glancing aside, he comments that the original far surpasses the fakes. Remembering his past life, he recalls that Mordrea is a doll, modeled after the elf that the archmage Driz loved the most. This incident occurred thousands of years ago. She was killed by superhumans a long time ago. Afterward, the production method was leaked, allowing many copies of her to be made, but none could match the original. Lin knows that capturing her will be difficult, but it's necessary, so he uses his skills to disappear. Mordrea is astonished. In an instant, he reappears behind her and attacks. Wounded, she tries to counterattack but fails. Lin lands a direct blow on the magic stones embedded in her body. Standing before the defeated elf, Lin admits that she was tough. Alan and Leonard finish their battle. Leonard realizes that the doll was the problem. He asks if Lin really plans to take her. Lin affirms that she is too valuable to be left behind. Lin suggests that as soon as they finish here, they should visit the Guardian's place. The group heads to the Archmage's wooden cabin. From the outside, it looks like a small cabin, but inside, the basement holds great treasures. Alan rushes to the shelves, amazed by the rare magical ingredients and lost manuscripts. Lin tells him not to worry. They only need the essentials. Lin opens a small chest on the table. Inside is the Archmage's second greatest legacy besides Mordrea, spirits of various elements. They burst out and surround him. Lin thinks they will be useful if he can master their power. The spirits ask if they can live with him. Lin agrees, but demands a high rent. They happily merge into his hand. There's no external change, but he feels their energy within. Leonard asks what just happened. Lin plays it down and encourages them to collect what they need. Afterward, they must destroy the fog's magic circle. Night falls, and the fog dissipates. The group crosses the forest. Leonardo observes the clear weather. Suddenly, Lin stops, noticing a strange reaction from a purple orb in his hand. He signals for silence, covering his mouth. He tells everyone to stay quiet, and not to come closer. On the glowing surface of the magic sphere, a figure wearing a goblin mask appears. Lin is confused because he has no idea who this guy is. The voice from the magic sphere speaks again, asking who he is, and demanding to know the whereabouts of Goldmary. Lin is frustrated and wonders if this is the one the lady warned him about. He turns his attention back to the glowing orb. The man in the goblin mask narrows his eyes and asks what Goldmary could have said about him. Lin responds to the magic orb, introducing himself as Ansar and claiming to be a member of the Randall Thieves Guild. Acting on Goldmary's orders, he explains that he is tracking the group responsible for destroying the guild's headquarters. He continues, reporting that the fleeing enemies crossed the border using the last surviving steel carriage. The man with the goblin mask questions if that carriage could really be the one. Lin confirms, describing its unusual structure, something not easily found elsewhere, and mentions that it is pulled by an iron horse, a massive one. Upon hearing this detail, the man in the goblin mask remembers that the Thieves' Guild had burned to ashes. This confirms to him that the report is accurate, and that it was wise to maintain contact through a magical bond. A moment later, the voice from the orb asks directly if Lin is traveling with a red-haired girl. Lin thinks to himself that as he suspected, the man is looking for Lily. The goblin mask speaks again, asking for the group's current location. Lin tilts his head and explains that they are somewhere in the central mountain range. Although he cannot provide exact coordinates, he left in a hurry, without a map or compass, and simply traveled as fast as he could. The man in the goblin mask becomes irritated and reminds Lin of just how huge the central mountain range really is. Despite his irritation, he instructs Lin to continue the pursuit and states that he will make contact every day at the same time. Lin suggests that a problem might prevent further communication. Curious, the goblin mask asks what he means. Lin squeezes the magical artifact tightly until it begins to crack. He calmly states that the crystal was damaged during the chase, and says he cannot guarantee he will be able to receive the signal tomorrow. The man in the goblin mask slams his hand on the ground in frustration and demands to know what Lin just said. He asks if there is another communication sphere available for contact. Lin replies indifferently that a simple thief would not possess a spare of such a rare and expensive item. He adds that he has nothing in his pockets and apologizes with false regret. The man in the goblin mask looks at the artifact and considers that their group might have intentionally announced a fake route towards the Kingdom of Peru to deceive their pursuers. If the narrative was fabricated from the beginning, tracking them becomes almost impossible. At this point, Ansar seems to be their only link to discover the whereabouts of the Child of Fire. The man in the goblin mask grinds his teeth and concludes that regardless of the circumstances, the boy must be eliminated. He vows to alert the organization and treat this as an emergency. He instructs Lin to listen carefully and explains how to contact the organization. Lin listens in silence and then asks if the masked man could finally tell him who he really is, since he still does not know his name. In his mind, the man in the goblin mask calls him insolent and declares that someone like him has no right to ask for a name. He then decides that the boy's eventual death will be especially painful. The masked man finally speaks again and says his name is the Red Goblin. Just that he insists, and it should be enough. Lin repeats the name back to him. With that, he crushes the artifact in his palm and calmly announces that he will make contact next time. Moments later, Lin awakened Mordre, using the tattoo spirit recovered from the Archmage's cabin. He asks her to accompany them to the elf settlement by the shortest route. Upon arriving, a grand elf festival is underway. An elf approaches Lin. Smiling with gratitude, he thanks Lin for having awakened his daughter and for allowing him to see his son's face for the first time in over 100 years. Another elf expresses her thanks for saving her husband. Lin dismisses them, saying they should enjoy themselves, because he is very tired and wants to rest. The elves present him with numerous beautiful gifts, and he observes them confused, not knowing what half of them are. As he examines the items, Monica approaches him with an understanding smile. Monica comments that this is simply the people's reaction after the cursed forest was cleansed. Lin sits down next to her and says he is in her debt for saving the little girl. Monica admits that this is true, but also reminds him that he altered Alina's destiny. Lin agrees and reflects that Alina would never have reached this place without his help. Monica now looks ahead with a serious gaze and explains that she can read the essence of all living beings. She can only observe and never interfere. She turns to Lin and says that, curiously, his fate remains hidden from her eyes despite this. She has seen many fates change around him. Lin averts his gaze, suspecting the reason lies with the tidal clock. He wonders aloud what Monica's conclusion might be, asking if she expects him to just stand by idly. The elf laughs and tells him that nothing of the sort is expected. She believes he is a good person and appreciates the changes he brings to the world. She expresses her hope that he will continue changing lives. Lin turns away, clearly agitated, and states that it's not that difficult. All that is necessary, he says, is to do what feels right. The unfamiliar sensation that follows catches him by surprise. He gets up from his seat and gathers the gifts. Monica watches and asks if he is leaving already. Lin explains that a hungry fate may already be chasing the girl, and he must go help change it again. Monica remains seated, silently watching her friend's departure. A gentle green energy moves around her, and she turns to her companion. She asks Brachas what he thinks. He responds that just as she said, the boy is interesting and worth meeting again. Moments later, Lin is relaxing on a lounge chair, noting that they have stayed in the elven forest for too long. He imagines the elves building a village in the treetops based on his wish list, and decides he can't leave without seeing the result. Mordria is nearby and recommends that he must return to his world within 1 month at most, interrupting all his plans. Outside the window, Lily's cheerful voice echoes as she shows off a paintbrush in her hand, proud to have mastered a technique. Lin comes out and praises her careful work. He tells them to clean up while he loads the luggage. Someone notices the state of the carriage wheels and suggests finding another one. A nearby sorcerer wonders if arranging the carts by size might help, but Leonardo explains that the cart is already full. Behind them, the princess declares that there is still more luggage. An elf hands him a bottle of alcohol, made by her family, explaining its importance. Another elf insists that he also take the spirit stone. Lin thanks them, but says it's too many gifts. He promises to accept the rest on his next visit. Then, Lin tells his team to unload half of the luggage. The group reacts with shock, protesting that they packed everything very carefully. The continuation of this video is already up on my new channel. The link will be in the pinned comment for anyone who wants to keep watching.